Chapter 28. You can call me Qing Menjing or Miss Cheng. We are not very familiar with each other yet, Qing Menjing said indifferently on the surface, but she was extremely disgusted in her heart. She hated Xiao Chen again. You bastard. You're causing trouble for me on your first day of school. You even made me put on an act and ask Lu Jinming to think of a solution for you. You're pissing me off. If it weren't for the fact that you are so pitiful because of the Qing family, I wouldn't care about your life or death. Do you think you are still the old Xiao Chen? You provoked Lu Jinming as soon as you went to school. Let him beat you first. Then I will ask for mercy. It is a lesson for you. Okay, then I will call you Qing Menjing. Lu Jinming thought that Qing Menjing meant that he could call her Menjing after they were familiar with each other. He was very happy. The afternoon passed by quickly. What was to come would eventually come. After the evening self-study session, Lu Jinming found Xiao Chen again. Xiao Chen, you have nothing to say this time, right? Now that there are no more classes and school is over, can you come with me? Because of Qing Menjing's observation, Lu Jinming's mood was much better. His tone to Xiao Chen was not as harsh as before. Let's go. Where are we going? Since Xiao Chen had made a decision, he naturally didn't talk nonsense with Lu Jinming. He stood up directly. You won't know where to go even if I tell you. It is your first day here. Just follow me. Lu Jinming naturally couldn't say that they were going to the gymnasium. There were many people in the classroom. If others knew that he was going to the gymnasium, they might be suspicious. How could Lu Jinming get the key to the gymnasium? After school, other than the sports clubs that sometimes trained in the gym was always locked. Isn't it just going to the stadium? Why are you being so mysterious? Let's go. I know him. Zheng Xiaoquan stood up lazily and followed behind Xiao Chen. Xiao Chen was touched by Zheng Xiaoquan's action. Whether it was because of Tang Tang or the seafood at noon, at least Xiao Chen remembered Zheng Xiaoquan's favor. Originally, Xiao Chen thought he was down and out, and only Zhu Yingxiong stayed with him. Unexpectedly, he met two like-minded friends, Tang Tang and Zheng Xiaoquan, when he just transferred to the No. 2 middle school. Zheng Xiaoquan? Why are you joining in the fun? When he saw Zheng Xiaoquan stand up, Lu Jinming frowned and said, It's none of your business. Go away. Lu Jinming, isn't it because of the lunch at noon? I ate too. Zheng Xiaoquan said, If you think it's too much, how about I treat you to a banquet one day? Damn it, you treat me? Who do you think you are? Lu Jinming was a little angry. Usually he would give face to Zheng Xiaoquan. Although the Zheng family was down and out, Zheng Xiaoquan was a warrior, and his strength was slightly higher than Lu Jinming's. Therefore in school Lu Jinming tried not to conflict with Zheng Xiaoquan. Even a rabbit would bite when it was anxious. It was not worth it if he was beaten by Zheng Xiaoquan. But today, because Qing Menjing was watching, Lu Jinming wanted to show off in front of Qing Menjing. If he just played it down, where could he find such a good opportunity to show off? If he didn't trample on others, how could he show his dominance? Lu Jinming, did you get shot? It seems that you don't even want to give face to me, Zheng Xiaoquan. I was kind enough to be a peacemaker. Since you don't know what's good for you, then I will go with Xiao Chen to see what tricks you can play. Zheng Xiaoquan said coldly. Although his Zheng family was now in decline, it was also at the mercy of others. Zheng Xiaoquan's words immediately made Lu Jinming frown. Although the Lu family was strong now, if the Zheng family went all out, the Lu family wouldn't have it easy either. In the beginning, if Zheng Dao of the Zheng family wasn't injured, and the Zheng family wanted to preserve their strength, so they took the initiative to give up their territory and aristocratic family position. They wanted to fight the Lu family to the end. Although the Lu family would win in the end, they wouldn't be as glorious as they were now. Not to mention the aristocratic family position, they wouldn't even be able to keep their current territory. After all, if they fought to the death with the Zheng family, the Lu family's strength would also be greatly damaged. How could they make those small gangs listen to the Lu family? However, although Lu Jinming was angry, he couldn't directly fall out with Zheng Xiaoquan. He could only take a deep breath and think of countermeasures in his heart. He wanted to see how he could stop Zheng Xiaoquan from making a move. Lu Jinming led the way in front, Xiao Chen and Zheng Xiaoquan followed behind, and Ma Jingang and the thin monkey-like man were at the back. Not far away, the people who followed were Qing Menjing and Tang Tang. Although Tang Tang didn't follow directly because she was worried, she followed far behind. Qing Menjing was nominally going to watch Lu Jinming teach people a lesson, so she naturally followed behind. Tang Tang noticed Qing Menjing, and Qing Menjing also noticed Tang Tang, but they weren't familiar with each other. Because Tang Tang became friends with Xiao Chen, she didn't have a good impression of Qing Menjing, who broke off their engagement. Soon the group came to the gymnasium in the northeast corner of the school. At this moment, the gymnasium was dark. Ma Jinggang took out the key, opened the door skillfully, and turned on the lights of the gymnasium. Tang Tang saw that Qing Minjing also walked into the gymnasium, and then stood next to Lu Jinming. She couldn't help but frown. Why does it seem that Qing Minjing and Lu Jinming are on the same side? Could it be that Qing Minjing asked Lu Jinming to teach Xiao Qian a lesson? Isn't she too bad? Thinking of this, Tang Tang hated Qing Minjing. A woman's heart is the most vicious. He is your former fiancé. However, Tang Tang forgot that she was also a woman. She also hated her fiancé, Yu Xiaochuan. If there was a chance, she wouldn't hesitate to beat Yu Xiaochuan. However, in Tang Tang's view, Yu Xiaochuan was a hypocrite full of evil tricks, while Xiao Qian was much more real. Bang! The door of the gymnasium was closed. Because the windows of the gymnasium were very high, Tang Tang could only see the lights in the gymnasium, but she couldn't see the scene in the gymnasium. She could only eavesdrop at the door of the gymnasium, but unfortunately she couldn't hear anything. In fact, seeing that Jing Xiaoquan and Tang Tang came over, Miss Cheng was a little surprised. She really didn't think that Xiao Qian would be so popular that the eldest daughter of the Tang family and the eldest son of the Zheng family would stand up for him. However, the identity of these two people was not much better than Xiao Qian now. They were extremely down and out. Xiao Qian, do you know why I asked you to come here? Lu Jinming glanced at Qing Minjing and then began to pretend. He took out a toothpick and put it in his mouth just like a gangster boss in the movies. Okay, Lu Jinming, stop pretending. If you have the ability, smoke a cigarette in your mouth and take a toothpick to pretend. Xiao Qian didn't speak, but Jing Xiaoquan said first, didn't I say that? You want to count, I'm here. Isn't it just abalone and lobster at noon? I'll invite you back another day. You. Lu Jinming was very angry. It was not that he didn't want to smoke, but he had quit smoking. It should be known that smoking was very harmful for warriors. In order to practice, he changed to pretend to be cool with a toothpick. But Jing Xiaoquan actually asked him to smoke. Wasn't it a trap? Okay. Then let's forget about the matter at noon. How about the matter of him scolding Ma Gangmen in the morning? Lu Jinming took a deep breath. He knew that Jing Xiaoquan was pestering him endlessly, but he had no way to deal with it. After all, Jing Xiaoquan also ate the lunch at noon. Or you can ask Ma Gangmen to scold him back. Jing Xiaoquan made it clear that he was here to smooth things over. Damn it, scold him back? If you kill me, will I be able to kill you back? It's useless to say these things. Besides, he scolded Ma Gangmen, not me. Ma Gangmen has the final say on how to teach him a lesson. After that, Lu Jinming glanced at Ma Gangmen next to him and winked at him. Well, Xiao Qian, I, Master Ma, will not make things difficult for you. Let's have a fight. No matter who wins or loses, we'll forget about today's matter. How about it? Ma Gangmen said, the standard of winning or losing is that one person beats the other until he kneels and begs for mercy and licks the leather shoes. Then he wins. Of course, in order to prevent you from kneeling and begging for mercy and licking the leather shoes, there is a time limit. You can only admit defeat after 10 minutes. Otherwise, even if you are beaten to the ground, you can only accept it. How about it? Lu Jinming, do you think this is fair? Jing Xiaoquan asked, how about I go up and fight with Ma Gangmen? F***ck off. Jing Xiaoquan, I have already given you a lot of face. Lu Jinming snorted coldly and said, it's none of your business. In the morning, the person who scolded Ma Gangmen was Xiao Qian, not you. However, if you kneel on the ground and kowtow to me 3 times, and then lick the dust on my leather shoes, then I will let Xiao Qian go. How about it? Can you do it? You? Jing Xiaoquan was very angry with Lu Jinming. This was a naked humiliation. Although Jing Xiaoquan was very worried about Xiao Qian, it was absolutely impossible for him to kneel. If he kneeled, it represented the Zheng family's compromise with the Lu family. From then on, the Zheng family's only territory would be given away. Lu Jinming had a good plan. If Jing Xiaoquan kneeled today, although Lu Jinming could not teach Xiao Qian a lesson and could not win Qing Minjing's heart, the Lu family would get too many important things. Compared with this, he would rather postpone his own plan. What about me? I'm already very fair. Xiao Qian provoked Ma Gangmen. He and Ma Gangmen have a one-on-one fight. I did not bully him with more people. What else do you want? After Lu Jinming finished speaking, he turned to look at Qing Minjing and asked, Goddess Qing, do you think it is fair for me to do this? Gong, ping. Qing Minjing had no choice but to say that it was fair. However, she had already decided that when Xiao Qian was beaten down, she would come forward to plead. Did you hear that? Jing Xiaoquan, Xiao Qian, Qing Minjing just transferred here today. It is impossible for her to be with me. She said that it is fair, then it is very fair. Lu Jinming said. Chapter 29. Okay, don't be angry. Xiaoqian patted Jing Xiaoquan's shoulder. Jing Xiaoquan could do this today and Xiaoqian was very grateful. I agree to your condition. I will fight with Ma Chang. Good, you are very good. When Lu Jinming heard Xiaoqian call Ma Gangmen Ma Chang, he was angry and laughed. Later, let me see if you can still say the word Ma Chang. You brat, remember, your master Ma is called Ma Gangmen. Ma Gangmen began to move his body and rubbed his palms. In his opinion, it was okay for Xiaoqian to be stubborn now. Later he would kneel and cry. Got it. Anus bootlicker. Xiaoqian nodded. Ma Gangmen, let's start. Don't talk to him about those useless things. Lu Jinming waved his hand and ordered Ma Gangmen directly. Okay. Ma Gangmen laughed sinisterly. His iron tower-like body walked towards Xiaoqian step by step. In his eyes, Xiaoqian's physique was no more than that of a little chick. Beating him up was a piece of cake. Jing Xiaoquan saw it and was anxious. If Ma Gangmen really started, 10 minutes was enough to beat Xiaoqian until half of his body was paralyzed. At that time, everything would be too late. If something happened to Xiaoqian, how could he explain it to Tang Tang? At that time he could guarantee it. Wait. Jing Xiaoquan gritted his teeth and made a decision. This decision was for Tang Tang. He could see that Tang Tang was very worried about Xiaoqian, so he didn't want Tang Tang to be sad. I can kneel, but this kneel only represents myself. Jing Xiaoquan's words stunned everyone present. Lu Jinming was stunned, Missy was stunned, and Xiaoqian himself was stunned. Lu Jinming really didn't expect that Jing Xiaoquan would compromise for an outsider. What's more, Missy didn't expect that Xiaoqian's popularity was so good. Only Xiaoqian seemed to vaguely understand something. Although Jing Xiaoquan was loyal, it was definitely not to the extent that he would make such a sacrifice for a lunch. All of this might be because of Tang Tang. But regardless of whether it was true or not, Xiaoqian was very grateful and touched. Jing Xiaoquan, the Jing family, he would remember this. He would never forget this favor. When he was at his lowest, when he was just an ordinary person, Jing Xiaoquan helped him. Too late. Now that the duel has begun, it's useless no matter what anyone says. Lu Jinming was not stupid. Jing Xiaoquan said that this kneeling was only on behalf of himself, which meant that it had nothing to do with the Zheng family. Then what was the use of this kneeling? Naturally, Lu Jinming would not agree. However, in order to prevent Cheng Menjing from thinking that he was going back on his words, he used the excuse that the duel had already begun. Thank you. Xiaoqian smiled at Jing Xiaoquan and said, in a while, it's not certain who will kneel and beg for mercy to lick the leather shoes. It's a pity that I'm wearing sneakers today. It's a little difficult to lick them clean. Puff. After listening to Xiaoqian's words, Jing Xiaoquan could not help but feel happy. He did not expect Xiaoqian to be so optimistic. However, he also decided that if Xiaoqian could not do it, he would force himself to stand up for him. Don't say those useless things. Hurry up and start. Lu Jinming was now looking forward to the scene of Xiaoqian's blood flowing like a river. He could not wait to shout. Boom. A bloodthirsty light flashed in Ma Gangmen's eyes. He punched out fiercely and hit hard at Xiaoqian. Ma Gangmen punched mercilessly. As long as he punched, he would beat Xiaoqian to death. How dare he give Ma Gangmen a nickname? He really did not want to live. Pa. However, after Ma Gangmen punched out, he found that something was wrong. He didn't feel the refreshing feeling of hitting the enemy. Instead, it was like hitting an iron plate. Ma Gangmen took a closer look. His fist was actually caught in Xiaoqian's hand. **MN, this kid's reaction is quite fast. He can actually block my punch. Ma Gangmen had some underestimation in his heart, but this kid's strength was also quite great. He blocked my punch with his palm? However, Ma Gangmen did not mind. Sometimes, fighting required skills. It was not something that could be achieved with brute force. Previously, when he punched out, he rubbed his palms together. It might have made Xiaoqian take precautions, but it would not happen the next time. Thinking of this, Ma Gangmen suddenly pulled back his fist. He wanted to punch Xiaoqian again, and then give him a left and right combo to see if he could still resist it. However, the next moment, Ma Gangmen was a little anxious because his fist was caught by Xiaoqian's palm. He wanted to pull back, but he could not. Let go of me. Ma Gangmen suddenly increased the strength of his hand. He wanted to pull his fist back, but he found that his fist in Xiaoqian's palm did not move at all. Seeing that his right hand really couldn't be pulled out, Ma Gangmen had no other moves. He could only punch out his left fist. In his opinion, as long as Xiaoqian defended his left fist, he would definitely relax his vigilance. He could also take the opportunity to pull out his right hand. However, the idea was beautiful but the reality was cruel. When Ma Gangman's left hand was also caught by Xiao Chen, he found that he was in a tragedy. Both of his hands couldn't move. How could he still fight? Ma Gangman, what are you playing? Do you think it is a competition of internal force between masters of internal force? Lu Zhiming didn't experience it personally. It was hard to imagine that Ma Gangman was restrained by Xiao Chen, so he frowned and shouted, "Hurry up and beat him down. Stop playing." However, not far away, Jing Xiaoquan's mouth flashed a smile. The Xiao Chen hit it quite well. Well, it shouldn't be said that he hit it quite well, because Jing Xiaoquan could see that although Xiao Chen was better than Ma Gangmen, Xiao Chen was definitely not a martial artist. He did not use internal force. In other words, he was not even a master of internal force level 1. This showed that Xiao Chen was probably very strong. He was born with divine power. If such a person cultivated internal force, his future would be limitless. Ma Gangmen couldn't say it. If he said that he was restrained by Xiao Chen, wouldn't he be a joke? He was a fighter under Lu Zhiming, but he was actually restrained by a thin transfer student. If this news spread out, not only Ma Gangman's face would be lost, but also Lu Zhiming's face. Bang! Just when Ma Gangman was still thinking about how to get out of this predicament, Xiao Chen made his move. To be exact, it was a kick. Xiao Chen kicked Ma Gangman's crotch. Ma Gangman let out a loud ouch. His whole body was in so much pain that he jumped up. Then, his forehead became drenched in sweat. Although Xiao Chen was a cultivator at the first level of the refinement stage, he still kept the playboy method of teaching others a lesson. He directly greeted the opponent's most vulnerable place. However, at that time, it was usually Qin Jinping who restrained the opponent, and then Xiao Chen would make a move. After kicking Ma Gangman's penis, Xiao Chen also loosened his hand. Ma Gangman directly knelt on the ground in pain. He covered his crotch with both hands and it was so painful that he wanted to die. This scene, except for Jing Xiaoquan who had expected it, Lu Zhiming, the thin monkey-like man, and Cheng Menjing all widened their eyes. Lu Zhiming never thought that the person who knelt on the ground would be Ma Gangmen, and it was so fast. Cheng Menjing knew Xiao Chen's means of playing tricks on people. Kicking the enemy's crotch? In the past, Cheng Menjing was a little ashamed of this. She felt that Xiao Chen was completely relying on Qin Jinping. If she let him fight the enemy by himself, let alone kicking the enemy's crotch, she estimated that he would not even be able to touch the enemy's body. But today it completely subverted Cheng Menjing's cognition. Xiao Chen actually beat Ma Gangmen to the ground? This guy is so powerful. I was worried about him and tried to help him plead. If it weren't for him, I wouldn't have talked so much nonsense with Lu Zhiming. I'm so angry. Xiao Chen, you wait for me. This trick, I learned it. Wait for me to kick your crotch. However, thinking of this, Cheng Menjing's face suddenly turned red. Although Lu Zhiming had been paying attention to Ma Gangmen and Xiao Chen, he was also paying attention to Cheng Menjing from the corner of his eyes. He saw that Cheng Menjing's face turned red after Ma Gangmen was knocked down. He thought that Cheng Menjing was excited to see a hot-blooded scene. It turned out that Cheng Menjing really liked hot-blooded violence, but it was a pity that the person who was knocked down today was Lu Zhiming's man. In this way, Lu Zhiming's level would probably plummet in Cheng Menjing's heart, right? Thinking of this, Lu Zhiming had a burst of irritation for no reason. He shouted at Ma Gangmen, "Are you dead? If you're not dead, get up and beat him up." In fact, there was no need for Lu Zhiming to say this. Ma Gangmen was already furious. When had he suffered so much? He hated it. How was it possible? How could Xiao Chen be so powerful? Ma Gangmen endured the pain, put his hands on the ground and prepared to get up. However, what he didn't expect was that Xiao Chen went behind Ma Gangmen and kicked Ma Gangmen's buttocks. Boom! Xiao Chen's foot directly kicked Ma Gangmen's anus. Ma Gangmen hadn't gotten up yet. With a ow sound, his whole body flew forward and fell heavily on the floor of the gymnasium. His nose was bleeding and it flowed everywhere. Wah-ya-ya-ya-ya. Ma Gangmen's anus was almost dislocated by Xiao Chen's kick. He struggled on the ground in pain. His eyes were red and he wanted to kill Xiao Chen, but he couldn't get up. Boom! It was another kick. Xiao Chen directly stepped on Ma Gangmen's head, and his head, which had just been raised, was directly in close contact with the ground again. This time, not only Ma Gangmen's nose was bleeding, but even his mouth was bleeding. His teeth knocked on his lips. Not only did his lips break, but several teeth were also knocked out. Brother G, oh no, Brother Si, how do you feel? The sole of Xiao Chen's shoe stepped back and forth on Ma Gangmen's face, making Ma Gangmen unable to speak. He could only make woo-woo sounds. Chapter 30. Well, Xiaoqin, we admit defeat this time. Lu Zhiming did not expect that things would develop to this point. Ma Gangman's strength was relatively top-notch among aspiring martial artists. In Lu Zhiming's opinion, as long as he practiced for a while, he could successfully break through and be promoted to the first stage of inner energy. However, he did not expect that such a powerful character would be beaten by Xiaoqin, a country bumpkin without any power to fight back. Moreover, according to Lu Zhiming's observation and perception, Xiaoqin was not a martial artist because he did not have inner energy. He was so powerful, which could only be attributed to his greater strength and agility of his body. Therefore, Lu Zhiming was quite unwilling to lose. If he was beaten by Jing Xiaoquan, then he would not have any thoughts. His strength was not as good as Jing Xiaoquan's, so he would be beaten. But Xiaoqin, an ordinary person, was so powerful. However, Ma Gangmen obviously had no chance to turn the tables. If he continued, he would only humiliate himself. Lu Zhiming simply admitted defeat. Admit defeat? We admitted defeat before, but you didn't agree. Now, according to your rules, only 5 minutes have passed. There are still 5 minutes left. It's not 10 minutes yet. How can you admit defeat? Zheng Xiaoquan unceremoniously brought out the previous rules of Ma Gangmen. Lu Zhiming looked at Zheng Xiaoquan with hatred. He was extremely angry in his heart. Damn you, Ma Gangmen were not sure, but you still had so many rules. Now you have shot yourself in the foot, haven't you? Without that diamond, how could you pretend to be so arrogant? Bang! With a kick, Xiaoqin kicked Ma Gangmen's anus again. Ma Gangmen was unreasonable before. Now, how could Xiaoqin let him go easily? It was not Xiaoqin's character to let go in the middle of the fight. Besides, even if Xiaoqin let Ma Gangmen go now, would Lu Zhiming let it go in the future? At most, they would admit defeat in a short period of time. Afterward, they would definitely want to take revenge. Therefore, Xiaoqin might as well give Ma Gang a hard blow directly, and it would be best to torture them until they were traumatized. Ouch! Ma Gangmen screamed like a pig being slaughtered. He felt that his anus was no longer his own. His anus had ruptured, and his pants were dyed red with blood. Qing Minjing really couldn't stand it anymore. Xiaoqin was too vicious, but Qing Minjing also knew that if Xiaoqin didn't beat Ma Gangmen down, the one howling on the ground would be Xiaoqin now. It seemed that although Xiaoqin was useless and couldn't cultivate inner force, his physical fitness was still very good. At least, it was much better than ordinary people. Ma Gangmen didn't expect that the 10 minutes he set to torture Xiaoqin for a little longer would become his own nightmare. 10 minutes seemed to pass in a blink of an eye, but at the moment, it became extremely slow for Ma Gangmen. Ma Gangmen was kicked to the back and his whole person was numb. He just prayed secretly in his heart. Hurry up, hurry up. Finally, the unbearable 10 minutes passed. Ma Gangmen seemed to have come down from the execution ground. He lay on the ground like a dead dog, panting heavily. Kneel down and lick the shoes. Xiaoqin looked at Ma Gangmen, and there was no sympathy in his eyes as he said coldly, Xiaoqin, that's enough. Lu Zhiming couldn't help it. Today's matter, let's write it off. Let's stop here, okay? Okay, if that's the case, then forget it. Xiaoqin nodded. With Ma Gangmen's current situation, it was impossible for him to get up and lick the shoes. He was kicked by Xiaoqin to the ground and couldn't move, and Xiaoqin didn't want to force Lu Zhiming too much. At least, Lu Zhiming said that today's matter was written off. Although his words weren't very credible, in a short time, it was estimated that Lu Zhiming wouldn't find trouble with him. This was enough. What Xiaoqin lacked the most now was time. If one day he had the strength of the Elder Heaven Ancestor, even if he faced the entire Lu family, it would be nothing. What happened today probably wouldn't be spread out. Lu Zhiming was a person who cared about his reputation. How could he casually tell others about such a thing? Zheng Xiaoquan didn't know his identity, and the Missy probably wouldn't casually say it, so Xiaoqin was still very at ease. For Xiaoqin's action of letting Ma Gangmen go, Zheng Xiaoquan nodded approvingly. Before, he taught Ma Gangmen a lesson, and he didn't completely make Lu Zhiming lose face. He was a person who knew when to yield and when to stand tall. In Zheng Xiaoquan's view, although 5 minutes and 10 minutes were very different for Ma Gangmen, there was no difference for Lu Zhiming. The person who suffered was Ma Gangmen, and the pain wouldn't be added to Lu Zhiming. But if Ma Gangmen knelt down and licked the shoes, it would be Lu Zhiming's face. Even if he endured it today, he wouldn't let it go tomorrow. Now the matter was finally over. Thin Monkey opened the door. You take Gangmen to the hospital. I will take Miss Cheng home. Lu Zhiming's face was very gloomy. Today's matter was beyond his control. He had to calm down. Yes, Brother Ming. Thin Monkey quickly ran over and opened the door of the gymnasium. However, when the door was opened, he didn't expect to see Tang Tang standing at the door. Thin Monkey was stunned, but he didn't say anything and let Tang Tang rush in. Tang Tang saw the intact Xiao Chen and Ma Gangmen lying on the ground. She was suddenly stunned. She looked at Jing Xiaoquan with some astonishment. You did it? It was Xiao Chen? Jing Xiaoquan smiled bitterly. I was just a bystander. Don't say that. Thank you for today's matter. Xiao Chen patted Jing Xiaoquan's shoulder and said solemnly. Skinny Monkey walked over and lifted Ma Gangmen up. Then he quietly walked out of the stadium. In the past he often did this kind of thing. However, the people he carried out were usually people who had been beaten up. Then he would throw them into the hospital and not care about them anymore. But today the person he carried was his brother, Ma Gangmen. Qing Menjing, it's late. Shall I take you home? Lu Zhiming took a deep breath and made a gesture of invitation to Qing Menjing. He said eagerly. No, there is a car to pick me up. Qing Menjing shook her head. Well? Lu Zhiming didn't doubt it. After all, with Qing Menjing's identity, it would be strange if she didn't have a car to pick her up or drive her own car. So Lu Zhiming didn't insist. He nodded and said, See you tomorrow? After Lu Zhiming finished speaking, he quickly chased in the direction where Thin Monkey left. He still had the means to win people's hearts. Since he didn't need to send Qing Menjing, he naturally accompanied Ma Gangmen to the hospital. As for the door of the gymnasium, he didn't need to pay attention to it. Lei Dianfeng would come to lock it at night. What the hell is going on? Why is Ma Gangmen lying on the ground? Tang Tang looked at Xiao Chen in shock. Did you do it? Well, I come from the mountains. It's normal for me to be strong. I usually fight with wild beasts, so I practice it. Xiao Chen smiled and said, I have a bit of brute force. Oh, I see. Jing Xiaoquan nodded. No wonder you are so strong and your reaction is very agile. So that's why. However, if it weren't for you, I'm afraid it would be 3 against 1. I guess it would be me lying on the ground now. Although Xiao Chen was confident to deal with 3, it was not the time to show his strength. He said gratefully, Xiaoquan, I recognize you as my brother. Ah, we are good brothers. We Tang Tang and we can become sworn brothers in the peach garden. Jing Xiaoquan laughed. Qing Menjing stood alone on the side. She didn't know why at this moment when she saw Xiao Chen, Tang Tang and Jing Xiaoquan talking and laughing, she felt very uncomfortable. Perhaps the 3 of them were from the same world and she was no longer on the same level as him? But, you are my follower, aren't you? You're too much of a bastard to leave me aside like this. In fact, Xiao Chen was wronged. I dare not disclose our relationship in the university. I think you don't want to have a poor fiancé, right? What are you still doing here? Are you disappointed that Xiao Chen wasn't beaten? Tang Tang also saw Qing Menjing and her smiling face became cold. You. Qing Menjing stamped her feet and quickly ran to the entrance of the stadium. The young lady was so angry that her chest was heaving. Yes, she was about to explode. Seeing Qing Menjing ran away, Xiao Chen sighed slightly in his heart. He wanted to chase after her, but he couldn't leave directly because of Tang Tang and Jing Xiaoquan. It seemed that Tang Tang misunderstood the young lady. Xiao Chen, do you have anything to do tonight? Let's find a place to have a drink? Jing Xiaoquan asked. Another day. I'm a little tired today. I'll go back first. Xiao Chen hesitated and refused. Who knew how the young lady was? Well, another day then. Jing Xiaoquan didn't care. So many things happened today and it was the first day that Xiao Chen transferred here. It was normal for him to be tired. However, Tang Tang pondered and puffed her cheeks. She wanted to say something but she didn't say it in the end. Instead she said, Xiao Chen, go back early. See you tomorrow? Okay. Xiao Chen nodded and quickly ran out of the stadium, chasing in the direction of the young lady. Jing Xiaoquan didn't think much. He thought that Xiao Chen was afraid of Lu Zhiming's revenge, but Tang Tang knew that Xiao Chen must have gone to chase Qing Menjing. What's so good about Qing Menjing that you're so obsessed with her? Didn't he see that she was here to watch the fun? Tang Tang was a little exasperated. However, she also understood. After all, Qing Menjing was Xiao Chen's former fiancé. They must still have feelings for each other. Damn Xiao Chen. Xiao Chen. You should have told me earlier if you were so powerful. You made me worry for nothing and talked so much nonsense with Lu Zhinming. You wait for me. I've learned it. Next time I'll kick your little brother and kick your ass. Qing Menjing walked to the door and found that she was confused. She couldn't find the way home at night and her father didn't come to pick her up. How could she go back? Chapter 31. Therefore, the lost Missy began to curse Xiao Chen at the school gate. She even mistook the stone under her feet as Xiao Chen and kicked it to death. Xiao Chen didn't actually waste much time. He ran fast. When he reached the school gate, he heard Missy cursing him. He couldn't help but have a cold sweat on his forehead. Kicking my little brother. Is it so ruthless? Cheng Menjing doesn't look like such a vicious woman. It seems that you can't judge a book by its cover. Ahem. Xiao Chen coughed twice and stood behind Cheng Menjing. Who? Cheng Menjing was shocked and quickly turned her head. When she found that it was Xiao Chen, she was relieved, but then she became nervous again. Did this guy hear the angry words I said before? If he heard it, it would be so shameful. He had even said that he was a little brother. Xiao Chen, you scared me. You come and go like a ghost. When did you come? Cheng Menjing said so, but the most important thing was the last sentence. I just came. What's wrong? Xiao Chen pretended to be indifferent, but he knew in his heart that Cheng Menjing didn't go to see him make a fool of himself, but perhaps she wanted to take the opportunity to plead with Lu Jinming. Although Xiao Chen didn't know the specific reason, he could see it from Cheng Menjing's attitude. However, Xiao Chen didn't ask. He knew that Missy did this because she sympathized with him. In addition, he was her follower. She didn't want anything to happen to him, but it was different from liking him and having a crush on him. Xiao Chen wasn't that narcissistic. Before he was kicked out of the Xiao family, Missy didn't like him, let alone now. So Xiao Chen didn't bother to ask. If he asked more, it would only increase the awkwardness, as if he misunderstood that she liked him. It was enough to know that Missy's kindness was enough. Nothing. I thought you were going to resign. Cheng Menjing snorted. I can't find my way home. I'll give you a chance to take me home. Uncle Cheng didn't come? Xiao Chen felt that Cheng Menjing was so arrogant and funny. To be honest, although Xiao Chen's memory was good, the villa was not very close to the school. Although it was only 10 minutes by car, it would take at least half an hour to walk. Of course not. If I came, I would have left long ago. Did you think I was waiting for you? Cheng Menjing said coldly. Of course, even if Cheng Zhongming came, Cheng Menjing would still wait for Xiao Chen. However, how could she admit it? Let's see if there's a taxi here. Let's take a taxi back. If we walk here, it will take at least half an hour. Don't you have a car? How can I have a car? Xiao Chen used to drive to and from school, but now that the car was taken back, he wasn't used to it. No, I used to live on campus. How can I have a car? Cheng Menjing rolled her eyes and snorted. Do you think I'm like you, Xiao Chen, driving to and from school every day? Getting a flashy sports car to pick up girls? Ahem. I don't have a car. Xiao Chen's face turned red, but he didn't know how to explain. I've decided to buy a car. In the future you will be my driver. Cheng Menjing thought about it. It was indeed inconvenient to not have a car. There was a dormitory apartment in number 1 middle school, but there was no accommodation in number 2 middle school. They were all-day students, so a car was very important. As they were talking, a taxi drove over and stopped in front of Cheng Menjing and Xiao Chen. Xiao Chen skillfully sat in the front passenger seat and let Miss sit in the back seat. The taxi driver was a little puzzled. Aren't this man and woman a couple? Why are they sitting separately? Could it be that they have a quarrel? Xiao Chen reported the address of the villa. The taxi driver saw that both of them were going to the same place. It was obvious that they were living together. They probably had a quarrel, so he said while driving, "Young man, it seems that you have a quarrel with your girlfriend, right?" Hee. Xiao Chen didn't comment because he really didn't know how to explain his relationship with Mississippi, say that he was Mrs. Manservant? Who would believe it? It was hard to believe that in modern society, there were study companions and attendants if one wasn't from an aristocratic family. Don't laugh. You have such a beautiful girlfriend, but you don't know how to cherish her. You even quarrel. Don't blame me for being talkative. I'm also an experienced person. The taxi driver sighed and said, when I was young, I also quarreled with my wife non-stop because of some trivial matters. It wasn't until the year before last that she fell ill and lay in bed in a coma. She became a vegetable. Only then did I regret it. Now, I regret that I didn't cherish the time back then. But it's all over. Don't think that I'm nagging. I just want to tell you that young people should know how to cherish. Cherish the happy times you have together. Xiao Chen was a little silent. Happy times? I don't seem to have any happy times since I was young. Since I was sensible, I suffered because I couldn't cultivate internal energy. I kept training every night. During the day, I had to pretend to be a playboy to reduce the hostility of others towards me. However, even so, I still attracted the persecution of others. It wasn't an exaggeration to say that my family was ruined. Have I ever lived for myself? The answer is no. What Xiaoqin regretted most was that he kept training at home every day, but he didn't have time to chat with his father. Now that he thought about it, Xiaoqin regretted it very much. His father was missing and he didn't know when he could see him again. Young man, have you thought it through? The taxi driver saw that Xiaoqin was silent and didn't speak. He thought that Xiaoqin had thought it through, so he said, "Then I will stop the car now. You go to the back and sit with your girlfriend." Ugh. Xiaoqin really didn't have any temper at all. I'm wronged. The miss finally couldn't help but laugh out loud. She helped Xiaoqin out of the situation. Master, thank you, but we didn't quarrel. I'm a little sleepy. I want to lie on the seat for a while. As Cheng Menjing spoke, it seemed like she was confirming her own words. She laid her body on the back seat. Since you are sleepy, young man, you should get off and let your girlfriend lie in your arms. As the taxi driver spoke, he stepped on the brakes and stopped the car on the side of the road. If Xiaoqin didn't get off, he wouldn't continue to drive. Xiaoqin had no choice but to get off and change to the back seat. However, when he got on the car, Miss Cheng glared at Xiaoqin. She had a look that said, "If you dare to touch me, I won't let you off." Fortunately, when he saw Xiaoqin get off the car and go to the back seat, the taxi driver didn't say anything more because the destination was coming soon. After getting out of the car, Xiaoqin originally wanted to pay the fare, but the young miss rushed to pay the fare first. Clearly, she also considered Xiaoqin's current financial situation, so she didn't force him to pay. Buy a car? I must buy a car. The miss made up her mind. If I am always misunderstood, what can I do in the future? It was already dark, but the lights on the first floor of the villa were on. Obviously, Yi Xiaoya was on the first floor. Xiaoqin and Cheng Menjing entered the villa together and saw Yi Xiaoya was busy in the villa's kitchen. She should be making dinner. The miss suddenly realized that she hadn't had dinner yet. In the past, when she was at school, she always ate in the school cafeteria. Today, because she went to see Xiaoqin, she missed the cafeteria's opening time. When she got home, she found that she was hungry. Xiaoqin, go and get something to eat. The miss ordered Xiaoqin. Get something to eat? Where can I get something to eat at this time? Xiaoqin was not hungry. Before the evening self-study class, he ate a few flour rolls bought by Tang Tang and the lobster and abalone left at noon, but the miss seemed to have eaten nothing. Left with no choice, Xiaoqin could only go to the kitchen to see if he could discuss with Yi Xiaoya and share some food with the Mississippi, pushing open the sliding glass door of the kitchen. What made Xiaoqin frown was that he didn't smell the fragrance of cooking, but a strong smell of boiling medicine. Xiaoqin couldn't help but sneeze. Yi Xiaoya turned back and glanced at Xiaoqin coldly, saying, I'm going to use it up soon. You can have it later. Well, I just want to ask, is there anything to eat in the villa, or do you have extra dinner? Xiaoqin said. He didn't know what disease this cold girl had, that she actually brewed such a big pot of Chinese medicine. No. Yi Xiaoya coldly pointed to a few clay pots on the kitchen stove and said to Xiaoqin, These pots are for me to boil medicine. They can't be touched with meat or fish. If you want to cook, buy your own cooking utensils. After that, Yi Xiaoya ignored Xiaoqin, turned off the fire, poured the boiled medicine soup into a big bowl, and then carried it out of the kitchen and went straight upstairs. Xiaoqin shook his head. It was really boring to get along with such a cold neighbor. But there was no food at home, so Xiaoqin couldn't do anything. He turned to the miss and said, There is nothing to eat. How about we go out to eat? It was so late. Although Cheng Menjing didn't want to go out and make trouble, there was nothing at home, so she couldn't do anything. She glared at Xiaoqin and said, You don't know how to leave some seafood for me at noon. Ugh. Xiaoqin smiled bitterly. He thought, even if I gave it to you, would you want it? With Miss Cheng's character, would she eat my leftovers? However, when they walked out of the villa, they were dumbfounded. What? Because there were no taxis in the villa area. Most of the rich people who lived here had cars. Besides, there were very few taxis in the community, let alone the villa area. However, it was 3 or 4 kilometers away from the villa area to the main entrance of the community. For Xiaoqin it was nothing, but for Cheng Menjing it was a bit far. How about, you bear with it? Xiaoqin also had no choice. The villa area was full of villas and there wasn't even a snack bar. How can I bear it? I will be so hungry that I can't sleep. Cheng Menjing glared at Xiaoqin. I won't be hungry if I sleep, said Xiaoqin. Chapter 32. You. Cheng Menjing was so angry that she wanted to kick Xiaoqin. I don't care. You're my servant. You think of a way. I'm not Doraemon. Xiaoqin was a little speechless. Why don't we walk outside? Let's go. Qing Minjing also had no choice. If she didn't walk, she couldn't let Xiaoqin carry her, right? So, the two of them walked out of the villa area together. Although there were street lights in the villa area, it was very dim. Qing Minjing didn't want to be too close to Xiaoqin, but she was a little afraid. Just after they separated, she couldn't help but get closer to Xiaoqin. Qing Minjing's heartbeat was a little faster. Today was the first time she walked with a boy at night. Moreover, this boy was her ex-fiancé. It was impossible to say that Qing Minjing wasn't nervous. He is just my follower now. What is a follower? Wherever I go he will follow. Qing Minjing comforted herself in her heart. However, halfway through Miss Qing couldn't hold on anymore. She didn't eat much at noon. She just watched the strange things happening between Xiaoqin and Lu Jinming. At night, she stood in the stadium for a long time nervously and scared. She returned to the villa hungry and cold. When did Miss Qing suffer like this? She wasn't a martial artist. After walking for about 2 kilometers she really couldn't walk anymore. She pointed to a seat on the side of the road and said, I can't. I am exhausted. I want to rest for a while. Xiaoqin, you go and wipe me. Oh. Xiaoqin smiled bitterly. He took out a pack of napkins and simply wiped the seat. Miss Qing was obviously tired. She sat on the chair and moaned comfortably. She didn't want to leave. Xiaoqin heard Miss Qing's lazy moan. His lower body shamefully had some reaction. It scared Xiaoqin and he quickly sat next to Miss Qing. He didn't dare to let Miss Qing see the flaw. This was really a bit shameful. Although Xiaoqin seemed to be a bully in number 1 middle school, he was actually a little virgin. A gust of night wind blew, and the nice fragrance of Miss Qing blew to Xiaoqin's face. Xiaoqin couldn't help but take a deep breath. His heartbeat was slightly accelerated. Xiaoqin quickly focused his attention on the night and didn't dare to pay attention to Miss Qing. The night in the villa area was quiet. Most of the villas were already dark. Only a few villas in the distance still had lights on. Looking at everything in front of him, Xiaoqin had a feeling that it was a lifetime ago. From being kicked out of the Xiao family to becoming a cultivator, and then to becoming Miss Qing's male servant. All of this seemed to be very long, but it was only 2 days. Originally, he thought that it would be easy to transfer to a new school, keep a low profile, cultivate slowly, and investigate the mastermind behind the scenes. However, he didn't expect that he would become enemies with the Lu family's children on the first day of transfer. However, Xiaoqin wasn't afraid. In the words of the elder heaven ancestor, why would a cultivator be afraid of others? It was others who were afraid of cultivators. Unknowingly, Xiaoqin suddenly heard a uniform snoring sound in his ears. He turned his head and found that Miss Qing had actually fallen asleep. Miss Qing was lying on the bench on the side of the road and fell asleep. On Qing Minjing's delicate face, there were 2 shallow dimples. With a quiet smile, Xiaoqin was a little lost in thought. This was Xiaoqin's first time interacting with the eldest miss at such a close distance. He suddenly realized that the eldest miss was really very beautiful and adorable. In the past, his gaze was always on Lin Ke and Xinjing Xian, but he had neglected the eldest Mississippi. Of course, that was just Xiaoqin's survival strategy, but at this moment Xiaoqin was really a little moved. He took off his school uniform and covered Miss Qing's body. The night wind was very cold. Xiaoqin was afraid that Miss Qing would catch a cold, but he didn't care. Ever since he became a cultivator at the first level of the refinement stage, Xiaoqin found that his physique was obviously much better than before. In fact, Xiaoqin wanted to carry Miss Qing back, but he thought that she was no longer his fiancée. Men and women shouldn't touch each other. What if Miss Qing woke up tomorrow and flipped out? Therefore, Xiaoqin decided to accompany Miss Qing here. As for Xiaoqin, he was cultivating no matter where he was. It was the same even if he was on the bench. Xiaoqin, are you tempted? Elder Heaven Ancestor's wretched voice sounded in Xiaoqin's ear. So what if I'm tempted? Now she is no longer my fiancée. Xiaoqin said with a bitter smile. You have no ambition. Don't forget what you are now. You are a cultivator, an extremely powerful cultivator. Do you still care about this? Elder Heaven Ancestor said resentfully. Hee. Xiaoqin smiled and didn't say anything. He directly operated the Heaven's stolen fortune battle art in his body and started cultivating. In the anorectal ward of the First People's Hospital of Songning City, Ma Gangmin was lying on the hospital bed. His whole body was trembling. His anus was almost kicked by Xiaoqin. He had just received 2 stitches, but after the anesthesia wore off, what followed was a heart-wrenching pain. Gangmin, how are you? Are you okay? Lu Zhiming asked Ma Gangmin, who had just finished the surgery, with a gloomy face. Brother Ming, I'm fine. I'm fine. Ma Gangmin said with a pale face. Brother Ming, we can't just let this go. Gangman was beaten like this. We have to avenge him. Skinny monkey-like said while gritting his teeth. Damn, I made a mistake today. This kid is not a warrior, but he has some brute force. It would be great if I made a move today. Lu Zhiming was very confident in his own strength. However, if I want to make a move now, I'm afraid it won't be easy. Jing Xiaoquan, that kid will definitely keep an eye on us. At least in a short period of time, we can't use this as an excuse to deal with Xiao Chen. Are we just going to let that kid go? Skinny monkey-like was unwilling. Let go? Lu Zhiming said gloomily, how can we let him go? We can't make a move, but we can find someone to do it. Don't forget what my family does. We can just find a few punks. Won't he be killed? That's true. However, if we use the people of the Lu family gang, will it be discovered by Jing Xiaoquan? Skinny monkey-like's brain was better, and he immediately found something wrong. What you said makes sense. If Jing Xiaoquan finds out about this, that guy will definitely not let it go. Lu Zhiming nodded. We are people of the underworld. We also have to abide by the rules of the underworld. If he has something on us, we won't be able to live with our face. In this way, I'll see if I can hire a few outsiders to do it. And that's the best. Even if someone dies, we can push the blame away. Skinny monkey-like agreed. Lu Zhiming nodded, and a hint of viciousness flashed in his eyes. Skinny monkey-like's words reminded him that if Lu Zhiming just wanted to teach Xiao Chen a lesson before, then now, Lu Zhiming already wanted to kill Xiao Chen. Although only a few people knew about today's incident, as long as he saw Xiao Chen, Lu Zhiming couldn't help but think of what happened in the stadium tonight. Only when Xiao Chen disappeared from his sight could he swallow this anger. Growing up in the underworld, Lu Zhiming was a little more sinister and ruthless than the other children of aristocratic families. Killing people was just a common occurrence for him. It was just that when he was in school, due to the school rules, he had never killed anyone. At most, he had seriously injured them, and all of this, under Lei Dianfeng's ingenious cover, did not come to light. After a moment of contemplation, Lu Zhiming took out his mobile phone and dialed Lei Dianfeng's phone number. Young Master Ming, the stadium has been cleaned up. Today, who was blind and went to the hospital. Lei Dianfeng had just cleaned the stadium. When he saw the pool of blood on the ground, he asked with some schadenfreude. Today's beating was quite fierce. There was so much blood. This person should at least go to the hospital. D*MN, don't mention it. The one who went to the hospital was Ma Gangmen. Lu Zhiming said in a bad tone. Today he was defeated by a country bumpkin. Lei Dianfeng was stunned, and he was a little stunned. He knew the strength of Lu Zhiming. Although not as good as him, he wasn't weak either. How could he be defeated by a country bumpkin? Isn't it unscientific? However, Lei Dianfeng still asked nervously, Young Master Ming, are you okay? If something happened to Lu Zhiming, Lei Dianfeng wouldn't be able to explain it. The meaning of his existence in this school was to take care of Lu Zhiming. If something happened to Lu Zhiming, he wouldn't be far from being laid off and going home. I'm fine. I didn't do anything. If I did, the one lying in the hospital would be the country bumpkin. Lu Zhiming was very confident in his skills. I was careless before. I thought that Ma Gangmen was enough to deal with a country bumpkin, so I let them fight one-on-one. I didn't know that the country bumpkin was born with divine strength. He didn't have internal energy at all, but he beat Ma Gangmen until he couldn't fight back. I'm really angry. I see. Lei Dianfeng was relieved after listening. Young Master Ming, you tell me. What should we do next? Teacher Lei, I want to kill him. Lu Zhiming said fiercely. Kill him. Lei Dianfeng frowned and said carefully, Young Master Ming, no matter what, this person is a student of the school. Now he just had a conflict with you and he died. If you are suspected, of course, it won't be our people who do it. Lu Zhiming said, Teacher Lei, you often play underground boxing. You should know a lot of wanted criminals from other provinces, right? Money makes the world go round. It's not like you don't know this. Okay, Young Master Ming, I know what to do. After Lei Dianfeng heard it, he suddenly realized that Lu Zhiming was smart. If it was done by the wanted criminals from other provinces, then it couldn't be linked to me and Lu Zhiming. At the same time, in a private room of a bar near First High School, Chao Yuliang was clinking glasses with Chen Jinpeng with a gloomy face. Cheng Minjing transferred to another school and Xiao Chen is her servant? Chen Jinpeng felt a little unbelievable. Where did this news come from? Chapter 33. Don't worry about where the news came from. It must be accurate. Chao Yuliang gulped down a glass of wine. He was furious. Xiao Chen is really lucky. He actually became Qing Menjing's valet. Isn't this giving them a chance to grow in love with each other? Chao Yuliang didn't understand. Why did the Qing family agree to this kind of thing? Aren't the Qing family afraid of something happening? Brother Liang, I think you are a little too worried. Qin Jinping shook his head and said, Brother Liang, think about it. Qing Menjing was Xiao Chen's fiancée in the beginning, and nothing happened between them. Now Xiao Chen has been driven out of the Xiao family, and the engagement has been broken off. It's impossible for Qing Menjing to fall in love with a waste like Xiao Chen. I think the Qing family just wants to humiliate Xiao Chen. Chao Yuliang nodded. It wasn't that he didn't think about what Qin Jinping said, but he was a little uneasy in his heart. He really liked Qing Menjing. Although it was also mixed with interest, he had to say that Qing Menjing was the first woman who made Chao Yuliang fall in love with. There is definitely no problem with Qing Menjing, but I'm afraid that Xiao Chen will become a beast. Forget it. Does he dare? Qin Jinping said disdainfully. Does he think he is still the former Xiao Chen? Since he can compromise in front of Qing Zhongming and choose to lower his head, it means that he has admitted his defeat. Besides, the love between a young lady and a follower is just a plot in novels. You and I are both from big families. Which family's children marry a servant or marry a servant? That's true. Chao Yuliang nodded in agreement. That's true. Do you think that Xiao Chen is Guru Lin in Schoolbell's bodyguard? He is a cultivator who can practice the art of dragon mastery. Cultivators are such a high-end and powerful profession. What does Xiao Chen know? How can a waste who can't even practice inner force get the favor of Qing Menjing? Qin Jinping comforted him. However, as soon as he finished speaking, he felt that he spoke too much. That Brother Liang, I mean Xiao Chen waste, not you. It's okay. Although I can't practice inner force, I am much stronger than Xiao Chen. Chao Yuliang waved his hand. He wasn't angry at this topic at all. Instead, he nodded and agreed. You are right. I was thinking too much. It is impossible for Qing Menjing to like that waste, Xiao Chen. Yes, Brother Liang, let me toast to you. Qin Jinping raised his glass to Chao Yuliang. Okay, cheers. Although Chao Yuliang said so, an imperceptible cold light flashed in his eyes. The primordial qi was circulating in Xiao Chen's body. With each circulation, the primordial qi in Xiao Chen's body became thicker. Although Xiao Chen didn't feel anything, Elder Heaven Ancestor was very surprised. I say, Xiao Chen, something is wrong. Elder Heaven Ancestor's sudden movement scared Xiao Chen, so he quickly asked, What is it now? Your primordial qi is increasing too fast, isn't it? With each circulation it increases. This shouldn't be the case. Elder Heaven Ancestor was puzzled. Logically speaking, this was an urban area. Although it was a villa area with better greenery and environment, it was far from the kind of cultivation paradise. Moreover, even in the cultivation paradise, Elder Heaven Ancestor had never heard of anyone who could practice so fast. What's wrong with that? Xiao Chen said. Wasn't it good to be fast? What he desired the most now was strength. If possible, he wanted to become a master of stage 7 or stage 8 inner force in one fell swoop. I haven't discovered it yet, but this phenomenon looks good on the surface. If we don't figure it out, who knows what will happen in the future? Elder Heaven Ancestor's voice was a little hesitant. It didn't seem like he was joking with Xiao Chen. Xiao Chen's heart was slightly shocked. Yes, although he hadn't come into contact with the profession of immortal cultivator, he had seen some similar novels or TV shows before. Generally, the evil cultivators or devil cultivators in those novels had a very fast cultivation speed, but the drawbacks were also very big. In the early stage there was no problem, but in the later stage there would be backlashes or inner demons. In short, there would be trouble. Then what did you discover? Xiao Chen asked. Not yet, Elder Heaven Ancestor said. How about, I stop practicing for now? Wait until you discover the problem? Xiao Chen was a little hesitant now. He didn't dare to joke around with his life and future. If you stop, how can I observe? Elder Heaven Ancestor said impatiently. Who told you to cultivate to the point of falling? Forget it, you continue. I don't see anything wrong with it for the time being. If there is, I will remind you. Okay. Xiao Chen actually didn't want to stop. After listening to Elder Heaven Ancestor, he also relaxed and prepared to continue practicing the mantra. However, before Xiao Chen could practice, Xiao Chen felt a soft and delicate body leaning on him directly. Xiao Chen opened his eyes subconsciously and saw that Miss Cheng had actually fallen on him, and her head was resting on his lap. This feeling was like an intimate couple, which made Xiao Chen's heart beat slightly faster. Although he also knew that Qing Menjing had fallen asleep, maybe because the back of the seat was not very comfortable, so she subconsciously lay down. It wasn't her intention, but Xiao Chen couldn't help but let his imagination run wild. Xiao Chen wasn't some righteous gentleman, but he wouldn't take advantage of others when they were down. Young Miss was willing to help him when he was in danger, so why would he do anything inappropriate to her? However, Xiao Chen wanted to help Miss Cheng up, but he was afraid of waking her up. After thinking for a long time, Xiao Chen decided to continue practicing. If he calmed down and didn't think about these things, he would naturally have a clear conscience. Xiao Chen's concentration was still abnormally strong. Soon, Xiao Chen entered the state of cultivation again and continued to practice the Heaven's Fortune battle art. When the first ray of sunlight shone on the ground in the morning, Xiao Chen also faintly touched the barrier of the second level of the Qi refinement stage. This kind of cultivation speed made Elder Heaven Ancestor speechless. It was simply incredible, although Elder Heaven Ancestor couldn't be considered a human now. In the early morning, the originally quiet corridor of the villa area began to have cars passing by from time to time. Of course, almost no one paid attention to Xiao Chen and Qing Menjing on the bench. After all, in this day and age, lovers on the bench on the street were really not good to look at. A red beetle passed by in front of Xiao Chen's eyes, but it didn't go far before it reversed and stopped in front of Xiao Chen. The window of the beetle also slowly opened, revealing a shocked little face inside. Sister Yingying? Xiao Chen? The girl in the beetle opened the door and looked at the unbelievable scene in front of her in astonishment. What are you doing? Xiao Chen was a bit embarrassed. He didn't expect to meet an acquaintance here. It was Jin Beibei Zhu Yingxiong's cousin and also Qing Menjing's cousin. She was a petite girl, but her huge breasts made her look uncoordinated. There was only one word that could describe her, namely, a childish face with huge breasts. Xiao Chen didn't know much about Jin Beibei. Although the little princess of the Jin family was Zhu Yingxiong's cousin and also Qing Menjing's cousin, in fact, the 9 generations of families were more or less related by marriage, which could only last for one generation or even several years. Therefore, even if the descendants of the families were more or less related to each other, the relationship could be ignored. However, in Xiao Chen's impression, Qing Menjing and Jin Beibei had always been close. It was just that Xiao Chen didn't have much contact with them. Qing Menjing was sleeping soundly when she was woken up by Jin Beibei's exclamation. She opened her eyes in confusion, but she didn't raise her head from Xiao Chen's leg immediately. Instead, she tilted her head, trying to see who was calling her. Holy *T. I didn't see anything. Jin Beibei was startled by Qing Menjing's appearance. She covered her eyes with her hands in amazement. Sister Menjing, you are too open-minded. You gave Xiao Chen a J on the street. But I didn't see anything. Qing Menjing had just woken up. 2 streams of saliva were still on the corners of her mouth. Coincidentally, Xiao Chen had covered Qing Menjing's body with his school uniform, fearing that Qing Menjing might feel cold. Therefore, Xiao Chen's leg was also covered by the school uniform at this moment. Such a scene would certainly make one's imagination run wild. After all, a lot of videos on the internet were similar to this, in which a girl covered her leg with a school uniform and started to do it. What? J. Qing Menjing was immediately woken up from her drowsiness. She suddenly discovered that she had fallen asleep on Xiao Chen's leg. Coincidentally, there was still saliva on the corners of her mouth. It would be strange if she was not misunderstood. Qing Menjing immediately grew anxious. How could she give that to Xiao Chen? Even if she was Xiao Chen's fiancée in the past, it was still impossible. Subconsciously, she tore off the school uniform that covered her and Xiao Chen's leg, as if she wanted to prove to Jin Beibei that she did not give that to Xiao Chen. However, although the school uniform had been torn off, Xiao Chen's crotch was a pillar that could reach the sky. Xiao Chen was a normal man. It was hard for him to stay calm when his mistress was lying on his leg. Also, it was early in the morning and Xiao Chen had not gone to pee yet. Therefore, it was a normal physiological phenomenon. However, it was different in Jin Beibei's eyes. She believed that Xiao Chen must have fastened the zipper in a hurry, but the tool of crime betrayed him. Sister Menjing is trying to cover it up. Alright, Beibei didn't see anything. Jin Beibei smiled cunningly as if she knew what was going on. Qing Menjing was so furious that she stood up from the chair and glared at Xiao Chen. What did you do to me? Chapter 34. Didn't you want to rest yesterday? But you fell asleep after resting for a while. Then you lay on my lap. I didn't want to disturb your sleep, so I didn't wake you up. Xiao Chen explained with a bitter smile. Then why did you? Qing Minjing thought for a while and realized that it was indeed the case. She was tired from walking yesterday and wanted to rest on the bench by the road for a while. Then she didn't know anything. It seemed that she had fallen asleep. However, Qing Minjing glanced at Xiao Chen's crotch. Raising her eyebrow, she snorted. "You didn't want to disturb me? Do you dare to say that you don't have dirty thoughts? It's normal for me. It's called morning erection." Xiao Chen did not know whether to laugh or cry. "All right, I should wake you up next time and take you home." At this moment, Jean Bebe finally understood what was going on. However, her big, cunning eyes kept glancing at Xiao Chen's legs. She mumbled to herself, "Why is it so big? It seems to be different from the size in the textbook. Luckily, Sister Menjing, you broke off the engagement. Otherwise, I would have ked you to death." In the beginning, Qing Minjing did not understand what Jean Bebe was talking about. Why was it so big and different from the size in the textbook? However, Qing Minjing glared at Jean Bebe angrily when she heard the latter part of her words and saw where Jean Bebe was looking at. She said angrily, "Bebe, why are your thoughts so complicated? You think about all kinds of dirty things every day. Are you blaming it on me because you want to ck me?" "Of course not. But I can try it if I have the chance. I tried the banana myself. There is nothing special. It's just like the popsicles I ate when I was little." Jean Bebe mumbled. "You." Qing Minjing was somewhat speechless about Jean Bebe. However, she suddenly remembered that Xiao Chen was still standing nearby. Recalling that she had ked him just now, she immediately blushed and coughed. Looking at Xiao Chen, she asked, "Hey, what did you hear?" Xiao Chen was dazed. "What did you say?" "Humph, at least you're sensible." Qing Minjing nodded in self-deception. Ignoring Xiao Chen, she turned around and looked at Jean Bebe. "Bebe, why are you here so early in the morning? Uncle said that you transferred to number 2 senior high school. Why didn't I see you yesterday? So this morning I plan to go to school with you." Speaking of this, Jean Bebe looked at Qing Minjing with a strange expression. "Cousin Minjing, you're so weird. You actually hooked up with Xiao Chen secretly? Didn't you hate him the most before? Don't talk nonsense. If you say anything else, I'll tell Auntie about you eating bananas. Let's see how she deals with you." Qing Minjing said angrily, "He's just a servant of mine. If I want to sleep, he has to become a bed. If I want to eat, he has to become a table." "Holy sh*t Xiao Chen's brother-in-law is a transformer?" Jean Bebe exclaimed in surprise. Xiao Chen was speechless as he looked at Jean Bebe's innocent look. However, if she really thought that she was innocent, then she would be screwed. Since she was young, the profligate young masters who were deceived by her innocent look and wanted to hook up with her were all unlucky. They were tricked by her until they hovered between life and death. Therefore, Xiao Chen decided to stay away from the little witch in case he got into trouble. Before, he was the young master of the Xiao family. If he did not mess with the little witch, he would not have been afraid of her revenge. But it was different now. He was Qing Minjing's servant. If the girl did not like him and played tricks on him, it would be an unexpected disaster. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles? What brother-in-law? Don't call me that. Hearing how Jean Bebe addressed Xiao Chen, Qing Minjing was startled. "I told you that I have nothing to do with him." Jean Bebe nodded and continued, "Oh, Xiao Chen's ex-brother-in-law. Nice to meet you." Qing Minjing did not bother to correct her. As for Xiao Chen, he had a weird feeling when Jean Bebe called him brother-in-law. Qing Minjing pointed at the back seat of the Beetle and asked, "All right, Xiao Chen, I'm going to school with Bebe. Do you want to sit in the back seat or do you want to go to school by yourself?" Looking at the narrow space in the back seat of the Beetle, Xiao Chen could not help but smile bitterly. "I'll take a taxi by myself. But you have to reimburse me." "Not yet," Qing Minjing said without thinking. How could she not know that Shen Jingxian had just given 10,000 to Xiao Chen? "Then I'd better squeeze in," Xiao Chen said and prepared to get on the car. "Stingy. Consider it a reward from me." Qing Minjing intended to whisper to Jean Bebe in secret, but she did not want Xiao Chen to hear it. Otherwise, Jean Bebe might talk too much and she might even say some dirty words which would be too embarrassing. Therefore, Qing Minjing could only take out her wallet and give a 100 yuan bill to Xiao Chen. "Is it enough for school?" "Yes." Xiao Chen nodded. The taxi he took from school yesterday only cost more than 30 yuan. "Bebe, let's go." Qing Minjing opened the door of the passenger's seat and got on the car with Jean Bebe. Watching Qing Minjing and Jean Bebe leave, Xiao Chen put the 100 yuan into his pocket and walked to the bus stop. Xiao Chen was not a real young master. He was well aware of his situation. Most importantly, the job did not pay him. The 10,000 yuan had to be used sparingly. Cousin Minjing, have you really asked Xiao Chen's brother-in-law to be your servant? Jean Bebe asked while driving. Not brother-in-law, ex-brother-in-law? No, not ex-brother-in-law either. He's just my ex-fiancé. Damn you, Bebe, I've been fooled by you. Qing Minjing was rather angry. You know that, although I hate him, he is quite pitiful. My grandfather vented his anger on the Xiao family because of my uncle. Somebody had to take the blame, didn't he? That person could only be Uncle Zhao's son. In order for him to survive, my father asked him to be my servant. Uncle, are you not scared that you will fall in love with each other after a long time? Jean Bebe asked cunningly. How is it possible? I will never fall in love with him. Qing Minjing blushed, but she said without hesitation, what I like is a real hero. He is just a useless person. However, Qing Minjing had to admit that she had misjudged Xiao Chen. From the match between Xiao Chen and Ma Gangmen the day before, she could tell that, although Xiao Chen had not reached the first level of internal force, his physical strength had already reached the limits as an ordinary person. Had it not been for his natural-born body constitution, he would have been an expert of the first level of internal force a long time ago, or even higher. Other people might not know whether or not Xiao Chen was born with extraordinary physical strength, but as Xiao Chen's ex-fiancé, Qing Minjing knew it very well. Xiao Chen was not born with extraordinary physical strength, but he had also been weak and sickly since he was a child. The strength that he had today must have been through a lot of hardships. Qing Minjing found it hard to imagine that a foppish young master like Xiao Chen would go through hardships to train himself. However, she did not say that out loud. Oh, Cousin Minjing is blushing. Jean Bebe observed carefully. Drive carefully. I don't want to be hit to death, Qing Minjing said. Jean Bebe stuck out her tongue and began to concentrate on driving. The villa area was not far from the No. 2 middle school. Therefore, the car soon stopped at the gate of the school. Then, Qing Minjing and Jean Bebe entered the school together. Lu Zhiming's expression was very gloomy. Ma Gangman's injuries were very serious, and he was still lying in the hospital. He didn't know if Lei Dianfeng had found the person who taught Xiao Chen a lesson. In short, his mood was very gloomy. What should have been a good day to pick up girls turned into a day of tragedy. He would definitely make Xiao Chen pay the price in blood. Although he had said to Jing Xiaoquan yesterday that he would let this matter go, he would definitely not let it go just like that. He would not make a move, but it did not mean that he would not secretly instruct others to do it. If Xiao Chen was killed by a fugitive from another place, it could only mean that Xiao Chen was unlucky, which had nothing to do with Lu Zhiming. Seeing that Qing Minjing walked into the classroom with yogurt and bread in her hands, Lu Zhiming sprang up from his seat and jogged to Qing Minjing with a big smile. Minjing, you're here. The yogurt and bread are nutritious but they don't taste good. How about I treat you to porridge in the cafeteria? Little Lu, you seem to be very rich. How about topping 100,000 yuan into my meal card? Jean Bebe, on the other hand, jumped out from behind Qing Minjing with a big smile. The two papayas in front of her chest shivered too, making Lu Zhiming feel a bit dizzy. Lu Zhiming's eyelids twitched, but he did not dare to appreciate the beautiful view in front of him. Cold sweat popped up on his forehead. Oh, Jean Bebe, I don't have enough money with me today. Why don't we talk about it another day? Lu Zhiming knew Jean Bebe. The girl was also from the No. 2 middle school. Although she was also the campus belle, Lu Zhiming had never thought about pursuing her. Whoever got close to such a little devil would be unlucky. It must be noted that Jean Bebe was the treasure of Grandpa Jean of the Jean family. Grandpa Jean was Gold Fur Lion, which was not a joke but a lunatic. 40 years ago, he made a name for himself in the martial world with his bare hands and established the Jean family's business. Lu Zhiming didn't want to be associated with this kind of person. If anyone dared to bully the little princess of the Jean family, the old man would directly go to the door and kill them. He would really dare to fight you to the death. It was true that there were open competitions and secret competitions among the families, but none of the families could compete with another family with everything they had. Such a self-destructive way of fighting was only harming others without benefiting oneself. However, Grandpa Jean was bold enough to do that. There was once a young master of an ancient warrior family in another province who fell in love with Jean Bebe and intended to force himself on her. As a result, Grandpa Jean slashed the young master into halves. The ancient warrior family in another province was infuriated. The leader of the family demanded the Jean family to hand over Jean Bebe and have a ghost marriage with the dead young master. However, Grandpa Jean did not do that. He simply marched to the family's door with a giant saber and told the leader of the ancient warrior family, "If you want to fight, let's fight. The Jin family is not as strong as you, but we can still cripple your family with everything we have." Chapter 35. Old Master Jin was one of those who did not care about his life. That family inquired about what had happened to the Jin family over the years and immediately gave up. Not only did they apologize to Old Master Jin, saying that it was a misunderstanding, but they also gave Jin Beibei a car as compensation. However, Jin Beibei threw the car into the garage. She still liked this beetle. She felt that a girl driving a beetle was more adorable. Although she only looked adorable, her personality was not adorable at all. After all, the deceased playboy was merely a collateral relative. It was unnecessary for the ancient warrior family to fight each other to the death for a collateral relative. Old Master Jin was a lunatic, but he was not. Therefore, the head of the family blamed the parents of the collateral relative for not educating their children well and took back all the properties of the family that they were in charge of. As a result, Jin Beibei's nickname of Little Witch became more and more exaggerated. Lu Zhenming did not think that his family was more powerful than the ancient warrior family. The Lu family was in the middle of recuperating and growing. If they pissed off the Jin family, they would be screwed. "You invited cousin Menjing to dinner just now. So you were lying to us?" Jin Beibei, however, looked at Lu Zhenming unhappily. Startled, Lu Zhenming hurried to explain, "Well, I don't need 100,000 for dinner. I mean, I don't have 100,000, but I do have enough for breakfast." "Oh, give it to me then." Jin Beibei reached out her chubby little hand that had some baby fat. Lu Zhenming secretly cursed his bad luck, but he had to take out his meal card and give it to Jin Beibei. "There are 7 or 8,000 in here. It's definitely enough for breakfast." "All right. Got it. I'll take it." Jin Beibei put the meal card into her pocket with a smile. "You can go now. However, you still owe me 93,000. The first half of Jin Beibei's words made Lu Zhenming feel relieved, but the second half almost made him stagger and fall to the ground. "Is this a scam? I just said hello to you, and you owe me more than 90,000 out of the blue." Cheng Menjing couldn't help but laugh when she saw Lu Zhenming being humiliated in front of Jin Beibei. However, when Lu Zhenming heard Cheng Menjing smile, he thought that he had succeeded in making the beauty smile. That 100,000 yuan could only be spent. In the past, there were beacons that teased the feudal lords. The purpose was to win the smile of a beauty. He didn't even need to set a fire. Just spending 100,000 yuan was worth it. Thinking of this, Lu Zhenming felt much better. When he returned to his seat, he was no longer depressed. Instead, he immediately called his father, Lu Zhenming. "Zhenming, you're not studying properly at school. Why are you calling your mom?" Lu Siwen was collecting the bills in the field. When he picked up Lu Zhenming's call, he was a little unhappy. Although his name was Lu Siwen, his words and actions were not polite at all. However, he couldn't change it, so he hoped that Lu Zhenming could be successful. "Well, Dad, I want to apply for a sum of money to pick up a girl." Yesterday, Xiao Qin cheated Lu Zhenming of more than 200,000 yuan. Today, Jin Beibei cheated him of 100,000 yuan. He was so short of money that he had to turn to Lu Siwen for help. "Pick up a girl? You're not studying properly at school. Why are you picking up a girl?" Lu Siwen was angry. "I sent you to school to study. How dare you pick up a girl?" "Well, Dad, don't be angry. Let me finish." Lu Zhenming's forehead was covered with cold sweat. "Dad, this time I'm not picking up an ordinary girl. She's a high class, F***CKU. What high class are you picking up? Study hard." Lu Siwen said angrily. "Dad, calm down. I plan to marry this girl. She is Cheng Menjing from the Cheng family. She is the one who broke off the engagement with the Xiao family." Lu Zhenming was afraid that Lu Siwen would hang up, so he hurried to explain. Although Lu Siwen hoped that his son would be successful, he was not a fool. Otherwise, he would not have cooperated with old Master Lu to make the Lu family a well-known family. When he heard that the girl Lu Zhenming was going after was Cheng Menjing, he was immediately interested. "Are you sure?" "I can't say 100%, but I'm 50% sure. Because I found that Cheng Menjing seems to like violent boys. Moreover, she also plays with Jin Beibei, a domineering girl. I think she likes to bully people, and bullying is our strength." Lu Zhenming analyzed. "Okay, how much do you want?" Lu Siwen did not intervene this time. If Lu Zhenming could really get the young lady of the Cheng family, the Lu family and the Cheng family would be in-laws. They could not get help from the Cheng family forever, but at least the Lu family would be more successful in the next few years. Can you give me 1 million yuan first? Lu Junming asked tentatively. Okay. I will ask someone to transfer the money to your card later. Lu Siwen did not hesitate this time and said directly. Lu Junming suddenly felt a little regretful. Seeing that Lu Siwen agreed to his request without hesitation, it would have been better if he had asked for 2 million yuan. Jean Bebe was not from Class 1, Grade 3. However, even if the school leaders saw her sitting next to Qing Menjing, they would not say anything. The Shen family was not willing to offend the Jean family because of such a trivial matter. However, Lu Junming was a little unhappy. With such a little devil following Qing Menjing, it simply made it more difficult for him to pursue her. If he did not know Jean Bebe's character, Lu Junming would be very happy to have her. With such a big-breasted girl by Qing Menjing's side, it would be very refreshing to have a threesome with her. However, it was obviously impossible. Unless Lu Junming was out of his mind, he would not have such a ridiculous idea. Why hasn't Xiao Qin come yet? Miss Cheng looked at the time on her watch. It had been half an hour, but Xiao Qin had not come yet. Can this guy get lost in a taxi? Cousin Menjing, are you worried about my brother-in-law? Jean Bebe was drinking papaya-flavored yogurt. Drink your papaya milk. Your breasts are almost as big as a football. Why are you still drinking? Qing Menjing naturally would not admit that she was worried about Xiao Qin. She was just afraid that Xiao Qin would get lost. Cousin Menjing is jealous and envious. Jean Bebe, however, intentionally puffed out her chest. If you don't believe me, you can ask my brother-in-law. Does he prefer my breasts or Cousin Menjing's? Who's a flat-chested girl? I'm not small either. I have a B-cup bra. Qing Menjing did not want to be outdone. Only a B-cup. I was a C-cup when I was 10, Jean Bebe said. Sooner or later, you will have to hold it with your hands when you go out. Qing Menjing was defeated. To be honest, she was indeed jealous and envious. That's fine. You have a servant anyway. Just ask him to hold it for you. Jean Bebe said unconcernedly, right, Cousin Menjing, you won't be jealous because my brother-in-law holds my breasts, will you? It has nothing to do with me even if he dies. Qing Menjing said. However, Bebe, do you know that men and women should not touch each other? You asked him to help you? I was just joking. Jean Bebe was really joking. Who would hold their breasts when they go out? However, she looked at her own size and then at the papaya yogurt in her hand. She was really afraid that such a day would come. Therefore, she directly switched her papaya yogurt with Qing Menjing's original yogurt. Let's switch. Qing Menjing did not say anything. Anyway, she did not mind Jean Bebe taking a sip. In fact, she had wanted to buy papaya yogurt before, but she was too embarrassed to let Jean Bebe think that she wanted to enlarge her breasts. Therefore, she bought the original yogurt. Therefore, the switch was exactly what she wanted. This was the first time for Xiao Qin to take a bus. The smell on the bus was really not flattering, especially the smell of chives, meat buns, and all kinds of food. However, the smell of the youtiao in the hand of a beautiful girl was quite tempting, which made Xiao Qin feel hungry. However, the place where Xiao Qin got on the bus was outside the villa area. Naturally, there would not be such a breakfast place like the morning market. As for those places named Superb Kanji Shop, which looked very domineering, Xiao Qin had no desire to go in at all. A meal there would cost hundreds of yuan. Xiao Qin had no money. When he got off the bus, Xiao Qin suddenly found that Tang Tang happened to walk over from another direction with a bag of youtiao and white soybean milk in her hand. Xiao Qin's eyes lit up, almost glowing with greed. Tang Tang. Xiao Qin waved at Tang Tang. Tang Tang looked up and saw that Xiao Qin got off the bus and did not come with Qing Menjing. She was a little surprised. From the way they walked together after school yesterday, Xiao Qin and Qing Menjing should go to school together. Why did Xiao Qin come by bus alone? However, Tang Tang somewhat admired Xiao Qin's adaptability. He could even squeeze into the bus? But thinking of the way Xiao Qin wolfed down the steamed buns yesterday, Tang Tang knew that Xiao Qin's nature was still good. At least he was not too affected by the habits of a playboy. You haven't had breakfast yet, right? I brought you youtiao and soybean milk. Go to the classroom to eat. Tang Tang shook the bag in her hand and said to Xiao Qin. Thank you. Xiao Qin grinned. He wanted to bear it and eat at noon. He did not expect Tang Tang to bring breakfast. You're so generous. I let you spend money. It's nothing. Tang Tang waved her hand indifferently. It's self-produced and self-marketed. There is no cost. By the way, why did you come by bus? Where's Qing Menjing? Xiao Qin was about to ask what self-produced and self-marketed meant, but he was interrupted by Tang Tang. So he did not ask. Instead he said, she and Jean Bebe drove here. I took the bus. They drove? Tang Tang was a little indignant. Isn't it too much? Even if you are her servant, you don't have to treat her like this. You are not the only one in the bus. Take a bus or take a taxi. I chose to take a taxi. I earned 100 yuan in fare. It's worth it. Xiaoqun explained with a smile. The young lady was still very kind. Although she was a little arrogant, she was not bad in nature. So Xiaoqun helped her to explain. That's more like it. Then you will have to pay 100 yuan every day. This month you will earn a lot. Tang Tang nodded after listening. Since you are so rich, lunch is on you. Chapter 36. Okay, I'll treat you to a buffet, a roadside noodle shop. There are enough steamed buns and rolls. Xiaoqun said. Puff. Tang Tang was quite happy when she heard the first half of Xiaoqun's words. When she heard the second half, she laughed directly. How much can a noodle shop cost? However, she was not a picky person. She knew that it was not easy for Xiaoqun to save a little money, so she did not exploit him. That's a deal. Tang Tang and Xiaoqun walked into the classroom together talking and laughing. Qing Minjing frowned. Did Xiaoqun come so late to find Tang Tang? Thinking that Xiaoqun took the money she gave him to find someone else, Miss Qing was unhappy for a while. What kind of person is he? Tomorrow I will buy a car and let you be my driver. Let's see if you still go to find Tang Tang. Miss Qing's anger also had a reason. You used to be the young master of the Xiao family. You pursued Xinjingshan and Kerlin. That was fine. But now you are not. You are my exclusive servant. You don't please me. You are around me and you even hook up with Tang Tang? Although it was difficult to be jealous of Tang Tang's current appearance, Miss Qing had seen the former Tang Tang. In the final analysis, it was Miss Cheng's under a disease. Zheng Xiaoquan also saw Xiaoqun and Tang Tang entering the door together. There was a flash of astonishment in his eyes. But when he saw the youtiao and soybean milk in Tang Tang's hands, he immediately showed a greedy expression. Tang Tang, is there a share for me? Of course, you and Xiaoqun both. Tang Tang put the youtiao and soybean milk on the table and said, eat it while it's hot. It's not a waste for me to come here. But how can I run without losing weight? That's not bad. If you become a slender beauty, I won't even dare to eat your food, Xiaoqun said with a smile. This sentence wasn't loud, but it was heard by Qing Minjing, who wasn't far away. She clenched her fists in anger. So you're ignoring me because I'm too beautiful? But it's not right. This guy used to pursue Kerlin and Xinjingshan. Yes, he must be deceiving Tang Tang. I must find a chance to expose you. Zheng Xiaoquan had breakfast in the morning, so he couldn't eat more after eating half a fried dough stick and a bag of soy milk. Xiaoqun, on the other hand, ate all the rest, which stunned Tang Tang and Zheng Xiaoquan. Dude, you have such a good appetite? Zheng Xiaoquan said in amazement. Ordinary people could not eat so much for breakfast, but Xiaoqun was simply a glutton. Xiaoqun was also a little embarrassed. He could not eat these in the past, but since he began to cultivate, his appetite had increased greatly. However, this could not be explained, so he could only say, yes, at noon yesterday I ate 4 or 5 steamed buns from Tang Tang, but I was not full. I also ate a big meal from Lu Jinming. Awesome. Zheng Xiaoquan had to say the word, awesome. He could eat too much. However, Tang Tang felt that there was nothing wrong with Xiaoqun's big appetite. In her opinion, boys should eat ravenously like Yu Xiaoquan, who ate shyly and pretended to be serious, which made Tang Tang feel very hypocritical. Looking at Xiaoqun, who was ravenously eating over there, Lu Jinming's eyes flashed a touch of malice. Eat, eat, eat. I will let you be proud for a while. Tonight, I will let you die without a burial place. Just now, Lei Dianfeng had sent a text message that the fugitives were in place. They could take action to kill Xiaoqun in the evening, which made Lu Jinming's originally gloomy mood a lot better. The morning passed by quickly. What surprised Xiaoqun was that Lu Jinming really didn't find trouble with him anymore. It was as if yesterday's matter had already passed. Xiaoqun was also a playboy before, so he had some understanding of the thoughts of these playboys. Yesterday he suffered such a big loss. If Xiaoqun said to let it go, it was really hard to believe. If he was a gentleman it would be fine, but Lu Jinming was obviously not. He was not even a hypocrite, so Xiaoqun felt that Lu Jinming would definitely not give up, but he was temporarily enduring. However, since Lu Jinming did not trouble Xiaoqun, Xiaoqun was naturally happy to be at ease. At noon, Zheng Xiaoquan turned his head and looked at Xiaoqun. I heard from Tang Tang that you will treat us at noon and take us to a buffet? Tang Tang told Zheng Xiaoquan that Xiaoqun would treat them to a buffet, but she did not say what to eat, so Zheng Xiaoquan was a little excited. Although Zheng Xiaoquan's family was not ordinary, to be honest, the Zheng family was a martial arts family. Usually, the family education was relatively strict. Zheng Xiaoquan's food and use were all in the martial arts club. He rarely had pocket money, and he usually could not eat any delicacies. Otherwise, he would not be so excited when he saw the bag of abalones that Xiaoqin brought back yesterday. "Well, let's go together?" Xiaoqin asked with a smile. "Okay, I'd be a fool not to take advantage of it," Zheng Xiaoquan said and walked out of the classroom with Xiaoqin and Tang Tang. It was hard for Qing Minjing to imagine how Xiaoqin, a young master who had lost his power, could win the favor of Tang Tang and Zheng Xiaoquan. Tang Tang's situation was similar, but Zheng Xiaoquan was different. Although the Zheng family was now forbearing, it had not been seriously damaged. The young master of the Zheng family stood up for Xiaoqin yesterday, which made Qing Minjing feel very strange. "Two beautiful girls, I wonder if I have the honor to dine with you too?" This time Lu Jinming learned to be smart. He did not say that he would treat them, but only asked if they had the honor to dine together. Qing Minjing looked at Lu Jinming, who was glued to her, and felt helpless. Suddenly, she realized that it was actually a good thing to have a nominal fiancé like Xiaoqin before. Although Chao Yuliang had expressed his love in the past, it was impossible for him to be so obvious. After all, at that time Xiaoqin was not easy to deal with. Although he did not care about his fiancée, someone pursued her in front of him. Xiaoqin must have rushed up with Qin Jinpeng and Zhu Yingxiong directly. Even Chao Yuliang did not dare to go too far because of this kind of thing. After all, there were rules among the children of the aristocratic families. It was okay to pursue a famous flower without an owner, but if you pursued someone else's fiancée blatantly, it was not only a provocation to the person, but also a provocation to the family involved. Therefore, after the Qing family broke off the engagement, Chao Yuliang began to court Qing Minjing. However, he did not expect that Qing Minjing would transfer to another school the next day. "Sister Minjing, we do need a servant to serve tea and pour water when we dine together. Since little Lu said it was his honor, why don't we give him a chance?" Jin Beibei looked at Lu Jinming with a malicious smile and said to Qing Minjing. Lu Jinming immediately shuddered. "Damn it, why are you so mean, big-breasted girl? Dining together means eating at the same table. How could you arrange the role of a servant for me?" However, Lu Jinming dared not say anything. After thinking about it, he felt that it was good enough to serve Qing Minjing. Others could not even serve him even if they wanted to. "Forget it, Beibei. We don't need a servant." Qing Minjing slightly frowned and refused. "Lu Jinming, you go ahead with your business. I have something private to discuss with Beibei. It's not good to have others around when we dine together." "I see." Hearing Qing Minjing's words, Lu Jinming had to give up and walked out of the classroom with slim monkey-like. "Cousin Minjing, why don't you let Lu Jinming be a servant?" Jin Beibei asked. "I lose my appetite just by looking at him. Not everyone can be a servant." Qing Minjing hated people like Lu Jinming very much. Although Xiaoqin used to be a foppish playboy, he did not extort or bully his new classmates. However, Lu Jinming was no longer a foppish playboy but a criminal. Unconsciously, Qing Minjing compared Xiaoqin with Lu Jinming. Even Qing Minjing was shocked when she thought of that. However, she realized that among all the foppish playboys around Qing Minjing, only Xiaoqin was slightly more normal. Damn Xiaoqin. He was kicked out of the family. Now I have no shield. That's true. Only brother-in-law Xiaoqin can be a servant, Jin Beibei said. "Beibei, will you die if you don't mention Xiaoqin?" Qing Minjing was even angrier when Xiaoqin was mentioned. "You know that's not what I meant." When Zheng Xiaoquan sat in a noodle shop with a stunned expression, he pointed at a plate of steamed buns in front of him and said, not knowing whether to laugh or cry, "Xiaoqin, you brought us a kilometer and this is what we ate. Is this self-help?" "Yes, take it and eat as much as you want. I'll take care of it," Xiaoqin nodded and said. "Oh my god, I was looking forward to it in vain." Zheng Xiaoquan looked depressed. "If I had known this, I would have gone home and eaten a boxed lunch." The Zheng family's martial arts club provided boxed lunch every day. Although Zheng Xiaoquan was the young master of the Zheng family, he did not have any privileges in the martial arts club. All the martial artists and disciples ate boxed lunch, including Zheng Xiaoquan. "Alright, don't complain. There's ramen, right? Why don't you eat ramen?" Tang Tang grabbed a steamed bun and ate it with the free pickles on the table. "You look down on me. You all eat. I'm not special." Seeing that Tang Tang had eaten, Zheng Xiaoquan also grabbed a steamed bun and ate it. "Alright, I'll take it as I ate too much yesterday. Let's eat something light today." The three of them were full for the meal and it only cost Xiaoqin 10 yuan. They also bought a few more scallion pancakes to eat during the evening self-study. How much could the staple food cost if they ate more? On the way back, Jing Xiaoquan suddenly said, "By the way, Xiaoqin, be careful. Lu Jinming is a bit sinister. I'm afraid that he won't let go of the matter of Mongang Gate. Although he promised to let it go yesterday, I'm afraid that he will settle the score later." "Well, I know. I can see that too." Xiaoqin nodded in agreement. "However, if he doesn't make a move, I can't take the initiative to find him. I can only wait passively." "That's true. It's really hard to understand. Last night, Tang Tang and I analyzed it for a long time, but we couldn't figure out the reason. We can only say that Lu Jinming wants to bully the newcomer." Zheng Xiaoquan also couldn't figure out why Lu Jinming didn't like Xiaoqin. "Hehe, I'm unlucky." Xiaoqin shrugged helplessly. Chapter 37. In an RV parked at the entrance of Songning City's #1 high school, a young man sat in the car with a gloomy face. Beside him was an unremarkable middle-aged man in a black coat. "Young master, old master has asked me to assist you," the man in black said respectfully. "Tonight Xiaoqin must die." The young man spat out these words lightly, then continued, "Don't leave any evidence. Find a place where there is no one and do it quickly." "Yes, young master." The man in black nodded. "Okay, you go and prepare, I'll leave first." The young man didn't stop and directly got out of the car, but he was a little displeased as he muttered to himself, "Xiaoqin, I didn't expect you to live after I pushed you off the cliff. This time let's see if you'll still die." As for the limousine, after the young man alighted from the car, it quietly drove towards Songning City #2 high school. Although the black-clothed man felt that there was no need for him, a martial artist at the pinnacle of level 3 inner strength, to kill a good-for-nothing with no inner strength, he naturally wouldn't say much since it was arranged by the old master. "Isn't this Qin Jinping?" Zhu Yingxiong's fat body suddenly blocked Qin Jinping's way. Zhu Yingxiong had long wanted to find an opportunity to scold Qin Jinping, but he couldn't catch his shadow. Now that he saw it, how could he let it go? "Zhu Yingxiong, what are you doing?" Qin Jinping frowned. He didn't expect to meet Zhu Yingxiong during lunch break. Although he was a level 2 internal energy martial artist and Zhu Yingxiong was just an ordinary person with less than level 1 internal energy, the Zhu family was no longer the Zhu family of the past. The Zhu family had that old master, so it could be said that the Zhu family's status was no less than the Xiao family's. Even if Zhu Yingxiong was a good-for-nothing, he could still do whatever he wanted in school, so Qin Jinping really didn't dare to hit him. "Qin Jinping, I've always heard that there is a kind of person with a rebellious bone in the back of their head. I'm wondering where this rebellious bone is located. I want to open this kind of person's skull to see. What do you think?" Zhu Yingxiong looked at Qin Jinping with a sinister smile. "Don't mess around, this is school." Qin Jinping was really afraid that Zhu Yingxiong would go crazy. "Zhu Yingxiong, don't be sarcastic." At this time, Chao Yuliang's voice suddenly sounded. Qin Jinping turned around and saw Chao Yuliang walking over. He immediately let out a sigh of relief. "Brother Liang, this fatty is threatening me." Qin Jinping was emboldened. "All right, Zhu Yingxiong, Qin Jinping is abandoning the darkness for the light." Xiaoqin didn't say anything, so why are you making a fuss? "The emperor is not anxious, but the eunuchs are anxious," Chao Yuliang said coldly. "Count yourself lucky." Zhu Yingxiong saw that Chao Yuliang had come and knew that he couldn't teach Qin Jinping a lesson. He could only shake his fat body and walk away quickly. Xiaoqin spent the whole afternoon peacefully. When school was over, Xiaoqin didn't go to Cheng Menjing and Jin Beibei. After all, he had taken the taxi fare. Walking out of the classroom with Zheng Xiaoquan and Tang Tang, Xiaoqin was going to take the bus. But when he arrived at the bus stop, he found that there was a sea of people there. It seemed that everyone had left school together. Therefore, Xiaoqin didn't plan to wait for the bus. He estimated that even if there was a bus, it would be difficult for him to get on it. If he had the time to wait for the next bus, he might have walked back. This morning, Xiaoqin felt how crowded the bus was. He almost didn't get on it. Therefore, Xiaoqin directly walked toward the villa. It didn't take long for Xiaoqin to go from noisy to quiet. Soon there was only Xiaoqin on the road. Especially the closer he was to the villa area, the fewer people there were. How many people were going to the villa area on foot? Those who walked like Xiaoqin were quite different. Someone was following him. Xiaoqin suddenly found that he was being followed. It had to be said that a cultivator's immense divine sense and mental strength were extraordinarily powerful. If it was the Xiaoqin of the past, he definitely wouldn't be able to sense that someone was following him. However, the current Xiaoqin didn't even need to deliberately sense it to be able to sense that someone was following him. However, Xiaoqin didn't know if this was based on the fact that the follower's strength wasn't very high. If the follower's strength was very high, would he still have this kind of feeling? That's right, your follower's strength isn't very high. If their strength was high, not to mention you, even I would have a hard time sensing them. After all, in your body, I can't even unleash a 10,000th of my previous strength. Elder Sky's voice suddenly rang out in Xiaoqian's mind. 1/10,000th? Can you not be so exaggerated? Xiaoqin curled his lips. Naturally, he didn't believe Elder Heaven Ancestor's words. You can feel it too? One is a Stage 3 Inner Force martial artist, and the other is a Stage 4 Inner Force martial artist at the peak of Stage 3, Elder Heaven Ancestor said. Not only could he sense that someone was following him, but he could also sense their strength. What? One is a Stage 3 Inner Force martial artist, and the other is at the peak of Stage 3. Two people are following me? And their strength is not high? Xiaoqin was shocked. He was only at the peak of Stage 1 Inner Force. Although he was almost at Stage 2 of Qi refinement, even if he was at Stage 2, he still wouldn't be a match for these two people. Moreover, Xiaoqin only felt that someone was following him. Now that he carefully felt it, it was indeed two people. But what made Xiaoqin feel strange was that these two people weren't together. Instead, they were following him from the left and right. It seemed that these two people weren't in the same group. That's right, Xiaoqin, think about what to do. Elder Heaven Ancestor's voice this time was no longer as playful as before. It seemed that he was taking this matter very seriously. Do you have any ideas? Xiaoqin's heart skipped a beat as he quickly asked. I have to say your body is really too weak. Even I can only help you temporarily control one person's thoughts. The Stage 3 Inner Force martial artist is about the same, but the Stage 3 Inner Force martial artist basically has no hope, unless you are a Stage 2 Qi refinement stage cultivator. Elder Heaven Ancestor said seriously, so, you better think of a way to escape. Who told you to come to such a remote place? You're blaming me? This is the only way I can go home. Xiaoqin smiled bitterly, but in his mind he was thinking about how to deal with these two people. Got it? Xiaoqin thought of something and quickly said to Elder Heaven Ancestor, Elder Heaven Ancestor, listen to my command later. You take over my body and let the Stage 3 Inner Force martial artist attack the Stage 3 Inner Force martial artist. Okay. Elder Heaven Ancestor readily agreed. After all, if something happened to Xiaoqin, it wouldn't do him any good. After following for so long, it's time to come out, right? Xiaoqin suddenly stopped and said indifferently to someone behind him, Xiao-san, help me get rid of this tail. Originally, after hearing Xiaoqin's first sentence, whether it was the Stage 3 Inner Force martial artist or the Stage 3 Inner Force martial artist, they didn't take it seriously. They didn't believe that Xiaoqin, who couldn't cultivate inner force, could find them. Not to mention that Xiaoqin was an ordinary person. Even a Stage 3 Inner Force martial artist or a Stage 5 Inner Force martial artist wouldn't be able to find them if they didn't look carefully. A martial artist's divine sense and mental strength were very limited. However, after hearing Xiaoqin's last sentence, their hearts trembled at the same time. Who was Xiao-san? Xiaoqin's bodyguard? These words made the two of them release their divine sense and mental strength at the same time to explore the surroundings. With this exploration, they really found the other party's existence. This made the two of them shocked at the same time. Xiaoqin wasn't lying, there really was a bodyguard following them. At this point, the two of them didn't hide anymore and jumped out at the same time. These two people probably didn't think that there was no bodyguard among the two of them. It was completely Xiaoqin's bluff, but the two of them didn't say anything. They didn't make a move. Both of them could feel that the other party's strength was similar to their own, so they were a little afraid of each other. In their hearts, their goal was to kill Xiaoqin, not to fight with the other party's bodyguard. Elder Heaven Ancestor, let the Stage 3 Inner Force martial artist attack the other Stage 3 Inner Force martial artist. Xiaoqin said to Elder Heaven Ancestor. Okay. The next moment, Elder Heaven Ancestor took over Xiaoqin's body and began to use his divine sense and mental strength to affect the Stage 3 Inner Force martial artist. Although the effect wouldn't be too long as the two of them fought, it was enough. Elder Heaven Ancestor also saw through Xiaoqin's evil idea. He had to say that this idea was a bit immoral. To let two people who were also plotting against him fight, no matter how he looked at it, it was a bit of a trap. The Stage 3 Inner Force martial artist suddenly made a move, and without warning he attacked the Stage 3 Inner Force martial artist. The Stage 3 Inner Force martial artist was stunned. He didn't expect that the other party's strength was lower than him, but he dared to make the first move. Even if the other party was Xiao Chen's bodyguard, wasn't it a bit too fierce? However, since Xiao San made a move, the stage 3 inner force martial artist could only fight back. In an instant, the two of them fought. Xiao Chen's strength was a bit too weak. It was more than enough to control Qin Jinping, but it was a bit difficult to control the stage 3 inner force martial artist. In just a short while, the stage 3 inner force martial artist returned to normal. However, he couldn't figure out why he suddenly attacked Xiao Chen's bodyguard, Xiao San, who seemed to be stronger than him. However, since he had already made a move, he could only continue to fight passively. There was no turning back. If he retreated at this moment, he would die a horrible death. Therefore, the stage 3 inner force martial artist could only bite the bullet and fight back and forth with the stage 3 inner force martial artist. He didn't think that if he begged for mercy and admitted defeat, the other party would let him go. Looking at the other party's appearance, it was obvious that the other party wanted to kill him, so the stage 3 inner force martial artist had to fight with all his might. Therefore, both of them thought that the other party was Xiao Chen's bodyguard, and the fight was inextricably linked. Chapter 38. Of course, if one of them spoke before the fight started, it might reveal a flaw. But at this moment, the two of them could not afford to be distracted by talking. At this time, whoever was distracted by talking would be unlucky. Therefore, the two of them tacitly shut their mouths and fought to their heart's content. As for Xiao Qin, although he already had the strength equivalent to a martial artist at the peak of the first stage of inner strength, he still lacked battle experience. In school, even if he fought with others, it would be a fight between students. It was not a cruel battle to the death between martial artists. Therefore, Xiao Qin did not leave. Instead, he stood at a distance and carefully watched the battle between the two of them. He wanted to learn some experience from their moves and how to counter them. When the time came, he would not be caught off guard when fighting against his enemies. Although the two of them were fighting with their lives on the line, the difference in strength was also very obvious. One of them had just reached stage 3 inner force not long ago, while the other was already at the peak of stage 3 inner force. Unknowingly, the stage 3 inner force martial artist was at a disadvantage. However, although the other martial artist at the peak of stage 3 inner force had the upper hand, it was obviously not particularly good. This was because he had already been hit several times, causing his speed to slow down. It was just that the stage 3 inner force martial artist was in a more miserable state. Very soon, the physical strength of both of them began to show signs of exhaustion. Because they were fighting with their lives on the line, both of them suffered serious injuries. The stage 3 inner force martial artist and the martial artist at the peak of stage 3 inner force were both complaining in their hearts. They did not expect their opponents to be so desperate. This was simply killing them. Both of them had to use all their strength. Even if they were injured, they had to grit their teeth and persevere. If either of them retreated, what awaited them would be death. The stage 3 inner force martial artist's heart was getting colder and colder. His opponent was really too powerful. Even if he had gone all out, he was still losing. He was afraid that in the end he would definitely be left on the spot. Thinking of this, the stage 3 inner force martial artist could not help but have a flash of ruthlessness in his eyes. Since he was going to die anyway, he might as well drag someone down with him before he died. That's right, this stage 3 inner strength martial artist was the fugitive that Lu Jinming had found through Lei Dianfeng. He had already disregarded life and death. Since he was going to die today, he might as well die a worthy death. Go to hell. The stage 3 inner force martial artist suddenly changed his strategy of attacking and defending. Instead, he ignored his own weaknesses and smashed his fists towards the peak stage 3 inner force martial artist. The martial artist at the peak of stage 3 of inner force was also shocked. He did not expect his opponent to use a desperate move to end the battle. But thinking about it, he was Xiao Chen's bodyguard, so it was reasonable for him to be loyal to his master. Therefore, the martial artist at the peak of stage 3 had no choice but to continue fighting. He knew that the difference in strength between him and third master Xiao, in front of him, wasn't too big. Even if he wanted to run, he definitely wouldn't be able to. Once he showed any signs of fear, third master Xiao would take advantage of the situation and chase after him, and he would die a terrible death. But now there was still a chance for him to turn the situation around. Maybe he could survive. Therefore, the martial artist at the peak of stage 3 of inner force also made his move. He also ignored the weakness of his body and smashed his fists towards the martial artist at the peak of stage 3 of inner force. Seeing this scene, Xiao Qin, who was not far away, almost laughed out loud. These two idiots, did they really think that their opponent was his bodyguard? How could they fight so hard? However, just as Xiao Chen was feeling happy, he heard the voice of Elder Heaven Ancestor pouring cold water on him. Xiao Chen, are you very happy? Elder Heaven Ancestor asked coldly. Yes, Elder Heaven Ancestor, aren't you happy that you escaped? Xiao Chen was stunned. This time I was really lucky to escape, but have you ever thought about what would happen if one of them spoke and your plan failed? Elder Heaven Ancestor asked. This. After listening to Elder Heaven Ancestor's words, Xiao Chen suddenly felt scared. Yes, if he couldn't successfully provoke these two people to fight, then the one who would be dead now would be him. Actually, I'm not saying these words to discourage you. I just want to tell you that although crafty plots and schemes are important, your own strength is the most important. If you were a Stage 3 refinement stage cultivator, you would have the strength to fight, but your current strength is too weak. Elder Heaven Ancestor said. I understand, I will work hard to cultivate. Xiao Chen nodded and said. You have worked hard enough and your cultivation speed is fast enough. Elder Heaven Ancestor said. Then what did you mean by what you said before? Xiao Chen couldn't help but smile bitterly. So what Elder Heaven Ancestor said before was nonsense. It means that you should continue to work hard. Elder Heaven Ancestor said. All right. Xiao Chen shrugged and continued to watch the battle. Although Elder Heaven Ancestor's words were nonsense, it made Xiao Chen realize the importance of strength. However, Xiao Chen was a little regretful. Why didn't he meet Elder Heaven Ancestor earlier? If he had met Elder Celestial a step earlier, he would have been a cultivator above the 4th or 5th level of the refinement stage. At that time, would he still need to endure? At that time, even if his father disappeared, the Qing family wouldn't easily break off the engagement. After all, a young expert with 4 or 5 layers of inner strength was already a very outstanding existence in the 9 aristocratic families. No matter how angry Grandfather Qing was, he would still be very clear-headed and let the matter be, and not blame it on Xiao Chen. No family would push such a young expert out of the door. This was equivalent to letting other families win over Xiao Chen. And no matter how much pressure the Xiao family was under, it was impossible for them to drive Xiao Chen out of the Xiao family. This was the benefit of strength, but Xiao Chen still needed to rely on his own efforts. Boom dash, a loud sound rang out. The Stage 3 refinement stage martial artist and the peak Stage 3 refinement stage martial artist collided, making a deafening sound that made Xiao Chen's ears ring. The strong wind from the collision made Xiao Chen take 2 steps back. The 2 martial artists flew out at the same time. The Stage 3 inner strength martial artist fell to the ground and vomited blood. His nose and ears were also bleeding. It was obvious that he would not survive. On the other hand, although the Stage 3 inner strength martial artist couldn't get up from the ground and kept vomiting blood, it was obvious that he could still be saved. If he was rescued in time, he could still live. As for whether or not he could recover from such a serious injury, it was hard to say. It depended on his luck. Elder Heaven Ancestor, does the one who didn't die still have the ability to kill me? Xiao Chen was very rational and didn't walk over. Instead, he asked Elder Heaven Ancestor. No, you have the ability to kill him. Elder Heaven Ancestor said, if there is no one to save him now, he's just like a crossbow. He barely has the strength of a Stage 1 refinement stage martial artist. Xiao Chen nodded and let out a sigh of relief. He strode over to the Stage 3 refinement stage martial artist. The Stage 3 refinement stage martial artist was obviously stunned. He didn't expect Xiao Chen to not run away at this time. Instead, he walked over. Wasn't he courting death? Although he was seriously injured, he still had the strength of a Stage 1 refinement stage martial artist. If he wanted to kill this useless Xiao Chen, it would be as easy as flipping his hand. Could it be that Xiao Chen had something else to rely on? Or did Xiao Chen think that he was injured to the point that he couldn't move? This Stage 3 refinement stage martial artist was naturally the man in black who was in the limousine at the entrance of Songning High School at noon. At this point, he finally understood why the Elder Master made a fuss and sent him to kill Xiao Chen. There was no other reason. The Elder Master probably expected that Xiao Chen had a bodyguard by his side. He just didn't expect that the bodyguard's strength was a Stage 3 refinement stage martial artist, which was similar to him. However, the man in black didn't directly kill Xiao Chen. Although he still had the strength of a Stage 1 refinement stage martial artist, that was strength. If Xiao Chen turned around and ran, his physical strength might not be able to keep up with Xiao Chen. Who sent you? Xiao Chen was very unhappy. It was already confusing enough that someone wanted to kill him and pushed him off the cliff. Now, there were 2 groups of people who wanted to kill him. Who were these 2 groups of people? Were they with the people who pushed him off the cliff last time, or were they not? Do you think that I will tell you? The man in black looked at Xiao Chen mockingly. I didn't expect that there would be a bodyguard by Xiao Chen's side. I was wrong. But next time you won't be so lucky. Next time? Xiao Chen frowned slightly. Yes, next time. As he said that, the man in black saw that Xiao Chen was close to him. He suddenly jumped up from the ground, turned his hand into a fist, and attacked Xiao Chen. Xiao Chen's eyes slightly focused. If it weren't for the Elder Heaven Ancestor's reminder, he would really be caught off guard at this moment. However, at this time Xiao Chen had already made sufficient preparations. When the black-clothed man's fist came smashing over, Xiao Chen's figure suddenly flashed, dodging the black-clothed man's fierce attack. Then he followed up with a punch, smashing towards the black-clothed man's chest. The whole movement was done in one breath. In fact, Xiao Chen was just applying what he learned on the spot. Previously, when he saw the man in black and the dead Stage 3 Inner Force martial artist fighting, Xiao Chen had a slight grasp of the man in black's punches. Also, because the man in black was seriously injured, although he still had the strength of Stage 1 Inner Force, his speed and reflexes were obviously affected. Most importantly, the man in black never thought that Xiao Chen, a useless person who couldn't cultivate inner force, could dodge his fierce attack, and even dare to counterattack. This made him feel unprepared and unbelievable. He watched as Xiao Chen's fist smashed into his chest, making a loud bang sound. The man in black's chest suddenly caved in, and his whole body was hit by Xiao Chen. His eyes flashed a touch of shock and doubt. You actually hid your strength. Inner Force Stage 1 peak. Chapter 39. After saying this, the black-clothed man's body fell heavily to the ground. He suddenly spat out a mouthful of black blood. He died with his eyes wide open. He was very unwilling. He underestimated his enemy. Not only did he not think that Xiao Chen had a bodyguard, but he also did not think that Xiao Chen was also a martial artist, and he was at the peak of Stage 1 Inner Force. The strength that hit his body was the strength of the peak of Stage 1 Inner Force. Phew. Xiao Chen took a deep breath. If he was hit by the black-clothed man's fist, he would not die, but he would definitely be seriously injured. If he did not have a doctor and recovery medicine with him, he would not be able to get up for a few months after he went back. If he did not recover well, it might affect his strength in the future. Therefore, Xiao Chen did not regret killing the black-clothed man, but he was not sure who he was. However, if the black-clothed man was not dead, he probably could not say. Looking at the black-clothed man's appearance, he was obviously a loyal person. Xiao Chen could only look for clues from his body. However, what made Xiao Chen very disappointed was that the black-clothed man seemed to be a very cautious person. This could also be seen from his previous silence. He should be a death warrior. There was nothing on him that could prove his identity, not even a mobile phone or an ID card. The only thing on him other than clothes was a photo. However, this photo was a photo of Xiao Chen. It seemed that the black-clothed man was only relying on this to prevent him from mistaking him for someone else. As for the other things, there was nothing else, which made Xiao Chen very disappointed. However, what made Xiao Chen a little puzzled was that the black-clothed man was also hiding his strength in the word, also. Could it be that there were other people who were hiding their strength? Elder Heaven, if he didn't die, would you be able to get something out of him through your spiritual power? Like hypnosis? Xiao Chen asked with some regret, because he suddenly thought of this possibility. No, I can't. Your body is too weak and I'm just a soul now. I'm also very weak. It's already not easy for me to affect that Stage 3 Inner Force martial artist. You want to hypnotize me? Elder Heaven Ancestor flatly denied Xiao Chen's idea. If I were stronger, I could try. But right now, I definitely can't. All right. Xiao Chen gave up on looking for clues from the man in black and turned to the Stage 3 Inner Force martial artist who had died earlier. He looked like a ruthless person with a hideous scar on his face. He did not look like a good person at first glance. Xiao Chen bent down and began to search his body. However, to Xiao Chen's disappointment, this guy seemed to be a bachelor. There was nothing valuable on him. After searching for a long time, Xiao Chen only found a card. Fighter number 3, Vicious Wolf. There were only a few words on the card. It seemed to be something similar to the registration card used before a competition. Could this person be an athlete? However, this card was not very formal. It should not be a large-scale competition. This increased the difficulty of identifying Xiao Chen's identity. After all, nowadays schools, companies, and units would hold sports meetings. Even if this person was an athlete, Xiao Chen did not know where the sports meeting was held. Of course, boxing events were still very rare. Unless it was some school's club competition, most companies and units would not hold this event. Could it be that this person was a school student? As soon as this thought came to mind, Xiao Qin immediately shook his head and denied this speculation. After all, this person looked to be in his 30s or 40s. How could there be such an old uncle student? Moreover, this person had a fierce look on his face. He did not look like a student at all. Especially the long scar on his face, he looked more like a gangster. If that was the case, could it be a sports meeting in a gang? Yes. Xiao Qin suddenly thought of an underground sport in Songning City. Underground boxing. In the past, when Xiao Qin was the young master of the Xiao family, he often went to the underground racetrack with Qin Jinping, Zhu Yingxiong, Chao Yuliang and others. Just like the underground racetrack, there was another underground sport, which was underground boxing. Although Xiao Qin had not participated in it, he had heard about it. One was gambling on cars and the other was gambling on boxing. These were the methods used by the local gangsters to amass money. As a matter of fact, there were many spectators who placed their bets. When added up, it would be a huge sum of money. As for this Scarface, no matter how he looked at it, it was in line with the image of an underground boxing fighter. Perhaps this card was his registration card when he participated in the competition. He did not think that this thing was important, so he did not throw it away. In other words, this Scarface originally planned to go to the underground boxing arena after killing him. That was why he kept this card. It was just that he never dreamed that he would be left here. Xiao Qin took out the card and put it in his pocket. As for the photo of the black-shirt man, he did not take it away. If he took it away, it might alert the enemy and let the person hiding behind the scenes know that the black-shirt man's death was related to him. Xiao Qin's current goal was to let the person behind the scenes not know that the death of the two people was related to him. He only wanted to create an accident where the two people accidentally had a conflict and killed each other. But from the looks of it now, Xiao Qin's scheme could be considered very successful. No one would be able to suspect him. After doing all this, Xiao Qin did not stay at all. He turned around and left. Although there was no one passing by for a long time, Xiao Qin could not guarantee that no one would come after a long time. Xiao Qin did not want anyone to see him here. After quickly leaving this ominous place, Xiao Qin was slightly relieved. With Xiao Qin's divine sense, he could sense that there was no one nearby. Out of this empty alley, there was a lot of traffic outside. Xiao Qin randomly found a convenience store on the side of the road and walked in. He took a cooking recipe from the shelf and took a few bags of biscuits and instant noodles, as well as lunch boxes and other things. After paying the bill, he walked to the villa area. Although Xiao Qin only pretended to be a prodigal, he did not have the opportunity to cook on weekdays. So, it was really unrealistic for him to cook directly. He could only buy some fast food for 2 days first. Then, when he learned how to cook, he would buy the food himself. As soon as Xiao Qin entered, Qing Menjing asked him in a very displeased manner, "Where have you been?" She was so angry at home. Yi Xiaoya made a bowl of instant noodles, which filled the living room with the fragrance. The eldest miss was so greedy that she went to ask Yi Xiaoya for a bag. However, Yi Xiaoya said coldly, "If you want to eat it, buy it yourself." Qing Menjing was so angry that smoke was coming out of her nostrils and nose. Qing Menjing was really hungry. Otherwise, she would not be interested in a bag of instant noodles. She suddenly remembered that there was no food in the villa after she got off Jean Bei's car. Why did she go out last night and sleep on Xiao Qin's body? Wasn't it because she wanted to go out to eat? Yi Xiaoya did not give it to Xiao Qin. She just waited in the living room for Xiao Qin to come back and take her to eat. However, she did not see Xiao Qin after waiting for a long time. She wanted to call Xiao Qin, but she found that she did not have Xiao Qin's phone number at all. Also, she was too embarrassed to call Cheng Zhongming to ask. Therefore, the eldest miss could only wait in the living room bitterly. It was not until Xiao Qin appeared slowly that she almost became a stone gazing at her husband. Xiao Qin was a little confused about the eldest miss's attitude. Why did she get angry for no reason? However, thinking that he had indeed wasted a lot of time, and it was not appropriate to tell Qing Menjing about the attack on the road, Xiao Qin had to wave the bag in his hand and said, "I was afraid that we would have nothing to eat tonight, so I bought some biscuits and instant noodles." "Did you go to buy food?" Qing Menjing's face turned red. She suddenly felt a little ashamed. It turns out that Xiao Qin did not come back so late for no reason, but he thought of me and bought food for me. However, although Miss Qing thought so in her heart, her arrogant character still made her pretend to not care. "It's instant noodles. I have never eaten this kind of thing before. But since there is nothing to eat, I will give you face and eat a little." In the past, Xiao Chen really did not find that Qing Menjing was so arrogant. Now that he had more contact with her, he felt that the eldest miss was quite fun. He almost couldn't hold back his laughter. However, Xiao Chen was afraid that Qing Menjing would be embarrassed, so he pretended not to know and said, "Thank you, eldest miss, for giving me face. You quickly go to the instant noodles. I am hungry." Qing Menjing sat on the sofa, then picked up the remote control and turned on the TV. Yi Xiaoye, who had just gone downstairs to the kitchen to boil medicine, happened to see this scene. She couldn't help but twitch her mouth and said disdainfully, "The ability to command others. Who are you talking about?" Qing Menjing originally had a problem with Yi Xiaoye. "There are so many bags of instant noodles. Can't she give me one bag?" Now that Xiao Chen cooked noodles for me, she still came to make sarcastic remarks. "It's really hateful. Whoever did it is responsible," Yi Xiaoye said indifferently. After that, she ignored Qing Menjing and went into the kitchen. Miss Cheng was furious, but she couldn't refute Yi Xiaoye's words. Yi Xiaoye had made it clear that whoever did it should be blamed. If Qing Menjing refuted Yi Xiaoye's words, wouldn't she be admitting that Yi Xiaoye had scolded her? Wasn't that equivalent to being scolded? Yi Xiaoye, I'll remember it. Qing Menjing fiercely remembered what happened today in her heart. Xiao Chen was in the kitchen boiling water with an electric kettle. After entering the kitchen, Xiao Chen found that he forgot to buy an electric kettle. Fortunately, there was one in the kitchen, otherwise Xiao Chen would have to run out. Yi Xiaoye walked into the kitchen and glanced at the kettle that Xiao Chen boiled water with. She said, "That kettle is mine." Xiao Chen was slightly stunned. Thinking of Yi Xiaoye's overbearing attitude yesterday, he couldn't help but smile bitterly. Chapter 40. But you can use it. After Yi Xiaoye finished this sentence, she no longer paid attention to Xiao Chen. Instead, she began to fiddle with the clay pot that was used to boil medicine, preparing to boil the medicinal soup. Xiao Chen didn't expect Yi Xiaoye to say this. He couldn't help but say gratefully, "Thank you. I'm learning to cook these days, so I have to eat instant noodles for a few days. When I master it, I will treat you to a meal." Since Yi Xiaoye was generous, Xiao Chen naturally needed to show some kindness. After all, they were under the same roof. Xiao Chen didn't want to make the relationship too stiff. "Oh." Yi Xiaoye didn't seem to care. She responded faintly and didn't look up. Instead, she carefully fiddled with her pot of medicinal herbs. Soon the hot water was ready. Xiao Chen made 2 bowls of instant noodles and brought them to the living room. One bowl was given to Qing Menjing, and the other bowl was opened by himself. Then he ate it quickly. Qing Menjing slowly opened the lid of the lunchbox and ate the noodles in small mouthfuls. Not to mention, this instant noodles tasted good. However, when she heard Xiao Chen slurping the noodles, she suddenly became a little angry. "Hey, can't you be a gentleman in front of this lady? No wonder the engagement was broken off. Who would marry you like this?" Puff. Xiao Chen spat out a mouthful of noodles, and it sprayed directly into the lady's lunchbox. You broke off the engagement first, and then you know that I eat like this, okay? Listening to your tone, it seems that the person who broke off the engagement is someone else? Xiao Chen, I'm going to kill you." Qing Menjing didn't care about the matter of breaking off the engagement. She looked at the top of the lunchbox in her hand, and the half of the noodles that Xiao Chen spat out was hanging. Qing Menjing's eyes were about to spit out fire. "How do you want me to eat it?" "Oh, I'm sorry." Xiao Chen scratched his head helplessly. Could he be blamed for this? If Qing Menjing hadn't said such a strange thing, would he have laughed? What's the use of being sorry? Qing Menjing was eating happily just now and felt that the taste was good, but now she couldn't eat at all. Could it be that she ate Xiao Chen's saliva? "I'll eat this. I'll make you another bowl." Xiao Chen wasn't full yet. With his appetite, one lunchbox wasn't enough for him. As he spoke, he took the lunchbox from Missy's hands and stuffed it into his own bowl. Then he walked towards the kitchen while eating. When Qing Menjing heard that Xiao Chen wanted to make a new bowl of noodles for her, the anger in her heart dissipated a lot. "Then I'll give you a chance to make up for your mistake. Don't put the vegetable buns in the instant noodles. They're dry and not tasty." Qing Menjing just didn't like to eat the vegetable buns in the instant noodles. This time she could save a lot of trouble. However, looking at Xiao Chen eating happily, Qing Menjing suddenly found that something was wrong. She said angrily, "Xiao Chen, you're taking advantage of me." Xiao Chen was stunned. He thought, how did I take advantage of you? I bought the instant noodles. I ate 2 bags. I can't say that I'm taking advantage of you, right? You. Qing Minjing didn't know how to explain. She held it in for a long time before saying, "You want to kiss me indirectly." Xiao Chen listened to Missy's strange explanation and understood. It turns out that eating Missy's leftovers is an indirect kiss? Xiao Chen was a little dumbfounded. You went to the hotel to sleep. Can it be interpreted as having slept with a lot of people indirectly? Yi Xiaoya just walked out of the kitchen and went to the refrigerator to get something. When she heard Qing Minjing's words, she suddenly said coldly, "Don't take ignorance as your personality." You. Qing Minjing listened to Yi Xiaoya's words, and she was so angry that she couldn't speak. "Xiaochen, you explain for me. What else can you do except to order others when something happens?" Yi Xiaoya took out a plastic container from the refrigerator. She didn't know what was in it, and then she took out a small fruit from it. After she closed the plastic container and put it in the refrigerator again, she turned around and returned to the kitchen. When has Qing Minjing suffered such humiliation? This Yi Xiaoya is really bad. Since I moved in, she has been opposing me everywhere. It has only been 2 days. If this continues, Qing Minjing is really afraid that I will be angered to death. After Xiao Chen finished eating the noodles, he brushed Missy's bento box clean. He reheated the hot water and was making instant noodles for Missy. Yi Xiaoya just walked in. Xiao Chen couldn't help but say, "Yi Xiaoya, Minjing's order is actually not a problem. I am her servant. It is my duty to do these things." Cheap wretch. Yi Xiaoya's eyes flashed a trace of contempt. There are people who like to be servants for others. Xiao Chen couldn't help but smile bitterly. It wasn't that he liked to be Qing Minjing's servant, but he really had no other way. Moreover, if it weren't for Qing Minjing taking him in, he really didn't know what to do. But these secrets Xiao Chen couldn't explain to Yi Xiaoya. He could only shrug and smile. Everyone has their own helplessness. You can't change your own life, so you can only adapt to it. Yi Xiaoya's expression moved slightly, but she didn't say anything. Instead, she threw the small fruit that she had just taken out from the refrigerator into the clay pot. Suddenly, the kitchen was filled with the smell of medicinal materials. The smell of decocting medicine was naturally strong and unpleasant. Missy's instant noodles were contaminated by the smell of medicine. It didn't have the previous smooth and fragrant taste. This allowed Qing Minjing to find a place to vent. She put down the bento box in her hand and shouted in the direction of the kitchen. Some people really have no public morality. The house is rented together, but she made some messy smell. Does she want to suffocate others? If you want to decoct medicine, go to your own room to do it. Don't disturb others. However, what Qing Minjing didn't expect was that Yi Xiaoya just went out of the kitchen and looked at Qing Minjing coldly. Then she directly unplugged the power on the electric clay pot and walked out of the kitchen with the hot clay pot. Qing Minjing was shocked. Is this Yi Xiaoya crazy and wants to pour this hot medicinal soup on me? However, Yi Xiaoya didn't stay. She wasn't afraid of the heat. She went upstairs with the clay pot. Then after a while, the sound of the door closing came from upstairs. Obviously, Yi Xiaoya ran back to her room to decoct medicine. This move made Xiao Chen a little surprised, but now it seemed that Yi Xiaoya wasn't really an unreasonable person. As long as it was wrong, she would accept it humbly. However, this made it hard for Missy Qing Minjing. She finally found a reason to attack Yi Xiaoya, but the result was a punch on cotton. Yi Xiaoya really accepted it humbly and went to her own room to decoct medicine, but Missy didn't feel victorious at all. Qing Minjing picked up the lunchbox and continued to eat, but it was as if the noodles in the box were Yi Xiaoya, which made Qing Minjing gnash her teeth. Xiao Chen felt that Miss Qing at the moment was quite cute. If he knew her earlier, perhaps he would like her very much. After all, this kind of arrogant character was also quite cute. Princess syndrome, it was understandable. However, now Xiao Chen was very clear about his own position. He was no longer the young master of the Xiao family. The relationship with Qing Minjing was only that of a master and servant. Xiao Chen wouldn't have any improper thoughts. He didn't want to provoke old Master Qing before he figured out the behind-the-scenes manipulator. The old man was still immersed in the pain of losing his son. Although Xiao Chen was somewhat wronged, it was also understandable. Who could calm down when their son died? After Missy finished eating the instant noodles, she glanced at Xiao Chen and said, "I'm going upstairs. I'm going to bed. You rest by yourself." Okay. Xiao Chen knew that Qing Minjing probably remembered what happened last night, but Xiao Chen was smart and didn't mention it. If it was in the past, when he was still Qing Minjing's fiancé, then Xiao Chen didn't mind being more ambiguous with Qing Minjing. But now it was just asking for trouble. After Xiao Chen cleaned Missy's lunchbox, he randomly chose a room downstairs and put his clothes into the wardrobe. Because he didn't go home last night, Xiaoqun didn't have time to unpack his luggage. Of course, the room that Xiaoqun chose was a room that was relatively close to the entrance of the villa. If there was any movement at the entrance of the villa, Xiaoqun would be able to notice it immediately. After all, Xiaoqun's divine sense and mental power were now incomparable to others. After tidying up everything, Xiaoqun sat cross-legged on the bed. He started the mantra of Heaven's Fortune Battle Art, and began a new night of cultivation. In the ward of the First People's Hospital of Songning City, Lu Jinming and Skinny Monkey sat opposite Ma Gangmin's bed, anxiously waiting for Lei Dianfeng's news. Suddenly an urgent phone rang. Lu Jinming quickly picked up the phone. "Teacher Lei. Young Master Ming, bad news, Vicious Wolf is dead." Lei Dianfeng's voice was a little anxious. "I just received news that Vicious Wolf died in a small alley." "What? Vicious Wolf is dead? How is it possible? Didn't he go to kill Xiaoqun? Is Xiaoqun a master?" After hearing the news, Lu Jinming was shocked. He couldn't figure out how Vicious Wolf died. How could a warrior with Inner Force Stage 3 not be able to deal with an ordinary person with less than Inner Force Stage 1? It wasn't Xiaoqun who killed Vicious Wolf. The identity of the person who killed Vicious Wolf is unknown, but it seems that his strength is similar to Vicious Wolf. Because there are two bodies at the scene, it seems that the two people died together. The traces of fighting at the scene are completely consistent with the injuries of the two people. Lei Dianfeng said. After all, although Xiaoqun's last blow was a fatal blow, because Xiaoqun only punched, these people were prejudiced and naturally ignored the existence of Xiaoqun. Who's so nosy? Is there a master around Xiaoqun? Lu Jinming frowned. One should know that Vicious Wolf's strength was not weak, and the person who died together with Vicious Wolf was at least a master of Inner Force Stage 3. Moreover, Vicious Wolf was an underground boxer and a desperado. He dared to fight with his life. If one wanted to kill Vicious Wolf, it would be at least a master of Inner Force Stage 3. Chapter 41. It's impossible. If this person is Xiaoqun's bodyguard, there is no reason for Xiaoqun to leave his body and run away. Lei Dianfeng shook his head. At present, gang leader Lu has blocked the news and is secretly investigating the identity of the black-shirt man who died together. However, according to our speculation, the most likely reason is that this black-shirt man saw Vicious Wolf and wanted to get a reward, so he made a move. You know, Vicious Wolf is a fugitive, and the bounty is not low. If I didn't follow young Master Ming to eat and drink well, I would even be tempted. If these two people died together, then their strength is obviously not much different. This black-shirt man still dared to make a move? Lu Jinming was a little puzzled. People die for wealth and birds die for food. The strength of this black-shirt man is definitely higher than Vicious Wolf. But don't forget, how rich is Vicious Wolf's combat experience? Even if the black-shirt man's strength is high, Vicious Wolf wins in terms of combat experience. It is still possible for both of them to die together. Lei Dianfeng said, as for the black-shirt man's true strength, we have to wait for the consecrator and the gang to personally check it. After a martial artist died in a short period of time, those with superior strength could still judge the strength of the deceased from the aura left on their bodies, but Lei Dianfeng obviously didn't have this ability. In the entire Lu family gang, only the consecrator had this ability. How can I be so unlucky? Lu Jinming was really speechless. It wasn't easy to find a desperado to kill Xiaoqun, but he was killed in the end. Moreover, he died without knowing why. This made him very depressed. However, he couldn't make a move on Xiaoqun in the short term. On the one hand, it was not easy to find a desperado. On the other hand, if he let the Lu family help his people, then it would definitely leave a handle for Jing Xiaoqun. The biggest taboo in the underworld was to not keep one's word. The way to resolve disputes in the underworld was either to fight to the death, or to talk about numbers, apologize, or draw a line and have a competition. If after talking about numbers, there was still a need to settle accounts later, then who would choose to talk about numbers in the future? Let's just fight to the death. This was obviously not in line with the interests of the underworld. After all, the current underworld also prioritized interests, not just fighting. Lu Jinming did not dare to set a precedent. Just as Lu Jinming was feeling depressed, the young man from the afternoon was also quietly waiting for news in an RV. However, when he heard that the man in black was killed by a desperado, he was so shocked that he didn't know what to say. What did you say? Did our people perish together with that fugitive called Vicious Wolf? The youth stared at the person who reported the news and asked incredulously. Young master, in the Liu family gang, the spy we bribed immediately sent back the news. That fugitive was found by the Liu family gang. A person who looked like a butler said. Liu family gang? They found a fugitive and killed my men? What? The youth frowned. He had no enmity with the Liu family gang. The Liu family gang spy was just to inquire about information, but he didn't want to use anything. I don't know about this. After all, why did the Liu family gang hire a fugitive? Why did they hire this fugitive? Not to mention that the status of the few spies we buried in the Liu family gang isn't high. Even if they had a high status, they might not know. I just heard that they hired Vicious Wolf to do something for the Liu family gang's young master, Liu Jinming, said the butler. Do something for Liu Jinming? Doing something for Liu Jinming. What does it have to do with my people? He killed my people. Isn't there something wrong with him? Did I provoke him? The youth was so angry that his face was livid. Could it be that he was standing up for Xiaoqin? Or was it a coincidence? I don't know about this. The butler shook his head. Investigate Liu Jinming for me. Investigate his relationship with Xiaoqin at school. The youth said with a gloomy face. Yes, young master. The butler nodded. Tonight was destined to be a sleepless night. Liu Jinming, who was in the hospital, quickly received the news that the strength of the black-shirt man was a peak third-stage inner-strength martial artist. In this way, Lei Dianfeng's explanation could be explained. Generally speaking, a martial artist at the peak third-stage inner-strength martial artist was still very confident in defeating a martial artist who had just advanced to the third-stage inner-strength. However, the black-shirt man probably didn't expect to encounter a fighting master like Vicious Wolf. How could a martial artist who fought in the underground boxing be an ordinary martial artist? They all had a lot of actual combat experience. It was just that the Liu family would never dream that the black-shirt man's actual combat experience was not weak. The reason why he also died on the spot was not because of Vicious Wolf, but because of Xiaoqin. Teacher Lei, can we find another desperado? If Xiaoqin didn't die, Liu Jinming really couldn't vent the anger in his heart. When he thought of the seafood meal that Xiaoqin cheated away, and then saw Mengmen's half-dead appearance, Liu Jinming wanted to kill Xiaoqin. Young Master Ming, this is basically impossible, at least not in the short term. Teacher Lei said, although this matter was covered up by our Liu family gang, now that Vicious Wolf is dead, the people in our Liu family gang know that Vicious Wolf died while doing something for our Liu family gang. Although everyone doesn't know what Vicious Wolf is doing, if another desperado comes, it will be different. So, if Vicious Wolf is fine and leaves after killing people, probably no one will notice. However, if Xiaoqin is killed by a desperado and Xiaoqin is killed, it is hard to guarantee that no one will connect it to the previous matter. Our Liu family gang is not monolithic. There must be spies from other gangs or families in it. They will not let go of any opportunity to attack us. Okay, I got it. Liu Jinming knew that it couldn't be done, so he didn't force it, but he was a little depressed. Brother Ming, don't get angry. I'm fine. We will take revenge on ourselves in the future. Xiaoqin, let him be free for a while. Mengmen saw Liu Jinming's depression, so he comforted him. Mengmen, you are right. We will think of a way in the future. Liu Jinming nodded and had to give up the idea of dealing with Xiaoqin for the time being. He planned to think about it after a while. By the way, you two help me think about it. How should I pursue Qing Menjing? Things are different now. There's the annoying Jean Bebe. With her around, I can't carry out my skills at all. The girl's head is full of tricks and tricks. I'll be fooled if I'm not careful. Brother Ming, I think there are only a few ways to pick up girls. Since Qing Menjing is the eldest daughter of the Qing family, it is impossible to use money to attack her. The remaining ways are either to move her with romance or to be a hero to save her. Beauties all like romance and heroes. The slim monkey-like guy was rather insightful. Since he was known as Liu Jinming's advisor, he was quite smart when it came to offering ideas. Romance. Hero to save the beauty? Liu Jinming pondered on the slim monkey-like guy's words and felt that they did make sense. Indeed, there were only two ways to win a girl's heart. As for romance, with Jean Bebe by Qing Menjing's side, Liu Jinming could not be romantic even if he wanted to. Whatever he did, Jean Bebe would misinterpret it. Therefore, Liu Jinming thought for a moment and decided to start with the hero to save the beauty. Tell me, how can I be a hero to save the beauty? Brother Ming, to be a hero to save the beauty, the slim monkey-like guy said. When Qing Menjing is in danger, you must stand up and take care of the danger so that you can win Qing Menjing's favor. For example, Qing Menjing is robbed. Robbed? Liu Jinming's eyes suddenly shone. Let's do it this way. Find two people on our side and pretend to be robbers. Then they will rob Qing Menjing. Then I will show up. Why don't we call Mr. Lei and ask him to send 2 people here? The slim monkey-like guy suggested. This won't do. Just now, Teacher Lei said that the Liu family gang isn't as united as a piece of iron. If someone leaks it and the Qing family finds out, not only will Qing Menjing not like me, she will hate me. Lu Zhiming waved his hand and said, if Steelgate wasn't injured, you and Steelgate could pretend to be robbers, but we're still missing one person. One robber isn't shocking enough. You're too skinny and don't look like a robber. Brother Ming, although I am injured, my younger brother, Ma Gangmen, is not inferior to me in size. You have seen him before. It is possible for him to be a robber. Ma Gangmen thought about it and said, it's just that my younger brother's head was smashed by a brick when he was young. He is not very smart. I have to tell him in detail what to do. Otherwise it will not be good if he is stunned. Ma Gangmen? Lu Zhiming nodded. He remembered Ma Gangmen's younger brother's tower-like figure. Ma Gangmen was not very smart. He dropped out of school early and stayed at home. Now he helped Ma Gangmen's father run a small casino. Because of Lu Zhiming's support, the small casino's business was still very good. Ma Gangmen acted as a thug in the casino. In terms of physical strength, Ma Gangmen was stronger than Ma Gangmen, so it was a good choice to let him pretend to be a robber. Although the guy looked dumb, at least he was on their side, so Lu Zhiming agreed. Okay, slim monkey-like guy, you and Gangmen plan. I will go back first. Okay, brother Ming. Thin monkey-like guy nodded. After Lu Zhiming left, Ma Gangmen called Ma Gangmen over. The 3 of them discussed the plan to save the beauty. Although Ma Gangmen was not good at acting, he also knew that the Ma family's casino was thriving because of Lu Zhiming. Otherwise, how could you open a casino without some strength? This was the industry that the gangs valued the most. How could they let others run it? However, because Ma Gangmen was Lu Zhiming's lackey, the Lu family gang did not make things difficult for the Ma family. Instead, when the Ma family's casino was in trouble, they rushed over immediately. Therefore, Ma Gangmen was very grateful. He was very concerned about Lu Zhiming's matters. Chapter 42. Brother, don't worry. I will do whatever Brother Ming tells me to do. If he tells me to go east, I will definitely not go west. Ma Gangmen said. It's useless to say these things. When the time comes, acting is better than anything else. Ma Gangmen reminded. One night's time was neither short nor long. Under Xiao Chen's diligent cultivation, the energy in his body was constantly circulating in his meridians, and it became more and more vigorous. Last night, Xiao Chen had already touched the edge of the 2nd level of the refinement stage. Today Xiao Chen planned to break through in one fell swoop. Xiao Chen's essence circulated in circles. As his essence kept increasing, he could sense that the moment was not far away. Sure enough, the energy circulating in Xiao Chen's body suddenly stopped, and then it quickly rushed to his dantian. In an instant, all the energy continuously poured into Xiao Chen's dantian. Xiao Chen only felt that his dantian was about to explode. The energy in his dantian was constantly being compressed. This feeling was exactly the same as when Xiao Chen went from an ordinary person to a 1st level of the refinement stage cultivator. Therefore, although Xiao Chen was in pain, he was not afraid. This was because Xiao Chen knew that he was about to break through. Boom! Not long after, Xiao Chen's body shook, and in his body, it seemed that something had been broken. There was a jolting pain, and there was a kind of pleasure of being released in an instant. I broke through. Phew! Xiao Chen let out a long sigh of relief. 2nd level of the refinement stage? In other words, now I have the strength equivalent to the 2nd level of the inner force? Stretching out his hands in disbelief, Xiao Chen looked at his hands that had not changed at all. He felt that it was unreal. The strength that he had dreamed of since he was a child was now in his possession. In 3 days he went from an ordinary person to a 2nd level of the refinement stage, which was equivalent to a 2nd level of the inner force cultivator. If he had not experienced it himself, Xiao Chen would have thought that he was dreaming. Even if he was a genius, it was impossible to go from an ordinary person to a 2nd level of the inner force cultivator in 3 days, but now Xiao Chen had done it. You broke through? Elder Heaven Ancestor's voice also sounded in Xiao Chen's ears. Xiao Chen was already accustomed to the Elder Heaven Ancestor's mysterious appearance. I broke through. Elder Heaven Ancestor, isn't the speed of my breakthrough a bit too fast? Xiao Chen was not an idiot. This kind of leveling speed could be said to be unprecedented, but Xiao Chen just happened to be able to do it. Hopefully there won't be any repercussions. It is indeed a bit fast, but I still don't know what is going on. Elder Heaven Ancestor's voice was a bit doubtful. In theory, the speed of your breakthrough is too fast. Even the geniuses I have seen before, without the help of treasures, it is impossible to advance to the second level of the refinement stage in 3 days. Oh? In other words, with the help of treasures, it is possible to advance? Xiaochen asked. That is possible, but the problem is that you have nothing in your hands. How did you advance? Elder Heaven Ancestor's voice was very strange. The environment around you is also not a paradise. The spiritual chi of heaven and earth is so thin, but you can still advance so fast. It is really incredible. Forget it, since you can't understand it, then there is no need for me to think about it. At least for the time being, there is no adverse situation. Even if there is, at least it is better than no strength. If I didn't have strength, I am afraid I would have died yesterday. Xiaochen was open-minded. Having strength was much better than not having strength. Even if there might be a side effect, Xiaochen would not refuse. After all, the side effect was a problem for the future. If he didn't have strength now, he would probably be dead. That is true. Elder Heaven Ancestor's voice was solemn. Xiaochen, you are now a second-level refinement stage cultivator. From the second level, you will have to temper your body. To put it bluntly, it is to lay the foundation for the future. Although there is no effect in a short period of time, I have to remind you that you still have to complete the first step before advancing to the third level. Otherwise, it will have a great impact on your future. Xiaochen listened to Elder Heaven Ancestor's solemn words. He did not dare to be negligent and quickly asked, Good. How should I temper my body? Body tempering requires some herbs. After you buy them, decoct them according to the method I told you. Then soak your body in it for 5 days. Otherwise, Elder Heaven Ancestor did not continue, but Xiaochen could still understand. Otherwise, his future progress would be very limited. Alright, tell me. I'll write it down and go buy it today, Xiaochen quickly replied. Elder Heaven Ancestor did not say anything. He only transmitted the information to Xiaochen's mind. The names and numbers of the herbs became clear to Xiaochen. Immediately, Xiaochen found a piece of white paper and wrote down the herbs and the numbers. After doing all this, Xiaochen said, By the way, Elder Heaven Ancestor, didn't you say that cultivators have more special abilities than warriors? I am now a second-level chi refining stage cultivator. What kind of special abilities do I have? Haven't I already transmitted the abilities of the first few levels of chi refining stage to you? You can go and take a look. Elder Heaven Ancestor suddenly reminded him, However, I advise you to only look at the second level. As for the third and fourth levels, wait until you have reached that level. Otherwise, there will be benefits that will tempt you. It will affect your mind and it will be detrimental to your future cultivation path. I understand. Xiaochen nodded and began to flip through the special abilities of the second-level chi refining stage in his mind. With one look, he could not help but feel a little disappointed. Because the special ability of the second-level chi refining stage was to enhance the 6 senses. Vision, hearing, nose, tongue, body, and consciousness. The first 5 senses did not seem to be of much use to Xiaochen. After all, as a cultivator, his divine sense and mental energy were already very huge. His perception was rather strong. Even if he increased it, it would only be a little stronger than the original foundation. The last one, consciousness, was quite important. It could distinguish between people who obviously had bad or good intentions towards him. Of course, this premise was also based on the level of strength. Although Xiaochen did not know how much higher the level of strength was, it was certainly not too high. At most, it would be 1 or 2 levels higher than him. Moreover, the distinction between bad and good intentions was not clear, which made Xiaochen very depressed. Elder Heaven Ancestor, this seems to be the same as not getting any benefits, right? Xiaochen asked somewhat unwillingly. Why not? This enhancement of the 6 senses is something that many people can't get even if they want it. Elder Heaven Ancestor said resentfully, Your eyesight and hearing are better than others. When in battle, the advantage is quite obvious, especially when someone sneaks up on you. You can hear the movement and react in advance. Nose and tongue also have great benefits. If you smell or eat something abnormal, you can detect it immediately and not be poisoned. As for body, it can enhance your sense of touch, which is very helpful for future alchemy. You can feel the state of the medicinal herbs in the medicinal cauldron. These benefits are innumerable. Don't just focus on what is in front of you. After listening to Elder Heaven Ancestor's explanation, Xiaochen suddenly felt a little embarrassed. It seems like what you said is very powerful? It is very powerful. Elder Heaven Ancestor said. You ask those martial artists which one doesn't want to hear and see. You are not a good thing. Well, my expectations are a little too high. Xiaochen smiled bitterly. When I go to school I will pass by the pharmacy. I will go and buy the body-tempering medicine first. Now Xiaochen had a huge sum of 10,000 yuan. It was more than enough to buy some medicinal herbs. In the morning, because Xiaochen had just broken through, he had nothing to do. So, he got up early and prepared to go to the kitchen to boil water for breakfast. However, he heard movement outside the living room window. Xiaochen climbed up the window and looked. It turned out that Yi Xiaoye was watering her flowers and plants. This made Xiaochen somewhat surprised. Yi Xiaoye got up so early just to water her flowers and plants? However, Xiaochen was not a nosy person. After looking at it, he went to the kitchen. When Xiaochen finished boiling the water, it was almost time. Cheng Minjing yawned and walked down the stairs, but her eyes were full of resentment. Xiaochen was very puzzled. Who provoked Miss Cheng? Is it the person in my dream? Cheng Minjing saw Xiaochen in the kitchen, so she asked, "Where is Yi Xiaoye?" "She is outside playing with the flowers and plants." "Why are you looking for her?" Xiaochen asked curiously. "To settle the bill." Cheng Minjing turned and walked out of the door. She opened the door of the villa and saw Yi Xiaoye watering her flowers and plants. Her leisurely look made Cheng Minjing even angrier. "Yi Xiaoye?" Yi Xiaoye looked at Cheng Minjing, who had an unfriendly expression on her face. "You have 1 day to pour out 4/5 of the flower bed. Otherwise I will pull out your flowers and plants." Cheng Minjing pointed to the flowers and plants in the flower bed. "You are too much, right? They are all planted in. If you pull them out they will die." Yi Xiaoye frowned. "Besides, I only took up half. Isn't the other half enough for what you want to plant? If you want to keep your flowers and plants, don't make a racket in the house at night." This was Cheng Minjing's purpose. Pulling out the flowers and plants was just a threat. At night? Yi Xiaoye was slightly stunned. She finally understood why Cheng Minjing was so angry. Looking at Cheng Minjing's red eyes, it was obvious that she didn't sleep well. Yi Xiaoye knew that she was in the wrong. She was afraid that Cheng Minjing would really go crazy and pull out her flowers and plants, so she had to say, "I won't do it in the future." Cheng Minjing turned and returned to the villa. Xiaochen just finished making instant noodles, so the miss sat at the dining table and began to enjoy the delicious instant noodles. The anger in her heart also dissipated a lot. Chapter 43. Last night, Cheng Minjing didn't know what Yi Xiaoye was doing, but she didn't fall asleep until 12 a.m. She didn't know what Yi Xiaoye was doing. After breakfast, Jean Bei's car arrived and parked at the gate of the villa. Cheng Minjing threw 100 yuan to Xiaochen and got on Jean Bei's beetle. After Cheng Minjing left, Yi Xiaoye happened to come in for breakfast. Seeing that Xiaochen took 100 yuan, Yi Xiaoye couldn't help but show a disdainful look. Perhaps she felt that Xiaochen was living under someone else's roof and had no dignity. However, how could Yi Xiaoye know Xiaochen's difficulties? Shrugging, Xiaochen didn't take it seriously and followed her out of the villa. Yesterday, when Xiaochen went to the convenience store, he saw a relatively large pharmacy that also sold medicinal ingredients. It seemed that the scale was not small, so Xiaochen decided to buy the medicinal ingredients that Elder Sky mentioned. "Sir, what can I do for you?" As soon as Xiaochen pushed the door and walked into the pharmacy, a melodious voice like that of an oriole in the morning rang. Xiaochen raised his head and saw a girl in a white coat looking at him with a smile. The girl was about 18 or 19 years old. She didn't have any makeup on her face and had a clean smile, which made Xiaochen feel refreshed. This girl was like a sister next door, which reminded Xiaochen of Ke Lin. But in comparison, the young girl was graceful and unrestrained, while Lin Ke was extremely shy. Seeing that Xiaochen was staring at her face, the girl couldn't help but blush. However, seeing that Xiaochen was wearing a school uniform and didn't look like a hooligan, she felt that she might have misunderstood Xiaochen. "Is there something on my face?" the girl asked uncertainly. "No." Xiaochen shook his head and also realized that he was a bit rude, which made him feel ashamed. Even though Xiaochen had seen too many beauties, he couldn't help but admit at this moment that the pure beauty of this young girl was very unique. It was like a clear spring, although clear, it was sweet to taste. "I'm sorry, everyone loves beauty. I thought I was looking at a goddess's photo on the computer." Xiaochen's words made the girl a bit dumbfounded. He didn't have to be so frank, right? However, because of Xiaochen's frankness, the girl didn't hate him. Instead, she felt that Xiaochen was quite sincere and interesting. Besides, Xiaochen was right. Everyone loved beauty. Who didn't like being complimented by others? It doesn't matter. I'm not a goddess. The girl was a bit embarrassed. It doesn't matter. I want to buy some medicinal herbs. Isn't there a master who specializes in dispensing medicine here? Xiao Chen looked at the girl's appearance. She should be a salesperson here. She could sell some finished medicine, but this kind of thing was usually handled by someone in every pharmacy. The girl was a bit unhappy with Xiao Chen's belittling. She stretched out her hand and said, "Give me the prescription." Xiao Chen was stunned, but he still gave the prescription that he copied to the girl. His heart was puzzled. This girl also knows how to dispense medicine? The girl took the prescription and looked at it. At first she didn't think much of it. But as she read, her face suddenly became strange. Even the way she looked at Xiao Chen changed. Xiao Chen also felt the girl's eyes. He suddenly felt a bit nervous. What kind of eyes is this? Is there a problem with this prescription? Could it be a prescription for aphrodisiac? Otherwise, why would this girl have this kind of eyes? However, Elder Heaven Ancestor couldn't lie to himself. So Xiao Chen still asked, "What's wrong? Is there a problem with the prescription? Are you sure you want this prescription? And you want 5? The girl looked up and down at Xiao Chen. It made Xiao Chen have a kind of creepy feeling. Is there something wrong with it? Xiao Chen asked tentatively. Do you know how much this medicinal herb costs? You actually want 5? The girl really couldn't figure out what Xiao Chen wanted to do. Moreover, I can't understand your prescription at all. What is the use of these medicinal herbs when combined together? Are you sure you want it? How much? Xiao Chen also realized the seriousness of the problem. Looking at the girl's tone and expression, this medicinal herb is probably expensive. But I'm sure I need it. According to the shop's price, this medicinal herb would cost at least 20,000. 5 would be 100,000. The girl said, "Are you sure you didn't randomly see a prescription somewhere?" "Of course I'm not doubting you. It's for your own good." Xiao Chen looked at the girl's serious expression. He was a little helpless. He didn't think that the medicinal herbs would be so expensive. 1 medicinal herb costs 20,000. 5 medicinal herbs would cost 100,000. It seems that the 10,000 in his hand is simply not enough to do anything. What should I do? Borrow money from Miss? If he said it clearly, Miss would definitely lend it to him. But as for cultivation, Xiao Chen really didn't want to say it. Even if he had the strength, he couldn't say it for the time being. It wasn't that he didn't trust Miss, but he was afraid that Miss didn't have a deep social experience. If she revealed a flaw, then it wouldn't be worth it. "Yen so early. Is there a customer?" An old voice sounded. As the voice sounded, an old man wearing reading glasses, a white beard, and a tang suit walked out from the back of the shop. "Grandpa, this customer wants to get medicine, but his prescription." Hong Yen handed the prescription to the old man who had just walked out. "I don't understand it, and the medicinal herbs inside are very expensive." "Oh, let me see." The old man took the prescription and stroked his beard. He sat on a chair and carefully looked at Xiao Chen's prescription. Although the old man didn't show any expression on his face, a storm was brewing in his heart. However, after he finished reading it, he looked at Xiao Chen without batting an eyelid. "Young lad, where did you copy this prescription from? Do you know the use of it?" Xiao Chen's heart skipped a beat. He was an astute person. The old man did not say that the herbs in this prescription were expensive and useless like Hong Yen. Instead, he asked about the origins and uses of the prescription. Could it be that this old man could understand it? But that shouldn't be the case. This is a prescription that cultivators use to temper their bodies. How could this old man understand it? However, Xiao Chen didn't dare to expose it. He just said, "I can't reveal the origin of this prescription, and it's hard to say what it does." Xiao Chen simply didn't make up a lie. With the old man's appearance, if he could understand it, then he understood it. If he couldn't, then he understood it. Xiao Chen didn't need to lie. A lie could be seen through at a glance. "Do you understand the value of this prescription?" asked the old man. "Just now, Miss Hong said that it costs 20,000 per pair, and 5 pairs require 100,000, said Xiao Chen. "Hee Yen, did you add this bitter fruit into the calculation?" asked the old man with a smile. "Grandpa, I've never heard of bitter fruit and the shop doesn't have it, so I didn't calculate it." Hong Yen shook her head and was a little embarrassed. "Grandpa, is this medicine expensive?" "It's a small matter if it's expensive. The bitter fruit is hard to find." The old man said with a smile, "If it weren't for an old friend of mine asking me to help collect it, I wouldn't have it, but I happen to have some left over." When Xiao Chen heard it, he suddenly showed a bitter face. The previous medicine was already expensive enough. Now that a bitter fruit was added, it seemed that it was even more valuable than a city. Xiaoqin could only ask weakly, "Grandpa, how much does this medicine cost? If you can tell me the origin and use of this prescription, I can give you 5 pairs for free." The old man looked at Xiaoqin with a smile. This. Xiaoqin was shocked. Although the temptation was in front of him, Xiaoqin wasn't a person who only cared about immediate benefits. He just hesitated for a moment and shook his head decisively. "Grandpa, I appreciate your kindness, but I really can't say it." Then there's no other way. Yin has already said that this medicine costs 20,000 without the bitter fruit. With the bitter fruit it's at least 50,000. When the old man said this, he saw Xiaoqian's bitter face. He smiled slightly, changed the topic and continued, "However, I can give you a discount this time. 10,000 yuan per pair." "Really?" Xiaoqin couldn't believe his ears. "Grandpa, are you kidding? I don't need to pay anything?" "No need, 10,000 yuan. The old man shook his head. Xiaoqin took a deep breath and solemnly took out an envelope from his shirt pocket. Although he was reluctant to part with it, this was the only property he had on him. However, the old man's 10,000 yuan was already a great discount. Xiaoqin wasn't afraid that the old man would lie to him. After all, Hong Yin had said before that this medicine cost 20,000 yuan without the bitter fruit. The old man only took 10,000 yuan. Obviously it was a huge discount. "Thank you, Grandpa. I will earn money as soon as possible to buy the remaining 4 pairs. This is all I have today. I can only buy 1 pair. Although Xiaoqin wondered why the old man would give him a discount, Xiaoqin was sure that it must be because of his own prescription. This old man was likely to see something in it, but Xiaoqin wasn't sure what he saw. The old man wasn't polite. He accepted Xiaoqin's 10,000 yuan, and then said to Hong Yin, "Yin, you take care of the other medicinal materials on this prescription. I will go get the bitter fruit." "Okay, Grandpa." At this moment, Hong Yin looked at Xiaoqin with an even stranger gaze. Although she didn't ask, her grandpa didn't say anything after seeing the prescription. He only asked about its origin. Obviously, this prescription wasn't a useless prescription in her eyes. Moreover, her grandpa actually gave Xiaoqin a big discount, which made Hong Yin feel strange. The price of her family's pharmacy wasn't expensive. On the contrary, it was very cheap. Hong Yan's evaluation of Xiaoqin was already based on the lowest price, but her grandpa actually gave him a 20% discount, which made Hong Yin somewhat puzzled. Chapter 44. The old man came out just as he grabbed the herbs. He placed a small red fruit into the herbs. However, this small red fruit made Xiaoqian's eyes narrow. His heart was in turmoil. This was because he was very familiar with this small fruit. He had just seen it yesterday. This small fruit was the fruit that Yi Xiaoya kept in the fridge. Yesterday, Xiaoqin was a little curious about what it was. Why did Yi Xiaoya put a fruit in the medicine? Today he found out that it was called the bitter fruit. TSK, this Yi Xiaoya is really rich. She can even afford such expensive herbs? I wonder what the medicinal soup she brewed is for? "Grandpa, what kind of medicine is this bitter fruit usually used for?" Xiaoqin asked calmly. "I don't use it much. I only use it for some special prescriptions. However, if you don't tell me, I won't tell you either." The old man smiled at Xiaoqin as if saying, "You want to know? You want to know? I won't tell you." Xiaoqin was a little speechless. He didn't expect this old man to be so vengeful. However, there was nothing he could do. He couldn't expose his secret just because of his curiosity, right? Therefore, Xiaoqin didn't say anything more. He picked up the wrapped herbs and quickly walked out of the pharmacy. After Xiaoqin left, Hong Yin turned to look at the old man. "Grandpa Qin, what is this bitter fruit? Why have I never heard of it?" "Miss Yin, because this bitter fruit is not very common and the person who bought the medicine doesn't need it, I didn't put it out." The old man actually changed the way he addressed Hong Yin. If Xiaoqin was present, he would be extremely surprised. It turned out that this old man and Hong Yin weren't actually grandfather and granddaughter. The old man's surname was Qin, and Hong Yan's surname was Hong. Then the person who bought it just now. Hong Yin was a little confused. "Grandpa Qin, what is the use of this bitter fruit?" "I'm not sure about the specific use. Perhaps this thing is originally not something that people of my level can come into contact with," Grandpa Qin said with a bitter smile. "Grandpa Qin, so you were lying to him before?" Hong Yin looked at the old man strangely. Previously, the old man wanted to get information from Xiaoqin, but he didn't expect that Grandpa Qin didn't know about the use of the bitter fruit. Hee, I can't say that I'm lying. At least I know a few prescriptions that require bitter fruits. It's just that I don't know the specific uses of these prescriptions. Grandpa Chin said, I've seen some of the herbs in the prescription that the young man brought before in other prescriptions. Because I don't know the use of this prescription, I want to ask about it. I see. Hong Yen nodded. Grandpa Chin is really a profiteer. Haha, Miss Yen, in our line of work, profit comes first. Grandpa Chin laughed. Then why did Grandpa Chin give him a discount? Hong Yen found it a little unbelievable. It can be considered an investment, Grandpa Chin said. Hong Yen nodded as she didn't really understand. Xiao Chen was carrying a bag of priceless medicine. The pocket on his body was deflated. The remaining 200 yuan was given by Miss Yen. Xiao Chen could only be frugal with this money. Originally, Xiao Chen wanted to go to the electronics store to buy an electric clay pot for decocting medicine. However, when he saw the price of 299 yuan, Xiao Chen's mouth twitched. He didn't have enough money to buy it. He could only go back and discuss with Yi Xiaoya if he could borrow her electric clay pot for himself. Elder Heaven Ancestor, isn't the prescription you gave me a bit too expensive? Xiao Chen said with a bitter smile. Who knows what the prices are like now? Moreover, I rarely buy things in the secular world. Elder Heaven Ancestor didn't expect that the medicine he listed would cost so much money. It made Xiao Chen so embarrassed. Forget it, it seems that I have to find a way to earn some money. I just bought one set and I'm already broke. There's still a long way to go before I can buy 5 sets. Xiao Chen sighed. To be honest, Xiao Chen didn't have any concept of money in the past. But now, a penny really stumped a hero. It wasn't that Xiao Chen didn't think about borrowing money from Zhuing Xiong, but Xiao Chen knew that Zhuing Xiong didn't usually have a lot of pocket money. Although if Xiao Chen asked, Zhuing Xiong would definitely help Xiao Chen, but Zhuing Xiong would definitely ask Xiao Chen what he needed the money for. At that time, Xiao Chen didn't want to lie to his good brother, so he could only give up for the time being. Xiao Chen, this isn't a problem of 5 sets. These 5 sets are only for those who have reached the 3rd level of qi refining stage. There will be more after that, and the medicine will be even rarer, so I'm afraid the price will be even more expensive, Elder Heaven Ancestor said. The most important thing is whether you can buy them or not. Really? Xiao Chen was stunned and then smiled bitterly. It seemed that his road to poverty had just begun. This made Xiao Chen feel that he should do something. He could borrow money from Zhuing Xiong once, but he couldn't borrow money endlessly, right? Not to mention that Zhuing Xiong didn't have that much. Even if Zhuing Xiong didn't ask once, twice, or 3 times, how could he not ask? With a depressed face, Xiao Chen walked into the classroom. Before buying the medicine, it took some time, so Xiao Chen almost stepped into the classroom when the class bell rang. Originally, when Lu Jinming saw that Xiao Chen didn't come today, he was quite surprised. Then he guessed excitedly, did Vicious Wolf kill Xiao Chen first, and then he was killed by someone courageously? Thinking about it, it was not impossible. As for the fact that Xiao Chen's body was not found, perhaps Vicious Wolf had already disposed of the body, so it was impossible to find it in a short time. But now Xiao Chen appeared in the classroom intact, which made Lu Jinming's original excitement suddenly feel like being poured with cold water. Damn, this guy is actually fine? Lu Jinming murmured with a gloomy face. It seems that this guy is lucky. Brother Ming, we can only bear with this matter for now. Skinny Monkey also didn't have any good ideas. After all, he had already announced that the matter of Mongang sect was over. It was impossible to find trouble with Xiao Chen in a short time. Forget it. Let's not study this bumpkin anymore. How's the plan of saving the damsel in distress? Lu Jinming asked. I've talked to Mongang sect and he also said that he will cooperate with us. It's just that the guy is too stupid and I'm afraid that he will be in a daze. But with my help there shouldn't be any big problem, Skinny Monkey said. The most important problem now is that we don't have a chance. No chance? What chance? Lu Jinming was dumbfounded. Brother Ming, it's a chance to rob. Cheng Menjing goes to and from school with Jean Bebe every day, and she's driving. How can we rob her? If we try to stop a car, Jean Bebe, that tigress might really run us over. Skinny Monkey didn't dare to stop Jean Bebe's car. He hadn't lived long enough. Lu Jinming nodded. He didn't blame Skinny Monkey for being timid, but Jean Bebe really dared to do that. She died, then so be it. She couldn't even find a place to reason with her. The robber died because of a car crash and you still want to reason with her? If you go to the Jean family, not only will you be admitting that the robber was hired by Lu Jinming, but old Master Jean might not be reasonable either. With old Master Jin's personality, Even if he hacked Lu Jinming to death, his death would be in vain. Let's find a chance. Don't be hasty. Lu Jinming pondered for a moment and said, I don't believe that Jean Bebe will have a chance if she follows Cheng Menjing every day. Ask Mongang Sek to be ready. She will be here whenever I call her. Okay, Brother Ming. Skinny Monkey nodded. When Cheng Menjing saw that Xiao Chen walked into the classroom very late again, a hint of suspicion flashed in her eyes. Where did this guy go this time? Did he go to find Tang Tang again? But Tang Tang had been here for a long time. That was impossible. Cousin Menjing, are you thinking of my brother-in-law? Jean Bebe asked while eating a lollipop. Yeah, why do you think he came so late? Cheng Menjing said subconsciously, but after saying it, she quickly changed her words. Who would miss him? Come or not? Sister Menjing, you don't mean what you say. Jean Bebe said with a smile. Don't hit me. I understand. Cheng Menjing raised her hand and put it down helplessly. She glared at Jean Bebe and said, Eat your lollipop. Why did he come so late? Tang Tang was also curious. It was impossible for Xiao Chen to get up late. Cheng Menjing came earlier than her. It was impossible for Xiao Chen not to get up. I walked here, Xiao Chen said with a bitter smile. Walked here? Are you serious? You don't have money? Tang Tang immediately figured out the reason. You can't be so poor just because you treated us to a buffet yesterday, can you? You don't even have money to take the bus? It's not that bad. I do have money, but I just want to save some money. Xiao Chen said, By the way, Tang Tang, do you have any way to make money? You want to make money? Tang Tang was slightly stunned. She did not expect Xiao Chen to be short of money so soon. But after thinking for a while, she said in a low voice, You don't need much money for 3 meals a day, do you? You'd better stop working and focus on your studies. A young master like you is not the kind to suffer. I can take care of breakfast and lunch for you. You can't starve yourself for dinner with Cheng Menjing, can you? Xiao Chen took out the medicine bag from his pocket and waved it in front of Tang Tang. He told a white lie, I've been weak since I was a child and can't practice internal force. You know that, don't you? I have to take a lot of medicine every month and this is a big start. If I don't make money, I'm afraid I can't afford it at all. Tang Tang suddenly realized that Xiao Chen was weak and sick since he was a child was not a secret, so she was not surprised. I see. You don't need much money to buy medicine, do you? 1,000 yuan should be enough, right? I gritted my teeth and saved a little money and then I came out. Although Tang Tang said that she didn't care, she was calculating in her heart. From tomorrow on, she had to get up earlier and prepare more ingredients for soybean milk and deep-fried dough sticks. Otherwise, she wouldn't have much money left after deducting the rent and expenses. Xiao Chen's medical fee of 1,000 yuan really put her in a tight spot. Chapter 45. It doesn't matter. I'm not a young master. What I'm doing now is the work of a servant. Don't worry. I'm not as delicate as you think. Xiao Chen shook his head and smiled. Is there really no problem? Tang Tang just calculated that the profit from selling breakfast was not very big. After all, she couldn't set up a stall in the morning market all morning. Other people set up their stalls until 9 o'clock in the morning, but Tang Tang could only set up her stall until 7 o'clock and had to go to school. There were only 2 hours from 5 o'clock to 7 o'clock. No matter how busy Tang Tang was, she couldn't sell much. After all, her manpower was limited. Even if she prepared a lot of things, she couldn't sell them if she didn't have enough manpower. Therefore, under Xiao Chen's insistence, Tang Tang was also a little tempted. If Xiao Chen really came to help, not to mention that the income could be doubled, even if it was 1/3 more, Xiao Chen's 1,000 yuan would be easy. Of course not. Xiao Chen smiled and nodded. In fact, I've already thought it through. Otherwise, do you think I would be so happy every day as a servant of Miss Cheng? And with my original personality, Ma Gang men wouldn't be like this now. I'm afraid I would have to go to the hospital for a year and a half. Well, there is a way to make money now, but it depends on whether you can bear hardships. Tang Tang looked at Xiao Chen with some doubts. What is it? Xiao Chen was not afraid of hardships. Wasn't it hard to exercise every night for more than 10 years? But Xiao Chen also endured it. Outsiders didn't know how hard Xiao Chen could bear hardships. That's it. Tang Tang said and took out a bag from the desk, which was filled with fried dough sticks and soy milk. This breakfast for me? Xiao Chen was slightly stunned. Yes, from tomorrow on, go to the morning market with me to sell breakfast. Tang Tang said, now I rely on this to make money. I get up at 4 o'clock every morning, go to the morning market at 5 o'clock, and come to school at 7 o'clock. How about it? It's hard enough, right? Can you hold on? 4 o'clock. Xiao Chen's face showed a trace of embarrassment. It wasn't that Xiao Chen couldn't get up at 4 o'clock. On the contrary, Xiao Chen cultivated every night and didn't sleep at all. What Xiao Chen cared about was time. There wasn't much time to cultivate at night. Since he had to wake up at 4 o'clock, Xiao Chen would have 2 hours less cultivation time than usual. But thinking about it, for the sake of earning money, it was worth it. But how much money could he earn by selling breakfast? He probably wouldn't even earn 10,000 yuan a month, right? However, Xiao Chen had no other way to make money for the time being. He could only take it one step at a time. Although Xiao Chen was not a real playboy, he never thought about making money by himself. After all, the children of the aristocratic families thought about eating, drinking, and having fun every day, or how to cultivate internal strength. As for making money, the family business would be taken care of by the elders. It was not the time for them to think about it. To Xiao Chen's surprise, Tang Tang actually lived by selling breakfast. It seemed that Tang Tang's tuition and rent money came from her breakfast stall. Although he had been exercising every night for more than 10 years, when Xiao Chen knew that Tang Tang, who used to be a young lady, would sell soybean milk and fried dough sticks every day, he was really shocked. It turned out that he was not the only unfortunate one. Tang Tang was also. But she was very strong. It was hard for Xiao Chen to imagine that a girl would go to the morning market street to sell breakfast at 4 o'clock in the morning and come to school at 7 o'clock. How are you? Can't get up? Tang Tang looked at Xiao Chen and showed an expression of, I knew it. It's not that I can't get up, but I'm afraid that the young lady at home won't be happy if I leave so early. Xiao Chen shrugged and found an excuse for his hesitation just now. After all, I'm her manservant, right? I won't say anything if you work for her for free, but you're holding up your own money. You're simply a slave owner. Why don't you resign and we work alone? Tang Tang said indignantly after listening. Xiao Chen couldn't help but laugh. Working alone? That's not very good, right? No matter what, it was Miss Cheng who helped me transfer here. I should also be grateful, right? Forget it. Are you going or not? Tang Tang thought that Xiao Chen still liked Cheng Menjing. If Xiao Chen didn't like Cheng Menjing, why did he work for her for free? In any case, Xiao Chen was also a young master. When did he do such a thing? The only explanation was that Xiao Chen was infatuated, so he was willing to be Cheng Menjing's manservant. Tang Tang didn't know about the past of Xiao Chen's pursuit of Xin Jingxian and Kerlin, so she naturally misunderstood. So thinking of this, although Tang Tang felt that Xiao Chen wasn't worth it, she didn't say anything more. I'll go. Xiao Chen nodded. I'll go tomorrow. What do you need me to do? You don't have to do anything. I made the soybean milk at home. As for the fried dough sticks, I'll fry them. You learn a little. When you learn it, we'll cooperate. The faster we go, the more money we earn. Tang Tang said. Okay, where should I go to find you tomorrow morning? Asked Xiao Chen. It's the noodle shop where you took us to have a buffet yesterday. The street behind it is the morning market street. I set up my stall there every day. Tang Tang said, if you can't find me tomorrow morning, you can call me. Xiao Chen nodded and wrote down the address. Then he said, I'll be there on time tomorrow morning. Then I'll wait for you. Tang Tang smiled and said, Xiao Chen, don't let me down. I won't. Xiao Chen didn't talk about the distribution of benefits with Tang Tang, because Xiao Chen knew that Tang Tang would never treat him badly. Xiao Chen and Tang Tang's whisper was not loud, but it also attracted the attention of Zheng Xiaoquan in the front row. Hey, what are you two talking about mysteriously? You're so low that I can't hear you? Zheng Xiaoquan was not a cultivator. His six senses were not as strong as Xiao Chen's, so he didn't hear clearly what Xiao Chen and Tang Tang had said before. Xiao Chen said that he would sell breakfast with me tomorrow, said Tang Tang. Ah. Zheng Xiaoquan was slightly stunned. He didn't expect that Xiao Chen would sell breakfast with Tang Tang. In fact, Zheng Xiaoquan had always wanted to get up early to set up his stall with Tang Tang, but the Zheng Family Martial Arts Club had a rule that all the disciples of the Zheng family must participate in morning exercises, and Zheng Xiaoquan was no exception. This also made it impossible for him to sell breakfast, so he couldn't help but feel a little envious after hearing it. I really want to play with you, but there's no way. My family has a rule that I have to get up early to exercise. Zheng Xiaoquan thought that Xiao Chen didn't know about the internal energy, so he didn't say too much and just said that he had to get up early to exercise. This is not playing, it's making money. Tang Tang sighed and said, Xiaoqun is very short of money, unlike you, young Master Zheng, who has food and drink at home. Zheng Xiaoqun smiled bitterly. Sometimes he was very envious of Xiaoqun. Being poor also had its advantages. Although he and Tang Tang were also best friends, he always felt that there was something missing between them. In the past, before Tang Tang became what she was now, she was still Yu Xiaoquan's fiancée. At that time, Zheng Xiaoqun felt that Tang Tang was unattainable in his eyes. Although the Zheng family was also one of the aristocratic families, there was a big gap between them and the Tang family. Later, the Zheng family was replaced by the Lu family, and Zheng Xiaoqun felt that the gap between his and Tang Tang's identity was too big. However, when Tang Tang became fat, the marriage was broken off by the Yu family, and she left the Tang family. Zheng Xiaoqun sadly found that there seemed to be a barrier between him and Tang Tang. Tang Tang became ordinary and had to run around every day to make money. In Tang Tang's eyes, he became a young master. In fact, Zheng Xiaoqun didn't want to be a young master. He would rather be like Xiaoqun, an ordinary poor student. With a sigh, Zheng Xiaoqun said with a smile, "First of all, I wish you a great fortune. I will definitely go to support you when I have time. However, before that, you must bring me some fried dough sticks and soy milk that you can't sell every day." "Of course, no problem. I'm a foodie." Tang Tang laughed. In fact, how could Tang Tang not see Zheng Xiaoqun's feelings? However, she was Yu Xiaoquan's fiancée before, so she didn't think in this direction at all. Although the two were classmates since childhood and could be regarded as childhood sweethearts, Tang Tang was engaged and only regarded Zheng Xiaoqun as a brother. Now Yu Xiaoquan broke off the engagement, and Tang Tang became ugly. Although she was free, it was difficult for Tang Tang to regard Zheng Xiaoqun as a brother again. Moreover, she didn't think that the Zheng family could marry her as a daughter-in-law. Zheng Xiaoqun could only shrug helplessly. Although he was smiling, his smile was full of helplessness. However, sometimes he also thought that even if Tang Tang was not engaged now, his father would certainly not accept her. Tang Tang's entangled relationship with the Yu family, as well as Tang Tang's current identity that was neither high nor low, had become an obstacle to this marriage. Although the Zheng family was not an aristocratic family now, it had not been hurt to the core. It was the time to recuperate. What the Zheng family needed was a beneficial marriage that could bring the Zheng family back to glory, not a marriage like Tang Tang's, which had little to do with the Tang family. Of course, with Zheng Xiaoquan's character, if he forced her to do so, the Zheng family would have to agree. After all, Tang Tang was not a girl from an ordinary family. Even if she nominally broke off the relationship with the Tang family, it was impossible to let her go. However, at that point, the Zheng family situation would be even more difficult. This was not what Zheng Xiaoqun wanted to see, unless his strength improved by leaps and bounds, reached the third stage of the inner force, and became the leader of the younger generation. If he set foot in the third stage of the inner force before the age of 20, he would have the opportunity to be apprenticed to a master. Once he was chosen by those masters, his future would be meteoric. The first to the third stage of the inner force was the cultivation of the foundation. At this time, no body-strengthening elixir was allowed. Once used, it would not reflect the martial artist's own qualifications. Those masters could also see if a person used elixir during cultivation. If he used elixir, then he would be directly eliminated. Chapter 46. That was also the reason why it was not easy to cultivate the first 3 levels of internal force. Those who could cultivate internal force hoped to cultivate to the 3rd level of internal force before the age of 20. In this way they would embark on the road of glory. Once they succeeded in cultivating, they would be valued by the family or sect where the senior was from. Their future would be even more limitless. Even if they could not meet the requirements, they would be martial artists at the 7th, 8th, or even 9th level of internal force when they came back. Just like Xiao Feng and Qing Zhongming in those days, they had learned from one master, and now they were all first-class martial artists when they came back. Zheng Xiaoqun also had this goal. First, it was for the Zheng family, and second, it was for himself and Tang Tang. As long as he was valued by those masters and seniors, the Zheng family would be able to regain its glory after he came back. The day passed by uneventfully. Miss Su and Jean Beibei drove away, and Xiao Qin, Tang Tang, and Zheng Xiaoqun walked out of the school gate together. "Xiao Qin, don't forget our agreement. I'll meet you at the morning market street at 5 o'clock tomorrow morning. If you don't go, don't blame me for looking down on you." Tang Tang waved at Xiao Qin. "Don't worry, I'll definitely go." Xiao Qin nodded and waved at Zheng Xiaoqun. Xiaoquan, I'll bring you breakfast tomorrow. Eh. Jing Xiaoquan smiled, but his heart was full of bitterness. However, there were some things that could not be forced. Damn it. Looking at Xiao Chen's back, Lu Jinming's eyes were full of displeasure and unwillingness. How could he just let this guy go like this? Watching him swagger away, Lu Jinming felt that it was a kind of mockery of him, a mockery of his ability. If I don't kill this guy, I'll feel uncomfortable when I see him. If this goes on, I'll have a heart attack. What's wrong, Lu Zi? You're cooked? Yu Xiaochuan's voice rang out. Seeing Lu Jinming's red face, which was like a cooked pig head, Yu Xiaochuan walked over and asked. Young Master Yu, don't mention it, isn't it because of that country bumpkin Xiaoqin? Yesterday I sent out a fugitive to kill him. In the end, before he could even see Xiaoqin, he was already killed by a busybody inner force expert who acted bravely for a just cause. Lu Jinming's voice was full of unwillingness. As he spoke, he told Yu Xiaochuan about what happened yesterday. There was no need to hide this kind of thing. Yu Xiaochuan could probably investigate it himself. What the hell? Is that even possible? Yu Xiaochuan was shocked after hearing this. He secretly thought that Lu Jinming was really unlucky. He could even die like this. Lu, since you can't do it, do you want me to help you? En? Lu Jinming was slightly stunned and then he was overjoyed. Yes, he couldn't do anything to Xiao Chen because of the rules of the underworld, but it didn't mean that others couldn't. If Yu Xiaochuan wanted to do something to Xiao Chen, it was Yu Xiaochuan's business. It had nothing to do with Lu Jinming. Okay, young Master Yu, if you help me kill this Xiao Chen, I will be at your beck and call in the future. I can't kill him. If he provokes me, I can teach him a lesson. But if I kill him, others will say that I'm narrow-minded. Yu Xiaochuan waved his hand and said, okay, you don't have to worry about this. Let me think about how to do it first. Okay, thank you, young Master Yu. Lu Jinming watched Yu Xiaochuan leave and spat on the ground with disdain. Damn, a whore still wants to have a chastity. What a hypocrite. But it's good to teach Xiao Chen a lesson. At least it can calm the hatred in my heart. Yu Xiaochuan was actually a hypocrite. He did bad things, but he didn't want others to say it. This was the style of the Yu family. It was said that Yu Xiaochuan worshipped Yu Buchuan in the smiling, proud wanderer, since he was a child. He took him as his idol and wanted to become someone like Yu Buchuan one day. And his previous name was not Yu Xiaochuan, but Yu Xiaoxing X. As for what his name was, not many people knew. When he was very young, he changed his name to Yu Xiaochuan, which meant that he was the juvenile version of Yu Buchuan. The reason why Yu Xiaochuan helped Lu Jinming was not because he had a grudge with Xiao Chen, but because he wanted to rope in Lu Jinming. He would be in charge of the Yu family in the future. At that time, if Lu Jinming was his underling and also supported him, then the Yu family's influence in the other families would rise. Xiao Chen still didn't take a car. Instead, he ran in the direction of the villa area. Yesterday he met two pursuers. Today he probably wouldn't be so unlucky to meet them again. As expected, nothing happened along the way. When he passed by the pharmacy that morning, Xiao Chen subconsciously stopped in his tracks and took a look inside. In the end, he saw Hong Yan's elegant figure. She was currently sitting behind the counter, quietly reading a book. She was filled with a classical beauty, just like a lady from a wealthy family in ancient times. However, just as Xiao Chen was looking at Hong Yan suddenly raised her head and looked outside the window of the pharmacy. She also saw Xiao Chen and smiled at him. It was as if his peeping had been discovered. This made Xiao Chen a little ashamed. Fortunately, Xiao Chen's skin was thick after all these years. Even a machine gun couldn't penetrate it. He also smiled at Hong Yan, then waved his hand and left the pharmacy. Hong Yan blinked her eyes and put down the book in her hand. The impression that Xiao Chen gave her was very special. Although this boy also liked her beauty, and although he didn't hide it, it didn't make people feel disgusted. In comparison, the so-called young talents that she met in the past made Hong Yan feel that they were especially hypocritical. Miss Yan, don't get too close to this person, but don't deliberately alienate him. At this time, Grandpa Chen's voice sounded behind Hong Yan. Hong Yan's face slightly blushed. She was startled by Grandpa Chen's words. She was a little embarrassed. Grandpa Chen, I just feel that he is very special. It is special. It is because he is special that we shouldn't get too close to him. The level that we are in is already very high. However, in this world there is still a level of people that we can't afford to offend. Normally we also won't interact with them. Grandpa Chen said seriously. What level is that? Hong Yan was slightly stunned and asked. I also don't know. It is just a legend. Grandpa Chen said, However, Miss Yin might be able to come into contact with it in the future. This old man is only your first teacher. I still can't come into contact with those things. After listening to Grandpa Chen's words, Hong Yin was a little lost in thought. No matter how she looked at it, Xiao Chen was a student. What kind of special identity would he have? Xiao Chen left the pharmacy. When he passed by the convenience store, he went to buy a few packets of instant noodles and some small side dishes like braised eggs. Then he quickly ran home. Today, not long after Cheng Minjing arrived home, she saw that Xiao Chen had returned. She looked at the time and remembered that Xiao Chen came back nearly an hour later than today. She suddenly became a little unhappy. Xiao Chen, where did you go yesterday? You also bought instant noodles today. Why did you come back so soon? I say, miss, yesterday I was bargaining with someone. After dawdling for an hour, they only gave me 30 cents. Today, because I am a repeat customer, they automatically gave me 30 cents. Xiao Chen said with a bitter face. Thinking that the money in his pocket was getting less and less, Xiao Chen suddenly had an idea and came up with such an excuse. Yesterday you delayed for an hour just to save 30 cents? Cheng Minjing felt a little unbelievable. Of course, I say, miss, you also know how poor I am now. I don't have an income, but I can't just sit around and eat. Xiao Chen spread his hands and said, even instant noodles are not cheap. These things every day cost 30 to 40 yuan. You only gave me 100 yuan. Don't mention taking a taxi, I even saved the bus fare. I walked back on foot. Pooh? Cheng Minjing looked at Xiao Chen's miserable appearance and couldn't help but laugh. Really? Are you exaggerating as much as you say? You actually walked back? Yes, I am. Xiao Chen sighed and said, this convenience store is between the school and the villa area. I can't buy it even if I take a taxi. Are you really Xiao Chen Xiao Chen? Cheng Minjing stopped laughing and finally believed Xiao Chen's words. Where is the 10,000 yuan that Jingsheng gave you? In case of emergency. Xiao Chen couldn't say that he bought the medicine. He could lie to Tang Tang, but he couldn't lie to Mississippi. As the former fiancé of Miss, some of his common information was probably already on Miss's desk. She knew clearly whether he took the medicine regularly or not. Moreover, although Miss was on his side, she was a member of the Qing family after all. It was not that Miss would betray him, but he was afraid that Miss would be tricked by the elders of the family because of her simple character. If that happened, it would be in vain. Miser. Miss rolled her eyes at Xiao Chen and said, from tomorrow on, I will increase your food expenses by 50 yuan. You don't have to pay for it. 50. All right. Xiao Chen sighed and thought to himself, you're the one who's a miser. But it's better than nothing. Looking at Xiao Chen's discontented look, Cheng Minjing was a little angry. If it were not for fear that the Qing family would find out that she gave Xiao Chen money, she would give Xiao Chen 100,000 yuan, so what? But she brought Xiao Chen to the villa as a servant to torture Xiao Chen, not to give him money to enjoy. Cheng Minjing didn't believe that the Qing family would not investigate. If Xiao Chen was well-fed and had a good life, then Xiao Chen would not have a few good days. Here, this is for today and tomorrow's bus fare. Cheng Minjing opened her wallet, took out 200 yuan bills and handed them to Xiao Chen. Xiao Chen took it and put it in his pocket without standing on ceremony. Then he said, there's one more thing. I might have to leave early tomorrow morning. However, I'll put the instant noodles in the lunchbox, add the seasoning and boil the hot water. You can just make it in the morning. What are you going to do? Cheng Minjing was slightly surprised. I am going to sell breakfast and earn some extra money. Xiao Chen smiled. You? To sell breakfast? Cheng Minjing was scared by Xiao Chen. Where are you going to sell it? There is a morning market street near the school. I'm going to buy fried dough sticks and soy milk there. Xiao Chen said. You're going by yourself? Cheng Minjing didn't expect that Xiao Chen would make such a request, and it was a little difficult for her to respond for a while. No, Tang Tang has been there for a long time. I'm going to help. Don't worry. Xiao Chen said. As soon as she heard the two words Tang Tang, she didn't know why she was inexplicably angry. She stood up with her hands on her waist and stared at Xiao Chen. Xiao Chen, are you going to rebel? It's not like I'm not giving you money. Why are you selling breakfast? Don't you know that you are my exclusive servant? Chapter 47. Xiao Chen didn't know why Cheng Minjing suddenly got angry. He was a little puzzled, but she was the first Mississippi. After a moment of silence, Xiao Chen said, well, I'll go at 4 o'clock and come back at 7 o'clock to cook for you. I won't be late. You? Cheng Minjing was even more annoyed by Xiao Chen's answer. She was not an unreasonable person. Go out at 4 o'clock and come back at 7 o'clock? However, she didn't know how to refute him. At this moment, the first missed Jean Bebe a little. If this little devil was here, she should have a way to deal with Xiao Chen, right? Now she could only stamp her feet and snort, "Do whatever you want. You don't have to come back. I'm not that delicate. However, you've delayed my meal. 50 yuan will be deducted from your food expenses. From the day after tomorrow, I won't pay you any more." After being deducted 50 yuan by the first miss, Xiao Chen could only smile bitterly. He shook his head and walked into the kitchen to boil some instant noodles. Yi Xiaoya was still preparing the medicine in the kitchen. However, it was obvious that she didn't intend to boil it in the kitchen. She would take it upstairs after setting the proportion and filling the water. Seeing Yi Xiaoya, Xiao Chen suddenly remembered that he still needed her help, so he said to her, "Yi Xiaoya, can you lend me your electric clay pot? What are you going to do with it?" Yi Xiaoya looked at Xiao Chen strangely. "I'm also going to boil medicine," Xiao Chen said. There would be a smell of medicine when boiling medicine. Even if one was locked in a room, there would be a slight smell. This couldn't be deceived. Of course, Xiao Chen wouldn't say that he was going to use it for cultivation. He just said, "I haven't been feeling well recently, so I bought some medicine." No. Yi Xiaoya looked at Xiao Chen strangely and shook her head coldly. "I have money to buy it. I don't need yours." Xiao Chen smiled bitterly and said, "I'm just going to use it once." Xiao Chen had the 200 yuan that the first miss just gave him in his pocket. Together with the money he had before, he could buy an electric clay pot. "Don't you know that medicinal materials can't be mixed and boiled? My clay pot has boiled my medicinal materials. If I boil your medicine, there will be problems. That's not good for both of us." Yi Xiaoya explained, "My herbs are priceless and each set is expensive. You won't be able to pay for it if you break it." But Yi Xiaoya didn't lie. "My medicinal materials are very expensive. You can't afford it. You can't afford it." Xiao Chen said. Xiao Chen said. Xiao Chen said. Xiao Chen. You Xiao Chen dozens. "Well, I'm sorry. I don't know about this. I'll buy one myself." Xiao Chen could only postpone the plan for another day. "I still have a new one that I haven't used. You can use it. You buy the same one and give it back to me." Yi Xiaoya looked at Xiao Chen and said lightly, "Thank you," Xiao Chen said gratefully. He didn't expect Yi Xiaoya to lend it to him. "It's nothing." After Yi Xiaoya mixed her medicinal materials, she took the clay pot upstairs and said, "Come with me." Xiao Chen followed Yi Xiaoya upstairs. Cheng Minjing looked at Xiao Chen with a strange expression. She heard the conversation between Xiao Chen and Yi Xiaoya in the kitchen. She was just puzzled. Why is Xiao Chen not feeling well? Is it because he is tired of walking to and from school every day? Was she being too harsh on him? Thinking of this, Cheng Minjing felt a little ashamed in her heart, but she suddenly changed her mind. Something is wrong. That day in the gym, Xiao Chen was very vigorous. His body looked good. He beat Ma Gang men until he was looking for his teeth on the ground. It didn't seem like there was a problem with his body at all. Is he using the electric clay pot for other things? The miss subconsciously opened the backpack that Xiao Chen threw on the sofa when he came back. She rummaged in it and really found a bag of medicinal materials. This time it seems that Xiao Chen is really going to boil the medicine. Is he really not feeling well? Cheng Minjing wanted to care about it, but she gave up after thinking about it. She didn't want Xiao Chen to misunderstand that she still liked him. No, she had never liked him at all. Xiao Chen followed Yi Xiaoya to the door of her room. Xiao Chen was about to follow, but he saw Yi Xiaoya turn around and say to Xiao Chen, "Don't come over. Just stand here and wait for me." Obviously, Yi Xiaoya didn't want Xiao Chen to see her room, so she asked Xiao Chen to stop. However, Xiao Chen wasn't a voyeur. Although he was curious about Yi Xiaoya's room, he still stood in place. Yi Xiaoya entered the room and closed the door. After a while, she came out with a paper box and handed it to Xiao Chen. "Here, remember the model and brand. I want the same." "Thank you." Xiao Chen took the paper box, but when he saw the price tag on the paper box, his mouth suddenly twitched twice. Motherf *Ker, 999 yuan. In the past, when Xiao Chen saw the slogan of 999 yuan on the TV shopping, Xiao Chen thought that what good things could he buy with 999 yuan? But now 999 yuan was a sky-high price for Xiao Chen. My herbs have very high requirements for the temperature and material of the clay pot. Only this kind of clay pot can do it. The other ones aren't good and waste the herbs. Yi Xiaoya seemed to see through Xiao Chen's mind. She explained, "Of course you don't have to use it. Tomorrow you can buy a cheaper one." At the farmer's market you might not even need it 99%. Xiao Chen's heart was slightly shocked. Luckily I spoke too much and borrowed an electric clay pot from Yi Xiaoya. If I blindly buy one, wouldn't I be blind to my herbs? One had to know that his medicinal ingredients were also very precious and had great uses. Thinking of this, Xiao Chen quickly said, "When I earn enough money, I will return it to you." "Qing Minjing doesn't give you a salary?" Yi Xiaoya nodded and asked casually. "Oh, our relationship is more complicated. It's not easy to explain in a few words." Xiao Chen shrugged. "Oh." Yi Xiaoya apparently didn't want to get to the bottom of it, but she seemed to have some contempt for Xiao Chen. She responded and didn't say anything. She turned around and went back to the room. Xiao Chen took the electric clay pot downstairs. When he saw that his backpack was opened, he was slightly surprised. As for the Missy, she didn't mean to be sneaky at all. "Why did you buy medicine? Is there really something wrong with your body?" Although Qing Minjing thought it was a bit unbelievable, it was true that Xiao Chen bought medicinal herbs and borrowed the electric clay pot, so Qing Minjing was a little puzzled. She finally couldn't help but ask. "It's not a big deal. During this period of time, I have great joy and sorrow. It's an emotional problem. These medicines soothe the liver and the stomach." Xiao Chen explained casually. "Oh." Qing Minjing nodded. "I thought you adapted well." "Aha, there is a process to adapt," Xiao Chen said with a smile. "I'm starving. When are you going to make instant noodles?" asked Qing Minjing. "The water is boiled. I'm going to get it now." Xiao Chen turned and walked to the kitchen. His heart was warm. The Missy and Yi Xiaoya's personalities were somewhat similar. They were cold on the outside but warm on the inside, and they both had a bit of a Missy's temper. Yi Xiaoya treated Xiao Chen well. The Missy also quietly cared about him, which made Xiao Chen feel that his current life was not bad. After making the instant noodles, Xiao Chen put it on the dining table and asked Qing Minjing to eat the noodles. Qing Minjing put down the TV remote control in her hand. She tidied the hair on her forehead, tied it up, and pinned it on a hair clip. This was the first time Xiao Chen saw a Missy without bangs. At the moment, Qing Minjing looked a little lazy and casual. It turned out that the goddess was also an ordinary person in her daily life. "What are you looking at? Have you never seen a beauty before?" Qing Minjing felt that Xiao Chen was staring at her. She felt a little uncomfortable being stared at. Xiao Chen shifted his gaze and smiled. "I realized that it was a mistake for me not to pursue you before. Humph. It's too late now." Although Qing Minjing said so, she was quite happy in her heart. She didn't know why Qing Minjing cared about Xiao Chen's affirmation. Was it because he was her ex-fiancé? Of course. Shen Jingxian and Kerlin aren't bad either. Xiao Chen said. "Playboy." Qing Minjing was just a little happy, but after listening to Xiao Chen's words, she became angry again. "Do you think you're the head of the Xiao family? You still want to have multiple wives and concubines? Even the head of an aristocratic family doesn't dare to marry me or Jingxian as a concubine." "Hee hee." Xiao Chen smiled. It was indeed like this. In an aristocratic family, although some men would have concubines in addition to the main wife, the concubines were usually ordinary people. It was impossible for them to be the Missy of an aristocratic family. "Mine doesn't taste good. I'll give it to you." Qing Minjing ate 2 mouthfuls of the instant noodles in the lunchbox and found that the taste was not to her taste. It was sweet and spicy. She didn't like it, so she directly exchanged the beef-flavored instant noodles that Xiao Chen hadn't eaten yet. Xiao Chen was a little speechless. He pointed at the instant noodles that the Missy had eaten and said, "Is this considered taking advantage of you? And I'll reluctantly let you take advantage of me." Qing Minjing went back yesterday and thought about it. In fact, what Yi Xiaoya said was also right. If this was considered as an indirect kiss, then was staying in the hotel considered as an indirect bed? Xiao Chen looked at Qing Minjing's appearance. It didn't seem like she was taken advantage of at all. She ate with relish. He was speechless. He picked up the chopsticks and ate the sweet and spicy noodles that the Missy had eaten that night. It really wasn't delicious. "I won't buy this flavor next time," Xiao Chen thought. With the Missy's saliva, Xiao Chen finished eating and went to wash the dishes. He didn't have any dirty thoughts in his heart. He had a good position for himself. Now it was unrealistic to flirt with Missy, so Xiao Chen simply didn't think about these things. After dinner, Missy continued to watch TV. Xiao Chen went back to his room to brew medicine. Brewing medicine in the room, Xiao Chen finally imagined how painful Yi Xiaoya was. The room was filled with a strong smell of medicine. Even if the window was opened, the smell wouldn't disperse for a long time. Moreover, according to the prescription of Elder Heaven Ancestor, this medicine needed to be brewed for 5 hours. One medicine could be brewed 3 times. In other words, Xiaoqin had to endure for 5 hours every day. Chapter 48. Fortunately, for the sake of strength, Xiaoqin could endure anything. After spending 5 hours in cultivation, the body-tempering potion was successfully brewed. Elder Heaven Ancestor, should I take it now? Xiaoqin heard the alarm of the electric clay pot, so he asked. This high-end electric clay pot was good. Not only could he set the temperature, but he could also set the time. There was no need to worry that it would run out of time. You can take it, but after taking it, you need to exercise your body and completely absorb the potency. Elder Heaven Ancestor said. Exercise? Don't I practice every day? Xiaoqin asked as he unplugged the electric clay pot and poured the potion inside into the bowl. Exercise is different from cultivation. Cultivation is to regulate breath, absorb the spirit of heaven and earth, and transform the essence of the sun and moon into yuan qi in the body. But exercise is to exercise the body, which is the so-called martial artist's cultivation method. Elder Heaven Ancestor said. Oh, that is to say, I need to exercise in order to fully exert the potency of the potency? Xiaoqin asked. Yes. Elder Heaven Ancestor said, you will exercise the way you used to exercise. I don't need to tell you these things, right? I understand. Xiaoqin picked up the bowl of medicine and drank every single drop of the medicine into his stomach. Then he began to train his body just like how he trained his inner strength in the past. Before practicing inner strength, there was a set of body movements. Xiaoqin had practiced this set of body movements for more than 10 years. Although there was no progress, Xiaoqin still practiced for more than 10 years. Now he was very familiar with it. After drinking the potion, Xiaoqin began to dance in the room. It was inevitable to make noise when practicing. In the past, Xiaoqin was in the basement of his room so it wouldn't affect others, but it was different in the villa. The sound of banging suddenly attracted the attention of the Missy who was watching TV outside. Qing Minjing was disturbed by the sound of Xiaoqin. She directly pushed the door into Xiaoqin's room. When she saw Xiaoqin exercising, she couldn't help but be slightly surprised. She wanted to scold Xiaoqin for not disturbing her watching TV, but when she saw Xiaoqin exercising, Qing Minjing couldn't help but feel sad. Now Qing Minjing finally understood why Xiaoqin had the strength to defeat Mengmen. It turned out that Xiaoqin was exercising in his spare time. Qing Minjing was very familiar with this set of body movements because Qing Minjing had also practiced it. Seeing that Xiaoqin was very familiar with this set of body movements, Qing Minjing understood how hard Xiaoqin worked when there was no one around. It wasn't his fault that he couldn't practice inner strength. He had been working hard and never gave up. Qing Minjing thought, if I knew Xiaoqin was like this before, would I like him? Thinking of this, Qing Minjing couldn't help but shake her head. There was no if. It was impossible for me and Xiaoqin. It was meaningless to think about these things. Did you exercise every day before? Qing Minjing couldn't help but ask. That's all? Xiaoqin smiled and said, I was sweating after drinking the medicine just now, so I exercised a little. Oh. Qing Minjing didn't believe Xiaoqin's words, but she didn't expose him. She probably guessed that Xiaoqin wanted to be low-key, or Xiaoqin cared more about his face. After practicing for so many years, it was really shameful that he couldn't practice inner strength. So the miss didn't say anything. She closed the door and sat back on the sofa in the living room. After a few days of getting along, Qing Minjing's impression of Xiaoqin had changed greatly. The Xiaoqin that she saw next to her and the Xiaoqin that she heard before seemed to be two different people. Qing Minjing really couldn't imagine that Xiaoqin could walk to and from school just to save money. It was also hard to imagine that Xiaoqin actually haggled with the convenience store owner for an hour for a few cents. It was even harder to imagine that Xiaoqin actually wanted to go to the morning market to sell breakfast. Shaking her head, Qing Minjing didn't know who to believe was the real Xiaoqin, but Qing Minjing still understood the truth of seeing is believing. Rumors were rumors after all. What she saw was the truth. After continuously exercising for an hour, Xiaoqin could feel the meridians all over his body were warm. The medicine had spread throughout his body, giving Xiaoqin an indescribable warmth. He felt that his body seemed to be a lot lighter and his meridians were more robust. What surprised Xiaoqin the most was that on his body, there was a thick layer of sweat that looked like black oil with a fishy smell. Could it be that this was the legendary bone marrow cleansing? In the past, Xiaoqin had only heard of similar scenes in legends, But in his understanding, the people in his family didn't seem to use this kind of bone marrow cleansing to temper the body. Was it because they didn't know, or that martial artists didn't need to temper the body? These were things that Xiaoqin didn't know. After all, he wasn't a martial artist. His understanding of martial artists was only superficial. He wasn't even a level 1 inner force martial artist, so he didn't understand the world of martial artists at all. Elder Heaven Ancestor, is this the waste excreted from my body? Xiaoqin couldn't help but ask. Yes, it is. Now you can take a bath. Elder Heaven Ancestor said, this process, 3 days is a course of treatment, a total of 5 courses of treatment, and the first body tempering is completed. What you should think about now is how to make money to buy the remaining 4 sets of medicinal herbs. Thinking about the money to buy the medicinal herbs, Xiaoqin was a little depressed. With the meager income from selling breakfast, it was extremely difficult to collect the full price of 50,000 yuan for 1 set of medicinal herbs. Even with a discount price of 10,000 yuan, it was extremely difficult. However, Xiaoqin really didn't want to ask for it from Cheng Zhongming. Although he could ask for it, Xiaoqin didn't want to reveal his purpose and strength too early. Moreover, there should be a lot of people watching Cheng Zhongming. At least the Cheng family wasn't a monolithic block. If Cheng Zhongming could make the decision, he wouldn't have been kicked out of the Xiao family. Therefore he had to be careful. After taking a hot bath, Xiaoqin lay on the bed to rest. Without completing the body tempering process, Xiaoqin couldn't continue to cultivate. The 3rd level of the qi refinement stage was still far away, which made Xiaoqin a little anxious. The current situation had reached a certain degree of urgency. If Xiaoqin didn't have the strength to protect himself, it was very likely that he would die under the next wave of enemies' attack. Xiaoqin rolled out of the bed in a daze until 3 o'clock in the morning. After a simple wash, he went out of the room and went to the kitchen. He filled the electric kettle with water, plugged it in, set it to boil, and then put the instant noodles into a lunchbox. After adding seasoning, Xiaoqin remembered that Miss didn't like to eat dried vegetable buns, so he put it aside. After doing all this, Xiaoqin braved the darkness, left the villa, and quickly ran in the direction of the morning market street. At this moment, there was no bus, and Xiaoqin couldn't afford a taxi, so he could only walk. Fortunately, after entering the 2nd level of the qi refinement stage, Xiaoqin's physical strength and endurance were much better than before. It should be known that a level 2 inner force warrior was not a joke. It was equivalent to the explosive force of an ordinary person, which was twice the explosive force of an ordinary person. At this moment, Xiaoqin was much stronger than Xiaoqin when he ran back from Songlong Mountain on foot. When Xiaoqin ran to the morning market street, it was close to 4 o'clock in the morning, and the sky was gradually getting brighter. On the morning market street, all kinds of peddlers began to set up their stalls. Some sold vegetables and fruits, some sold chicken, duck, fish, eggs, and miscellaneous small goods. There were also some swindlers who sold dog meat with sheep's heads, such as satellite receivers that could receive hundreds of TV stations, magical detergents, mosquito repellents, and dog scares. Soon, in the stalls selling breakfast, Xiaoqin saw the chubby figure of Tang Tang. She was riding a tricycle alone, moving down the oil pan, gas tank, and noodle table from the tricycle one by one, and placing them in an open space. Xiaoqin quickly ran to help, and grabbed the gas tank from Tang Tang's hand. Xiaoqin? So early? Tang Tang was a little surprised to see Xiaoqin. She told Xiaoqin to come at 4 o'clock yesterday, but in fact she wanted Xiaoqin to get up at 4 o'clock. She didn't expect that Xiaoqin had arrived before 4 o'clock. Thinking about the villa area where Xiaoqin lived, which was not close to here, he should get up at least at 3 o'clock. How did you get here? Jogging. Xiaoqin set up the gas tank and helped Tang Tang set up the noodle table. He didn't know how to do other things, but he was good at manual work. Jogging? Tang Tang was a little shocked. She had thought that Xiaoqin's adaptability was strong enough, but she didn't expect that he could run to sell breakfast so early in the morning. Even she didn't have such perseverance, did she? I don't have a car and I can't call a taxi. I can't earn enough money. Xiaoqin spread out his hands and said, "Don't look at me like that. I usually run back after school every night. I'm used to it and I'll save as much as I can." Xiaoqin, I admire you a little now. You are a real man. Tang Tang said with a sigh. A real man? It sounds like the name of a health product. If you weren't my buddy, your words would really be misunderstood. Xiaoqin joked. In front of Tang Tang, Xiaoqin was very open and had no pressure. Ah yes, we are buddies. Tang Tang nodded, pointed to the oil barrel in the car and said, "Help me pour the oil." Okay. Xiaoqun picked up the oil barrel with one arm and began to pour oil into the oil pan. The oil barrel was made of iron, and the soybean oil in it weighed 100 pounds. Xiaoqun lifted it with one arm without any effort, which made Tang Tang a little surprised. I didn't expect that your arm strength is so strong. If I said that I practiced on the plane, would you believe me? Xiaoqun laughed. Facing Qing Menjing's photo? Tang Tang was really a tough woman. She could even answer such a question. How is that possible? Xiaoqun coughed twice. It's better to show your photo. Your taste is really heavy? Tang Tang naturally didn't believe it. She pouted, but she wasn't angry. Chapter 49. After the oil pan was set up, it was preheated on the side. Tang Tang began to knead the dough skillfully, and then made the dough into the shape of fried dough sticks. She said to Xiaoqun, "Do you understand? The process of kneading the dough is not difficult. You learn it first. The main thing is the heat of frying. I'll do it. We'll talk about it when you're proficient." Okay. Xiaoqun was now a cultivator, and his 6 senses had been greatly improved. It was easy for him to remember Tang Tang's kneading steps. When Tang Tang began to fry the first batch of fried dough sticks, Xiaoqun began to knead the dough. At the beginning of kneading the dough, Xiaoqun tried his best to do it according to Tang Tang's method. But after Xiaoqun kneaded the dough a few times, he unexpectedly found that he seemed to have a spiritual communication with the dough in his hand. This situation was very mysterious. In short, Xiaoqun could feel the dough in his hand and how to knead it best. This made Xiaoqun shocked. He thought it was his illusion. But looking at the dough in his hand, it was more plump than Tang Tang's, and the shape of the fried dough sticks was also very uniform, which made Xiaoqun very surprised. Elder Heaven Ancestor, is this the ability of a cultivator? Xiaoqun recovered from his shock. He immediately thought of the fact that his 6 senses had been enhanced, so he quickly asked. Of course, but it's the first time I've seen someone cook with the ability of a cultivator. Elder Heaven Ancestor said teasingly, cultivators are extremely high-end existences. Who would have nothing to do to cook? I'm forced to do this. Xiaoqun was thick-skinned. By the way, so I have a talent for cooking? It's not that you have a talent for cooking. It's that your ability to accept new things is much stronger than ordinary people. Because your 6 senses are strong, you can perceive the changes in food very well, and it's the same for other things. Elder Heaven Ancestor explained. I see. Xiaoqun didn't think there was anything wrong with his cooking. On the contrary, he was quite happy. Originally, he thought he would have to learn for a few days before he could master it. After all, he had never done it before. But now it seemed that he could cook better than Tang Tang. Did you do this? Tang Tang looked at Xiaoqun incredulously, her eyes almost popping out. Did you knead this dough? Did you make these deep-fried dough sticks? Yeah. Xiaoqun nodded. Xiaoqun, don't tell me that you used to be a stall owner. Tang Tang threw the fried dough sticks made by Xiaoqun into the frying pan. The fried dough sticks were plump and uniform. Tang Tang's craftsmanship was good, but it was just practice makes perfect. Plus, she was more hardworking, so the fried dough sticks she made were the best-selling ones in the morning market. However, when Xiaoqun's fried dough sticks came out of the frying pan, there were obviously more people waiting in line. There was no other reason. The deep-fried dough sticks were too tempting and they looked good. Not only that, but Xiaoqun's speed of making it was also fast. After all, Xiaoqun was now equivalent to a second-level inner force warrior. His strength was greater than Tang Tang's, which greatly reduced the kneading time. Coupled with the perception of divine sense, Xiaoqun avoided detours and repeated kneading steps when kneading the dough, so he had a great advantage in speed. Looking at Xiaoqun's hands constantly producing deep-fried dough sticks, Tang Tang and her customers were shocked. Isn't this speed a little too fast? Xiaoqun's speed was fast and Tang Tang's speed was also fast. After all, Tang Tang's frying pan was relatively large. In the past, Tang Tang kneaded the dough and fried the deep-fried dough sticks by herself, so the speed was naturally slow. But today Xiaoqun kneaded the dough and Tang Tang fried the deep-fried dough sticks. The speed naturally increased, but even so, it was still in short supply. It was true that today's deep-fried dough sticks were exceptionally good, but there was often a phenomenon in the market that the stall with more people would have more and more people. Everyone liked to join in the fun. When they saw that there was a queue for something, they would go to see what it was. This was also the reason why Tang Tang's breakfast stall had a long queue. Tang Tang originally held the idea of helping Xiaoqun. Even if he couldn't help, he planned to give a part of the profit to Xiaoqun. but now it seemed that it was a wise move to pull Xiaochen into the group. In just a short time, the number of deep-fried dough sticks sold was equivalent to the number of the usual morning. It was just that the deep-fried dough sticks needed to be leavened. Tang Tang didn't make so many noodles last night, so the leavened noodles she prepared were sold out quickly, and the customers were still queuing up. I'm sorry everyone. The noodles are sold out. I will prepare more tomorrow. If you didn't buy it, you can come back tomorrow. Tang Tang saw that there were still so many people queuing up, so she quickly cupped her fist and said to these customers. These people saw that Tang Tang's breakfast stall was sold out. Although they were somewhat unwilling, they still went to other breakfast stalls. Tang Tang and Xiaochen had already begun to close the stall. Well done, Xiaochen. I didn't know that you have this kind of talent. Tang Tang was surprised and delighted. In the past, the leavened noodles she prepared every morning were usually sold out. The rest, in addition to the breakfast she brought for Xiaochen and Jing Xiaoquan, were given to the old lady in a nearby grocery store who helped her store the car and equipment. But she didn't expect that it was only 6 o'clock today, and everything was sold out. How much money did you make? Asked Xiaochen. Excluding the cost, I can make more than 200 yuan of profit. Today is the day with the most profit. In the past, it was good to make 150 yuan. Tang Tang's face was full of satisfaction. Looking at her, it seemed that she was not the fair, rich and beautiful girl she used to be. Haha, not bad. Xiaochen was not like the previous Xiaochen who was happy to make money. He also knew that some things couldn't be rushed. At present he could make as much money as he could. It was useless to be anxious. Xiaochen helped Tang Tang to ride the tricycle and Tang Tang sat in the back of the car. It was quite like those couples on the street. Generally, the couples who did small business were this combination. The husband pedaled in front and the wife sat in the car. They went to the stall together and closed the stall together. When they came to the grocery store where Tang Tang usually stored the tricycle and equipment, the old lady of the grocery store had just opened. Seeing Tang Tang, she smiled and greeted her. Tang Tang, why did you close the stall so early today? Today there is one more person, so the sale is faster. It was sold out at 6 o'clock. Tang Tang pointed to Xiaochen and said, but there is no more left, auntie. There is no more left for you. Ah, it doesn't matter. I'm alone and can't eat much. If you give me some, I'll steam some steamed buns to eat. If not, I'll eat something else. I can't even use the money I earn from the grocery store. That's right. The auntie waved her hand and said with a smile, I'm happy that you can earn more money. Seeing a girl like you setting up a stall early in the morning, I'm heartbroken. Now that you have a boyfriend, I can help you. Ahi. Tang Tang, a girl, was a little shy because of the old lady's words. When she was about to explain, the old lady continued. Young man, Tang Tang is a good girl. Although she is a little fat, she is honest, knows how to live and can bear hardships. The old lady turned to Xiaochen and said earnestly, she is not like those gold diggers in society. She is good-looking, but she always begs to be friends with rich people. If she wants a boyfriend, she will find a tall, rich and handsome man. How can she live? Xiaochen listened to the old lady's words and didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He didn't expect the old lady to be so fashionable. She knew everything about rich people and tall, rich and handsome men. She was really fashionable. Xiaochen wanted to explain, but he was afraid that if he said it, Tang Tang's self-esteem couldn't stand it, so he nodded and said, Auntie, I know. This old lady is nagging again. Well, you have to go to school, right? I won't delay you. Go ahead. The old lady waved her hand and said to Xiaochen and Tang Tang. They said goodbye to the old lady and went out of the grocery store. Tang Tang said, Xiaochen, I'm a nagging person. Don't take it to heart. It's okay. Aren't we good buddies? It doesn't matter. Xiaochen smiled. That's true. I'm being unreasonable. Let's go to school. Tang Tang glanced at Xiaochen and asked, do you want to take the bus? Do you usually take the bus? Xiaochen asked. It's only one stop away from the school. It's not too far. I walk there. Tang Tang said, seeing that you are also a fan of the 11th route, let's go together. 11th route? Xiaochen was stunned. 2 ones. Isn't it similar to 2 legs? It's the 11th route. Tang Tang smiled and said, haven't you heard of it? This metaphor is quite high-end. It's the first time I've heard of it. Xiaochen used to drive himself or have a driver to go to school. He had never passed by the 11th route. The two walked to the school together. It was still early. However, just as they entered the school gate, Tang Tang suddenly stopped. I forgot to leave you some breakfast. You haven't eaten yet? Didn't you not eat either? Xiao Chen indeed didn't eat. There were so many people in line. He was embarrassed to leave a portion for himself. I'll consider it as losing weight. But with your appetite, if you don't eat, won't you starve to death at noon? Tang Tang looked at Xiao Chen and said, I'll buy you a few steamed buns. No, I'm not very hungry today. Xiao Chen found that when he didn't cultivate, the need for food was not as strong as before. He didn't cultivate yesterday, so he wasn't hungry at the moment. It was just that he was busy in the morning, so his stomach was a little empty. Why don't we be extravagant for once? Buy a bag of milk and a bread to eat Western food. Tang Tang thought about the money she earned today. She was a little happy, so she joked. She didn't wait for Xiao Chen to speak. She took Xiao Chen's hand and ran to the small supermarket near the school. Xiao Chen was slightly stunned. In fact, with his strength he could easily get rid of it, but it might be because the person holding him was Tang Tang. He didn't guard against it. If he was pulled by another girl, Xiao Chen would be very uncomfortable. Although he used to be a playboy, it was only on the surface. It was just for survival. When did he hold a girl's hand? You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.